This is Atomic Shinobi and today I'm going to narrate first part of What If Kid Naruto Meets Minato who was resurrected by Kami. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Almost no one was aware that even the gods were susceptible to gambling. Kami, Yami, Amaterasu, and Shinigami would get together every 6 months and spend a night playing poker for high settings. This particular poker night was part of Kami's plans. That Shinigami had stolen the soul of one of her finest human fighters greatly infuriated her. Furthermore, the avaricious jerk refused to return her soul. So she came up with a plan. She was in charge of an angel who was extremely unlucky when it came to gambling. When the bets reached the high regions, she would step in for her. The plan was ideal, indeed. Shinigami would be unaware of the shock. She only needed to tease him until he became so irritated that he would wager the soul she desired. And everything has gone as planned thus far. She was waiting for the call. She designated one of the archangels, Aohoshi, as her proxy and excused herself for a short while to handle the call. "Well, what's the bet?" inquired Aohoshi, who was fully aware of Kami's schemes. Shinigami said, "Well, we should wait for Kami to return." "Afraid Shinigami-sama?" inquired Aohoshi. She was sure to get what she wanted if she questioned the god's bravery. She thought, men are so predictable. Shinigami's pride was now on the line. "Never, Aohoshi. What did you think of?" "Well, if you win, I will go on the date with you. You asked me for the last 6 months. If I win, I get one of the souls under your mercy. And I can choose which one and you resurrect him or her for me." Shinigami considered the proposal. He was really looking forward to this date. This was the date she had consistently refused him. She was also among the most stunning women he had ever laid eyes on. Long, smooth brown hair. Green eyes that sparkle. A lovely C-cup breast and the ideal hourglass figure. Yes, the wager would be well worth it. "Okay, Aohoshi, I agree. Let's see who will win this game." Yami and Amaterasu agreed that this game would only be played between them. Yami dealt 5 cards to each person after shuffling the deck. Neither of the contestants' faces showed any signs of emotion. Shinigami declared, 2 new cards. Yami handed the cards over. "Please give me 1 new card," Aohoshi said. Her card arrived. Shinigami remarked, "Well, this is all or nothing, Aohoshi, show." With assurance, he extended his hand. A good hand is 4 queens. "I apologize for disappointing you, but I have won," she said, beaming. She opened her cards. From Jack of Diamonds to 7 of Diamonds, there is a straight flush. Shinigami sobbed, "No, that can't be true," as Amaterasu and Yami laughed. It was expected. When it came to gambling, no one could match Aohoshi's devil's luck. It was now that Kami came back. With innocent innocence, she inquired, "What did I miss?" "I won a bet with Shinigami-sama Kami-sama and know he will give a soul under his command free and resurrect the person. And I know who to choose. I'm tired to just watch how these damned villagers treat the little boy I'm tasked to watch. I therefore ask for the resurrection of Minato Namikaze. He is probably the only one able to sufficiently protect his son," Aohoshi replied. "I will bring him back to life, Aohoshi," Shinigami declared. A white light emerged as he extended his hand. The light formed slowly. A body appeared. Finally, a blond man with brilliant blue eyes stood there, a little lost. He said, "Where am I? In heaven, but that won't last long. To make a long story short, Shinigami-sama sucks at poker and lost to me. Therefore he had to resurrect you. I will take you back to your village," Aohoshi clarified. Minato interrupted, "Will I be able to see my son again?" Seeing the death god's pout, she grinned as she said, "He is the main reason I did this. I bet to go on a date with Shinigami-sama if I lost. He needs you. I have looked after him as his guardian angel for the last 3 years, since the sealing, but I can only do so much." Minato questioned, "I missed 3 years of his life?" Aohoshi and Kami both nodded. He inquired, "When can we go?" All Kami did was snap her fingers. Minato and Aohoshi were surrounded by a dazzling light. A short while later, Minato recognized the large wooden gate they were standing in front of. As he muttered, "The entrance gates of Konoha. I'm really back. I can't wait to see Naruto again." Aohoshi grinned. It was clear that Minato loved his son. "Where is he, Aohoshi? I want to see him as soon as possible," said Minato. Aohoshi stated, "He resides at the orphanage." Minato was perplexed. Wouldn't his son have been adopted by one of his old friends? "I can guess your question. Nobody besides the Sandame, Jiraiya and Tsunade knows about Naruto's heritage. And I will be honest. The village never respected your dying wish. Sarutobi had to tell the council of Naruto's burden, and the civilian side promptly screamed for Naruto's execution to get rid of Kyuubi. They see Naruto as the Kyuubi. The shinobi side is smarter. I highly suspect that Hiyashi knows that you are Naruto's father, and if Shikaku ever lays his eyes on Naruto he will know as well. Smart bastard that he is. Minato was enraged. He cried out, "They did what?" He was going to make sure they were in a lot of pain. There were 2 attempts to adopt Naruto from shinobi clans. The Sandaime tried to adopt him into the Sarutobi clan, and Hisashi tried to adopt him into the Hyuga branch house. I suspect Hiyashi to be behind it because he couldn't ask it for the main branch, as the damned Uchiha was one of the supporters of the execution idea. Minato snarled, "At least my best friend tried to help my son." Yes, he tried, but with the civilian council, the old teammates of Sarutobi and Danzo, who wants Naruto to become a weapon, thwarting all adoption attempts, there was no other choice than to give Naruto to the orphanage. And there the problems start. The council used the period before the Sandaime was reinstated after your death to increase their power and reduce that of the Hokage. Only a successor could change this. Corruption has taken foot at the council as the civilian side tries to influence shinobi decisions. The curriculum at the academy has been reduced to a level that civilian children can easily grasp. The quality of the shinobi is still high, but the next absolvents of the academy will be weaker. The fail rate of the Jonin senseis will increase dramatically, especially as Danzo takes in every talented orphan to his personal orphanage and trains them to become his root agents. Senseless killer machines. He says permanently that it is a grave mistake to lower the level of the academy. Only point the old warmonger is right about. If a war broke loose, the genin wouldn't stand a chance of surviving. Konoha will have a lot of problems if this continues. The people seem to forget that Orochimaru is still out there, and you know Madara is still alive. That is a dangerous mix. Aohoshi explained the situation. I know, and I will do everything to prepare Konoha for this, but first I will get my son, raise hell upon the council, and will make sure that Naruto grows up loved as he always should have been. By the way, which date is it? The 27th of December, was Aohoshi's response. Just after Christmas. Well, I think my return will be a late Christmas present for my son then. Perhaps I should go to see Sarutobi first. Then it will be easier to get Naruto. The 2 were on their way to the Hokage tower when he said that, when they heard a gruesome cry for assistance, they turned toward the source of the scream. Aohoshi uttered, "Oh no, please no," after telling her, "We have to help whoever this was." Minato dashed in the direction of the scream. Even though Minato was unaware of what was going on, he would never allow such a cry for assistance to go unanswered. He was closely followed by Aohoshi. He sprinted as quickly as his short legs would allow. He had no idea why he was so despised by them. The worst day of this brief existence so far was this one. He was first expelled by the orphanage matron, who declared that they would no longer tolerate a demon. The fact that he repeatedly vowed not to hurt any of the other kids and that he wasn't a demon didn't matter. 5 minutes after he staggered into town, a group of inebriated people gathered and vowed to murder the demon. They wanted to harm him even though he did nothing wrong. During his visit to the orphanage, he had attempted to locate the gentle elderly man whom the matron referred to as Hokage-sama. They were kinder to him when he was present, but only then. His whiskered cheeks were wet with tears. He desired to get away from them. Why was he not assisted? His shoulder was struck by a rock. The hunters merely laughed at his suffering while he screamed for assistance and in agony. After running into a side street to get away from his hunters, he realized he couldn't go any farther. He was on the opposite side of a massive fence, and a heavy chain and lock were used to close the only gate. He watched in fear as the joyful villagers drew closer. He let out a scared whimper. "Now we have you cornered, demon. We will finish what the Yondaime started 3 years ago. Sandaime-sama is a fool to allow you to live," a man stated. A yellow flash appeared as they charged at the boy, and then the boy vanished. An angry man asked, "What was that?" A 3-pronged kunai they had just seen was followed by another yellow flash. The man with the yellow flash said, "You're going to die." It seemed to the villagers that they had seen a ghost. An extremely irate and frightening ghost with spiky blonde hair and hard, cold blue eyes. The man declared, "No one will harm my son." The 20 hunters fell to the ground with kunai embedded in their bodies before anyone could see them. Minato didn't even appear exhausted. After leaving one of his trademark kunai, he vanished with a flash of yellow. A Uchiha patrol arrived just 15 minutes later to check on the damn demon brat's final status. They were told to keep their eyes off the crowd, but they were afraid of what they saw. Only the Yondaime Hokage used a kunai in front of them. All other men were dead with one. His colleagues simply nodded and hurried to fetch the military police commander. We have to report to Fugaku-sama at once. This is a great threat to Konoha if anybody discovered the Hiraishin no Jutsu. Minato knelt in front of Naruto, who was sobbing in terror, on a nearby roof. Minato, inertly shaking with rage, said calmly, "Shush, it's all right now. Nobody will harm you, I promise. I will protect you, Naruto." Naruto pleaded in fear, "Please don't hurt me." Minato hugged his young son, the only thing he could think of at the moment. He spoke softly into the child's weeping ears. "I won't hurt you. Never could I hurt you, Naruto. I will protect you. Don't be afraid anymore." Naruto clung to Minato's Jonin vest, sobbed uncontrollably, and let his feelings out. Holding him, Minato gave him a gentle back rub. Minato had to calm Naruto down for almost 15 minutes before he looked at him. Naruto pleaded frantically, "Will you really protect me? Don't you hate me like all the others?" Minato noticed conflicting emotions in the toddler's gazes: hope, fear, and sorrow. "Yes, I will protect you. I promise, and I never break my promises. And I don't hate you. I love you very much, Naruto. I was on my way to the Hokage tower when I heard your scream. I wanted to ask the Hokage to let me get you out of the orphanage. I want you to live with me." His eyes filled with fresh tears as he said, "Really? You wanted to adopt me? Nobody wants that. They said I don't deserve a family?" For this, Minato promised himself he would torture the orphanage's caregivers. How could they tell his son, a child, that he is unworthy of a family? Why wasn't Naruto at the orphanage, by the way? He was only 3 years old, it was late, and he ought to be in bed. Minato said, "Naruto, why aren't you at the orphanage?" Naruto's gaze shifted to his feet. "The matron kicked me out and said they wouldn't harbor a demon any longer, but I don't know what that means." Minato gave Naruto another hug. Yes, there would be repercussions. No one left after doing this to his son. In addition to being a father, he was a calm man. "There is no need for me to adopt you, because you are my son, Naruto. I'm so sorry that I was forced to leave you alone the past years, but now, we will be a family again." With weakness, Naruto questioned, "You are my daddy?" He didn't dare believe it, so his voice trembled. Minato grinned at him and said, "Yes, I am." This smile caused Naruto to throw his arms around Minato's neck. "Daddy," he cried, and his eyes filled with joy this time. He whispered in Naruto's ear, "It's okay, my son, I won't let you alone again." Aohoshi, on a nearby roof, was happy to see the family together again. She could leave them to go back to Kami and deliver her report because her work was done. After a long day of dealing with the new treaty with Kumogakure, the Sandaime Hokage sat in his office exhausted. The meetings had been going on for hours since Kumo's ambassador arrived today. All he wanted to do now was go home and sleep. But he seemed to be hated by fate. A great desire to kill was sparked from the Hokage tower's ground floor. The Hokage immediately left his office to investigate the situation. Minato showed that he was angry. Yes, it was late, but the secretary's conduct at the tower's entrance was unacceptable. She started yelling at the top of her lungs that the beast should leave right away as soon as she saw Naruto. Minato immediately recognized herself as a Haruno. They were the only ones who could make such a terrible scream. The pink hair was another telltale sign. He had concealed himself with a henge no jutsu. Right now, he didn't want anyone but Sarutobi to know who he was. His features were similar to those of Obito Uchiha, his late student. He had black eyes and black, spiky hair, but his face resembled that of a ninja he had slain during the conflict with Iwa. No one would connect the dots. He dressed simply. A long, sleeved black shirt with a dark green vest and black pants. Similar to his former shinobi attire, but in civilian fashion. Naruto covered his ears with his hands and hid behind his father's legs. This woman was frightening. Her screaming was hurting his ears, so he wanted it to stop. Then he felt his father's anger surge, and it was directed at the frightful woman. His father was furious when he pinned the woman against the wall a few moments later. "If you ever dare to treat Naruto like this again, you can be sure, I will know, and then you won't get away with a simple warning. I won't stand this treatment any longer. Now get me the Hokage. I have some business to clear with him." Minato's voice was icy. A voice behind them asked, "And what business would that be, stranger?" "Gigi," was Naruto's joyful call. "Naruto? What do you do here? I thought you would be at the orphanage, it's late." "That is part of the reason I'm here with him. Could we please talk in private, Hokage-sama? I don't want to reveal everything to these traitors." He gave the woman a glare. The Hokage asked, "Why do you call the people here traitors?" "Yes, why?" Minato questioned mockingly. Minato could sense some of the ninja shuffle their feet uneasily. Perhaps because they never even thought about fulfilling the dying wish of the Yellow Flash? She asked. Two figures burst into the tower at this very moment. Minato instantly recognized one. How could he have forgotten Kakashi Hitaki, his student? One of the Uchiha clan was the other. Kakashi yelled, "Hokage-sama," with a hint of panic. He began to say, "Naruto Hiisa," but stopped when he noticed Naruto hiding behind a foreign man's legs. "He can come with us, Hokage-sama. I don't mind him to listen to what I have to tell you. He seems to care for Naruto," said Minato. The Sandaime said, "Well, all right. Roharo, what do you want?" to the Uchiha. "We found a group of 20 dead people in an alley. We have already started an investigation, but Fugaku-sama told me to report to you that he thinks that a shinobi was involved in the incident." The Hokage was concerned. "I want a complete report when the investigation is finished." With a "Hi Hokage-sama" response, Roharo disappeared through Shunshin. The Sandaime told Minato, "Follow me to my office, we seem to have a lot to discuss." With a nod, he picked Naruto up off the ground and held him in his arms. The Sandaime became uneasy when he noticed how at ease Naruto was with this man. To shield Naruto from Minato's adversaries, he had shrouded his heritage in a mist. Is it possible that this man discovered? Did he desire Kyuubi's power? They took a seat in Sarutobi's office a short while later. "Before I begin, send your ANBUS away and activate the privacy seals in this room, please," said Minato. Now Sarutobi was very careful. How was the ANBUS known to this man? However, he complied. Since Kakashi was an Anbu captain himself, at least he would be available to assist him. Minato activated the privacy seals and got to her feet. "Naruto, would you please stand next to me for a moment, so I can undo my henge?" Naruto gave a nod. Sarutobi and Kakashi couldn't believe what they saw when Minato took off his henge. Both attempted, but were unsuccessful, to reverse this new henge no jutsu right away. Naruto laughed at the two men's astonished expressions. Reaching for his father, he lifted him up and sat down beside Kakashi on a chair. To put Naruto to sleep, Minato applied pressure to a point on his neck. This wasn't necessary for him to hear. He laid the little boy gently on the office couch and covered him with his white cloak. "I believe you have a lot of questions. But first, I'm completely disgusted with the way my son has been treated in Konoha. I gave my life to protect everyone from the Kyuubi, more so, I sacrificed my son as his host, and all I see is complete hate from the villagers. What is going on here? You are the Hokage Sarutobi. Why did you let this happen?" Finally, Sarutobi said, "Minato? Who else? Before you ask, an angel of Kami-sama won a bet against Shinigami-sama at poker. So he had to resurrect me. This angel was Naruto's guardian angel these last 3 years, and she couldn't stand Naruto's treatment any longer. I found him on the streets where a mob chased him. Those are the same men the Uchihas found dead. I killed them for what they wanted to do to Naruto. By the way, the Uchiha patrols I passed when I rushed to help Naruto did nothing besides they heard his scream for help." Sarutobi let out a sigh. It was becoming worse. Tensions with the Uchiha clan had existed for a while. However, it was unacceptable that they would watch helplessly while a child needed assistance. This job was wearing him out. "Next thing I find out is that the orphanage kicked my 3-year-old son out, it's winter for Kami's sake, and told him things like he was a demon and wasn't worth to have a family. I just hope he don't have future problems because of this. But I will take him home with me and teach him personally. I know of the corruption of the council, and you can be assured that I will raise hell upon them. Aohoshi, the angel I mentioned, told me that you and Hisashi Hyuga tried to adopt Naruto, but the civilian council, Fugaku Teme, with your advisors and Danzo stopped you. That, by the way, is the only reason I don't yell at you. I know Minato and I understand you. I tried everything I could think of. I made it law that nobody was allowed to speak of Naruto being the Jinchuriki of Kyuubi so that he has a chance to make friends with kids his age. The problem is somebody blabbed and the secret got out to the villagers. The culprit was executed, but the damage was done. I told the whole village of my law. Nobody speaks about it, but the parents take their kids away. I was limited to send Kakashi and Tenzo to look after Naruto because the council has no insight on Anbu missions. Those two are the only ones I can trust blindly to watch over Naruto. I hoped things would get better once he enters the ninja academy. As you're in Kushina's son, he surely has inherited your talents," Sarutobi clarified. "After what I saw today, I'm not so sure. I am rather convinced that a lot of the teachers would try to sabotage his education. And you can't send ANBUs to teach him, that would be too obvious. But I have a few plans for myself to solve this problem. If by any chance you will be confronted with the deaths of a few corrupt counselors, don't think too bad of me, they had it coming. What some of them are doing is bordering treason. I will collect proofs and then execute my verdict. The best way would be to openly announce their crimes to the public. That will humiliate them additionally. By the way, who is in charge of the T&I department? The Sannin responded, Inoichi Yamanaka, but he is training Ibiki Morino to take over in a few years. Minato smiled cunningly. Ibiki? That will be fun. I remember the kid, a sadist like no other. I'm sure I can convince Inoichi and Ibiki to help me collect proofs. After being stunned by Minato's return, Kakashi finally spoke. He had to convince himself that Naruto was his son and that his sensei was back to life. Although he had complied with Minato's final request that Naruto be hailed as a hero for locking Kyuubi up, he was unaware of the blonde ball of sunshine. Sensei, what will you do because of Danzo and his rude Anbu? He was ordered to stop it, but we all know that he continues it. He will be an invaluable ally. Other than the civilian council, he really wants Konoha to become stronger. Just his ways of reaching this goal are wrong, totally twisted. If you can't beat your enemies, ally yourself with them. Howl with the wolves but louder. I will contact him as soon as Naruto is safe in my mansion. I'm sure he will see my point of view. After all, I am one of the strongest shinobi alive for a reason. If I offer him to cooperate to increase Konoha's strength, he will be hardly tempted to take the offer. Next to the fact that the kids in his orphanage must learn how to fight a fire. As Minato explained his intentions to form an alliance with Danzo, Sarutobi and Kakashi performed their best fish impersonations. In what way did he believe he could persuade the man to agree with him? I'm not crazy if you think. Danzo has connections that will become very useful, and there are enemies out there we need to be strong to encounter. Orochimaru and Madara Uchiha at the top of the list. Sarutobi said, wait Minato, Madara is still alive. Yes, he was behind the Kyuubi attack. He was afraid of me and wanted to get rid of me. The prospect of destroying Konoha during this was just a bonus to him. Man, will he be furious when everybody finds out about my resurrection. Minato gave an evil grin. Sarutobi said, I see. By the way, do you want to retake your position as Hokage? I'm way too old for this and the paperwork is going to kill me one day. Minato said incredulously, oh come on, don't tell me that you still didn't figure out how to handle this little problem. With hope, Sarutobi inquired, you know how to deal with it without going crazy? Of course I know. Did you think I wanted to spend my life with doing hellish paperwork day in day out? Kushina would have crucified me if I didn't spend an appropriate amount of time with her. Especially during her mood swings when she was pregnant with Naruto. Minato shivered at the thought. I only went to the important meetings myself. The rest handled shadow clones. Neat little invention, I must say. To put it mildly, Sarutobi's response was intriguing. He started to rap his head against the desk and mutter, stupid, stupid, stupid. Everywhere. Minato laughed at what she saw. Kakashi had a sheepish expression. For your question. Yes, I will retake the position, even if the majority of Konoha doesn't deserve it. But I figure that in this position I will be able to protect Naruto best. But not immediately. I need some time and I have to plan how to make the takeover so that the council will regret how they made my son's life miserable. Kakashi and Sarutobi were certain that there would be fatalities. No sane person would have enraged the yellow flash and escaped unscathed. And he was furious, not just angry. After talking with the Sannin for 2 hours, Minato left the tower. In his arms, Naruto was still dozing off. Kakashi, who was overjoyed to see his sensei again, provided Naruto with a black hooded cloak that concealed his blonde hair and prevented anyone from seeing his face. With his henge back in place, Minato strolled through the darkness. After his father died on a mission when Minato was 2 years old, his grandfather reared him in the Namikaze mansion, which was his destination. The first Namikazes to arrive in Konoha were his grandfather and his spouse. There was tradition in the ninja business, but they were a family rather than a clan. That only changed after he became Hokage, since the Shodem Hokage's law granted clan status and a council seat to any family that produced a Hokage. To become a clan, the others needed to meet specific requirements regarding the number of members and skills they possessed. Minato's senses were keenly engaged as he approached the affluent area of the village. Since the villagers weren't supposed to know about him for a while, it would be problematic if he was observed entering his mansion. Naruto slept soundly in his embrace. Minato grinned at his child's contented expression. He would make certain that Naruto's life would improve. And he would kill to make sure of it if he had to. He saw a figure, who appeared to be a thief, scale the wall as he was ready to pass the Hyuga compound. However, how could a criminal get inside the Hyuga compound without being noticed? What was it that he took? In order to care for Naruto while he stopped the thief, Minato created a shadow clone by merging with the shadows. After all, Hiyashi Hyuga was his best friend, and allowing a thief to get away would be detrimental to their bond. He might have taken sensitive data. Minato could see that the stranger was a man as he approached him, but he was holding a young girl in his arm instead of a sack full of valuables or scrolls. Minato became irate. Kidnapping was as heinous as any other crime, while theft was one thing. He moved quickly, throwing one of his three-pronged kunai at the kidnapper and flashing yellow beside him. Minato knocked the man unconscious so he could be taken to Inoichi for questioning because he was too shocked to respond in time. He then saw a second man leaping over the wall and heading directly for them. With haste, Minato grabbed his kunai and tucked it into his pouch. To his surprise, Hiyashi and his prisoner were the ones who approached him. Hiyashi surveyed the area. Minato was busy using ninja wire to keep the kidnapper from getting away. The girl was lying next to the kidnapper when he noticed it. "Hinata," said Hiyashi, who then knelt beside the girl to examine her for wounds. He quickly said, "Thank goodness she isn't injured." After that, he looked at Minato. "I have to thank you for rescuing my daughter," said the man. "It was my pleasure. I coincidentally walked this way when I saw him coming over the wall and I investigated. When I saw that he had kidnapped a girl, I sneaked up to him and rendered him unconscious for interrogation." Hiyashi nodded and removed the kidnapper's face mask. He was enraged. It was the Raikage's ambassador. Hiyashi snarled, attempting to maintain his composure in the face of this stranger. "Kumo tries to play dirty, they will see the consequences." Who was he, by the way? "Could you please come with me to the Hokage? We have to report this. Kumo will have to pay for trying to kidnap my daughter." Minato let out a sigh. This night seemed to drag on forever. He gestured toward his home and said, "Of course, but let me first get my son to my house. I left him with a shadow clone back there." There would be no point in trying to fool Hiyashi. He could see through his henge instantly if he turned his Byakugan on him. He was also probably one of the few people he could confide in. Hiyashi noticed a person with a small child approaching as he looked in that direction. The child appeared to be sleeping, but the black hooded cloak obscured his features. "Do you want to take your daughter back home before we go to see the Hokage?" asked Minato. "I would rather let her stay with me. I don't know if this was the only one who would try to kidnap her. I can't even understand how he was able to infiltrate the compound. It should be impossible without inside help. Therefore I prefer to take her with me." "I understand. Then please follow me. My home isn't far away." With a nod, Hiyashi followed Minato while holding Hinata. The kidnapper was taken by Minato's shadow clone, who then proceeded to the Anbu headquarters for questioning. Hiyashi didn't believe his eyes when they arrived at their destination. They were standing in front of Minato's mansion. "What?" inquired a suspicious Hiyashi. Minato interrupted Hayashi's question, saying, "Let's go inside, there I will explain." Hiyashi agreed after examining his face to make sure he wasn't lying. Naruto bit his finger after Minato moved him in his arms to free his left hand. The gate opened a few seconds after he smeared the blood on the seal. Hiyashi followed Minato as she entered. Behind them, the gate closed. Minato opened the house by repeating the procedure at the front door. He looked about him. Installing self-cleaning seals everywhere had paid off. Kushina had detested this type of work, and he had been too busy to maintain the house tidy. The memory of his late wife made him a little sad, but he would stand by their son no matter what. He would make use of the second chance that had been granted to him. He walked into the living room and gestured for Hiyashi to sit on the couch. He sat and fixed his gaze on Minato, who placed Naruto on a different couch, removed the cloak, and covered his son with a blanket. "Okay, I think you want to know how I can enter the Namikaze mansion, right?" he replied. Hiyashi answered, "Indeed. All right, but you must promise me that you won't tell anybody besides the Hokage and Kakashi as they already know Hiyashi." Minato threw the henge. "Minato?" Hiyashi exclaimed in surprise. "How is this possible? You are dead. I saw your dead body before the funeral." "I was dead, Hiyashi. I was resurrected by the death god just today. And to be honest, I'm pissed at the way Konoha treated my son. But that will have to wait until a later date. But I can assure you, I will see that there will be consequences. I didn't ask for the impossible, just that my son was treated like the hero he is for ensuring the imprisonment of the Kyuubi. Hell, if he had been treated like any other child, I wouldn't be this furious." Minato gave off a sense of intent to kill that Hiyashi could sense. He regretted not being able to assist Naruto more, but all efforts to assist the boy had been thwarted by the civilian council. "I know that you tried to adopt Naruto in the Hyuga clan through your brother, and I'm grateful for this. You can be sure there will be some very interesting meetings with the council in a few days. I just need to collect some proof." Minato gave an evil grin. Hiyashi couldn't help but snicker. "I'm looking forward to it. Those fools meddled enough with the affairs of the ninjas in this village. Now that he had his best friend back, the future would be extremely interesting. Hiyashi inquired, "What about Danzo?" being aware that the root leader would be the main issue. "I plan to turn him into my ally. I know one thing for sure, he is absolutely loyal to Konoha and wants the village to be strong, the strongest amongst the great nations. Only his ways to reach this goal are twisted. He has some valuable ideas that I intend to realize, a better schooling system at first. We can't let our children be unprepared for wartimes when there are enemies outside of the caliber of Orochimaru or Madara Uchiha." "Yes, Madara is alive," Minato said, reading Haishi's surprised expression. "He was behind the Kyuubi attack. We will strengthen Konoha at all areas, and for this, I will ask Sensei Jiraiya to retrieve my mother." "Your mother, Minato? I thought after your father died, you became an orphan. I mean, you grew up with your grandparents." "That's true, Hiyashi, but do you know the name of my father?" he inquired. "No, I thought you were uncomfortable to speak about it, so I never asked. His name was Dan Namikaze. He and my mother weren't married, just engaged. I was born during the Second Shinobi World War, and if word got out, I would have been the prime target for my mother's enemies. She was too well known." Haishi's expression changed to one of realization. "Oh my god, Tsunade?" "Yes, Tsunade Senju is my mother. For security reasons I got my father's surname. I think when she learns that I'm alive again and that she has a grandson she can spoil, it won't be a problem to get her to return to start a medical education program like she wanted during the war." Hiyashi had to process this knowledge. Two of the former Hokages and one of the Sannin were directly related to his best friend. Hiyashi questioned, "Do you plan to drop this bomb on the council?" His smile said, "What do you think? What better way would there be to punish them for the treatment of my son than to drop the wrath of an angry grandmother, who just happens to be one of the Sannin on them? My killing intent is nothing compared to my mother's. They're directly responsible for the mistreatment of the heir to two clans of Konoha, as Naruto is the heir to the Namikaze clan, the Senju clan, and on top he is the grandson of the current king and queen of Whirlpool. Kushina was their youngest daughter. The daimyo will be more than displeased to hear this. I heard you have very good connections to the royal court?" innocently. "Sometimes you can be really cruel, but I understand you completely. When do we start?" Minato was staring at him. "Did you think I would let you do this all alone, Minato? You are my best friend. I will help you with collecting the proof needed, and then I will sit in my council seat and enjoy the show you will set up. But another issue. What do you think will be the best way to handle Kumo? Send them one of my three-pronged kunai and remind them that it is very ill-advised to make the yellow flash angry." Hiyashi grinned and remarked, "It's great to have you back, Minato." The two men quickly gave the Sandaime an explanation of everything. The attempt to kidnap Hinata infuriated him. "Where is Hinata now?" inquired Sarutobi. In response, Minato said, "At my mansion. The building and the grounds are completely secured with my strongest seals. Nobody below my level as a seals master will be able to disable them," explained Minato. "Very good. Hiyashi, I think you want to return to your clan and start an investigation how the ambassador of Kumo could enter. I think you are right if you think that he must have had inside help," Sarutobi responded. Hiyashi bowed and said, "Yes, thank you, Hokage-sama. Minato, can Hinata stay for the night at your mansion? It would ease my thoughts when I knew nobody could do anything to her." "No problem, Hiyashi, but won't she be scared when she wakes up and is in an unknown place? I will send Hizashi to look after her. He is the only one I trust enough to not try anything against her. Especially as I managed to suspend the sealing of his son Neji." "Do you still have this idiotic practice in your clan? I thought you wanted it to stop," Minato murmured. He detested the Hyuga clan's branch house, which was essentially slavery. "You did not treat your family in that manner." "It's not that easy, Minato. The elders oppose me in this with all their might. It would need a quick strike to free all members of the branch family of the seal without them recognizing it until it's too late. Or something that would overrule the clan laws." Knowing that Hiyashi was correct, Minato nodded. "Tell Hizashi to come to my mansion in half an hour. I will await him," said Minato. Hiyashi gave a nod. Minato focused and vanished in a flash of yellow. "With him back here, things will change," Hiyashi exclaimed with joy. Sarutobi sighed, "Yes, I'm happy he's back. I'm too old to be the Hokage." In her sleep, Hinata stirred. She opened her eyes slowly and took in her surroundings. When she first realized she wasn't in her room at her clan's compound, she assumed she was still asleep. In a panic, she rushed to the door. The door handle was too high above her when she attempted to reach it. The window was too high for her to climb out, so she searched for another way out. She sat down on the bed and embraced her knees in fear. When she heard footsteps in front of the door, she started crying. A blond man she had never seen before stepped through the door. "Ah, you are awake, Hinata, that's good. You don't need to be afraid," he grinned. "My name is Minato and I am a friend of your father Hiyashi. He is at your clan compound and investigates how it was possible that the man who tried to kidnap you could enter undetected." Hinata's terrified eyes grew wide. "Hey, it's okay. We got the man and he is in prison right now. He can't hurt you anymore." Hinata gave a weak nod. "By the way, your uncle Hizashi will be here in I think 10 minutes or so to explain everything to you. Your father asked me if you could stay here for the night because he doesn't know how it was possible that somebody entered your home. Do you want to come down with me? My son would be happy to meet you." "Oh. Okay," Hinata said, uncertain whether or not to believe the man. However, everything would be fine if her uncle arrived in a short while. Naruto was awake and surveyed his surroundings in the living room. He found it fascinating that he and his father would share this large home. 10 minutes ago, he woke up in a huge living room. However, it made him feel warm. He had never seen the light wood used to hold the furniture before. Closets, shelves brimming with books, 2 black leather couches with white, comfortable cushions, 2 armchairs matching the couches, and a glass table in the center of them were all present. A large television set caught his eye. There were pictures of a few people on some of the shelves. A photo of his father with 3 teenagers was the only one he recognized. If he recalled correctly, one of them resembled the gray-haired man he saw at the tower's entrance hall, whom his father had named Kakashi. He couldn't help but smile because he was so joyful. Having a father was still an oddity for him. Every caregiver at the orphanage had made a mistake. He claimed that he wasn't a demon as they had claimed, and his father adored him. He ran to the door to look when he heard footsteps coming from the stairs. His father and a girl with dark hair and almost white eyes were there. He had never seen eyes like that before. Additionally, the orphanage had housed a wide variety of kids. He was approached by the girl and his father. His father grinned at his inquisitive expression. "Naruto, this is Hinata Hyuga. She is the daughter of my best friend Hiyashi Hyuga, the head of the Hyuga clan. She will stay with us for the night as Hiyashi has an investigation to run." "Why?" inquired Naruto. "There was a bad man who tried to kidnap Hinata, and before Hiyashi doesn't know how he got inside, it will be safer for Hinata if she stays with us." Naruto repeated. "Why?" Minato clarified, "Because our house is the safest in the whole village." "Why?" This might take some time, Minato thought. His son took advantage of the opportunity to ask as many questions as he could. "Because there are seals all over the place that can't be broken by anybody but a seal master as strong as me, and there are only very few who are at my level." "What are seals, Daddy?" Minato thought. At least he didn't ask why. "Seals are a special art ninjas use. Like ninjutsu, genjutsu and taijutsu, which are the 3 basic arts. Seals have different uses. You can store things in a scroll to transport them easier if you use a storage seal. Then there are seals that can make things explode. They're called exploding tags. You can blind people with flash seals. And that are just a few. There are nearly no limits to the use of seals except the imagination of the seal master. If you understand how to make them, you can do a lot of things." Naruto gazed admiringly at his father. He then turned to face Hinata, who appeared terrified. Naruto made the decision to make an effort to know the other child. Because of the caregivers who kept him apart from the other kids at the orphanage, he had never had the chance to make friends. Additionally, this girl's father was his father's friend. He must have approved of him becoming friends with her. "Hey, I'm Naruto, do you want to play?" said he. His deep blue eyes captivated Hinata as she gazed at him. Naruto gave her the impression that she could trust him more quickly than she had ever experienced before. She said softly, "I'm Hinata, and I would like to play," but Naruto could still hear her. He asked, bouncing with enthusiasm, "Yeah, what do you want to play?" "Naruto, please stay in the house for playing, okay? It's already dark outside and I don't want you to get lost in the darkness," said Minato. Naruto nodded as he turned to face his father. He cast a curious glance at Hinata, who appeared to be scared for some reason. "Hinata?" inquired Naruto. Hinata attempted to explain. "It's just her thoughts appeared to be read by Minato. "Is it because you don't want to be alone in a place you know nobody?" replied the gentleman. Hinata gave a nod. "I have a suggestion. Why don't you two come with me and I show you the house? You haven't seen very much of it yourself, Naruto. When we are done, Hinata's uncle Hizashi should be here to tell her what is happening at her family's compound." After a short while, Hinata followed Naruto's nod. Naruto eagerly grasped her hand. The words, "Let's go, Daddy," came from Naruto. Minato couldn't resist grinning at the adorable photo before him. They needed the remaining time until Hizashi arrived so Minato could show the 2 kids the mansion's ground floor. It included the training dojo. a meditation room, a bathroom, a kitchen as large as the one in the orphanage, which was constructed so they could prepare meals for almost 200 kids, a living room, and a room for storing kitchenware. Naruto questioned his father about the size of the kitchen. Well, Naruto, while the Namikaze hadn't been a clan until a few years ago, we always had a lot of people who did business with us due to our natural talents with seals. It's a family tradition to learn about them. So there often were large groups of people who came over for dinner. That and my grandmother always loved to invite lots of friends for parties. She was a great cook. Naruto gave a nod. Naruto asked him, Daddy, are there more Namikazes? Naruto appeared intrigued. Yes, Naruto, but only one. We three are the last of the Namikaze. But we have a few other relatives. He finally lowered his head and asked, why did they never show up? Unaware of the reason behind Naruto's apparent melancholy, Hinata gazed at him. Carefully, she said, Naruto? Why are you sad? Naruto muttered, it's just that I have been alone for as long as I know. Minato bowed down in front of him and gave him a hug. That is in the past. I will do everything I can that you will never be alone again, Naruto, he assuredly said. He gave Naruto a back rub. Naruto gave a nod. The sensation of his father holding him was wonderful. He was totally secure. He didn't want it to end, even though it was an entirely new feeling. As Naruto and Minato broke their embrace, Hinata remarked, I also want to help you. I don't want you to be alone. Naruto questioned the girl. Really? She looked shyly at the floor and nodded. He gave the girl a hug after saying, thank you, Hinata. Hinata had an odd feeling. While it felt good on one side, she was really anxious on the other. She was unable to determine why. When Minato observed Hinata's behavior, she realized right away that she had inherited her mother's shy nature from her early years. The girl's role as the Hyuga clan's heiress would be difficult. I hoped the rigorous training wouldn't cause her to break. Maybe his apparently overactive son could assist her. He showed them the remainder of the ground floor. This is the training dojo of our family. My father built it when he became a ninja. He wanted a place where he could train in secret when he developed new techniques, explained Minato. The kids gazed at the spacious space covered with tatami mats. There were training aids in one corner and a towel closet in another. 2 training posts for various purposes were then present. Minato smiled and said, I used this dojo regularly. Hinata asked courteously, did you invent techniques, Minato-sama? There is no need to call me Sama, Hinata. I'm not that old. Just call me Minato. And yes, I invented some techniques. Jumping up and down in anticipation, Naruto asked inquisitively, please daddy, can you show us? Minato pondered for a long time. He pulled a 3-pronged kunai from his pouch and tossed it to the opposite side of the dojo, saying, sure, but I can't show you the full force of one because it's too dangerous. This is the first one. He vanished and then reappeared beside his kunai in a burst of yellow. He clarified, this is my Hiraishin no Jutsu. Hinata appeared to recall something when she said, it allows me to travel to the kunai I threw in the blink of an eye. It was this jutsu that got me my nickname, the Yellow Flash of Konoha. Her eyes widened. She questioned, Minato, are you the Yondaime Hokage? Minato smiled and scratched the back of his head. Yes, I am. Naruto said, wow, why didn't you tell me, daddy? Naruto nodded, as if he was comfortable with the response. It wasn't the right time. I mean, I just returned today and then there were enough other things which were more important at the time. I would have told you later. Naruto questioned, you mentioned there are some relatives, who are they? Well, first there is my mother Tsunade, your grandmother. I hope she will return to Konoha when she finds out that we are still alive. She left because she thought that we were dead. But why would she think that? Well, the reason I couldn't be with you was that 3 years ago on the day you were born the Kyuubi no Kitsune attacked Konoha. Why? Nobody knew at the time. I was able to defeat Kyuubi but it was at a high price. I could just return today. Where were you? I will tell you when you are older. It's a bit complicated. Naruto sighed. Minato's hair was ruffled. Well, aside from your grandmother there is my cousin Shizune. She is Tsunade's apprentice. You must know your grandmother is the best medic nin there is. What is an apprentice, daddy? A student who gets more intensive training from his master. Normally you learn in groups of 3 genin when you graduate from the ninja academy. You have one jonin sensei who teaches the 3 genin. But an apprentice most of the time is the sole student of this jonin. And then the teacher teaches his own special things and not only the general things a ninja must know to survive. Naruto gave a nod. This he understood somewhat. He asked eagerly, can I become a ninja too, daddy? If you really want it, of course you can, Naruto. You come from a family who had many exceptional ninjas, I'm sure you have talent, Minato said with a smile. The night might have been brightened by Naruto's smile. Naruto then questioned, "Hinata, will you also become a ninja?" "Well, I think yes. My family members are almost all ninja." A faint red tint could be seen on Hinata's cheeks as she said, "That would be great, then we can learn to be ninjas together." She grinned and nodded. Her smile struck Naruto as adorable. Then Naruto had a flashback. "Hinata, do you know any games to play in the house?" "No, not really. There are not many children my age in the Hyuga clan, just my cousin, and he is a year older and I just met him today. I never really had somebody to play with." It appeared that she was disappointed. Naruto could relate to the expression. He had lived with many kids, but he was never permitted to play with them. "Then we can play together from now on and perhaps we can make our own games. I only know some for outside which I could see when the other kids in the orphanage played. Do you want?" Hinata noticed his uncertainty as she looked at him. She merely gave a nod. Naruto seemed like a good boy, and it would be good to have someone to play with. Minato noticed that Naruto had shed a significant amount of weight when she nodded. He was aware that his son's top priority was a friend. And with all the prejudices the villagers had, it would be difficult to find any children besides those of his own friends. The doorbell rang this time. The kids nodded when the teacher said, "I believe this to be your uncle Hinata. Let's go and welcome him." To welcome Hizashi, the three of them went to the foyer. Hizashi seemed to be in a daze. When he returned home from the Hokage, his brother had called him aside and told him he needed him for a special task. Since Hinata didn't know who in the clan he could trust until he was put through a rigorous investigation, he had been abducted and was currently at a friend's mansion. He should take care of Hinata to make sure she wasn't completely terrified because she didn't know his friend. Hizashi was surprised to find himself standing in front of the Namikaze mansion, though, for 3 years, the last Namikaze was deceased. At least that's what the general public knew. To shield himself from his father's adversaries, his 3-year-old son adopted a false identity. The council's damned civilian component. Had it not been for them, Naruto's life would have been more content. He could grow up with his niece Hinata and son Neji. Hiyashi sent him to Minato's mansion, but why? He would see, though. He waited while he rang the doorbell. He soon noticed 3 figures coming toward the gate. 2 were children, and 1 was an adult. One must be Hinata, he thought. Hizashi was startled when the gate opened. This was a face he never expected to see again. Silently, Minato said, "Come in and hurry. I will explain inside." After Hizashi gave a nod, the 3 returned to the house. As they sat in the living room, Minato gave Hizashi another explanation of what had transpired during the ball game between Hinata and Naruto in the training dojo. "So that's the story. I'm alive because Shinigami-sama sucks at poker. I don't know who has the worse luck, him or my mother," he laughed. "I understand, but it is a lot to take in. That's for sure. By the way, as we have some time to kill until Hiyashi is finished with the investigation, can you tell me some of the important things that happened in Konoha the last 3 years?" "Of course, Minato. Well, to start it, the council forced some changes in the command. They seem to think that they can overrule the Hokage and make him a figurehead. As the Sandaime is old, he just tries to keep the peace between opposing groups. He clearly wants to pass the responsibility for the village to someone younger. But without you there were no suitable candidates. But that leads to more problems as they use his softness for their benefit. Corruption is growing and that is never a good thing. Danzo tried to reason with the Sandaime that we can't afford to lose strength, especially after the losses of the QB attack. But it was not successful. Due to this, I think he intensified to build up his root unit. He opened his own orphanage where the children are trained to be ninjas. The only problem is he is overdoing it. Yes, I know. I will talk with him soon. If I can manage to reason with him, he can become an invaluable ally. I know that it can be lethal to show emotions at the battlefield, but in private you are doomed without them. You need a balance between the two." Hizashi gave a nod. The competition between the Hyuga and the Uchiha has reached new heights. The Uchiha bastards think that due to their eyes they are unbeatable. This is infused by their newest prodigy, Itachi. He is just 11 and already chunin on the best way to Jonin. His Sharingan is fully developed, but I think he is a pleasant exception to the normally high-headed Uchiha. He actually worked for his abilities. That is the reason why the Anbu has their eyes on him. "How do you know Hizashi?" "Well, if you weren't Hokage I weren't able to tell you, but I am Anbu captain myself. Hiyashi covers me. The elders of the clan don't know or they would throw a fit," he laughed. "Damn those bastards. They should be proud to have an Anbu captain in the clan. It's an honor. If I was a main house member possibly, but I am the head of the branch house, so I can't be better than the main house, or so they think." The 2 kids decided to show up at this time. They appeared to be worn out. Minato politely inquired, "Finished with playing?" Naruto gave a yawn and nodded. Naruto informed him, "Daddy, Hinata and I are hungry and thirsty. Then let's go to the kitchen and get you two something. I hope there are some rests that haven't expired yet. Well, tea will be right." Hizashi took Hinata, while Minato embraced Naruto. After some time, the two sat on the living room floor, sipping tea and eating some quickly cooked noodles. Minato mentally noted that she needed to go shopping the following day. In addition to buying Naruto some clothes, he needed groceries. The ones in his room weren't for a toddler, they were for an infant. After the kids were done, the two adults led them upstairs to the second floor, which housed Naruto's room and the room where Hinata had previously stayed. Following a brief trip to the restroom, where Minato added toothpaste and a toothbrush to his list of things to buy, he and Hizashi put the kids to bed and let them sleep. Naruto was too exhausted to appreciate his room's appearance. He would take that action tomorrow. After a couple of minutes, he was smiling and asleep. Even though it began as the worst day of his life, it ended up being the best. After his father returned, he found a new residence and became friends with Hinata. Minato silently shut the door after grinning broadly at his son's sleeping form. Danzo considered his future plans in his secret office. Sarutobi was wrong to allow civilians to have such a large say in the ninja industry. Danzo held his former rival in high regard because he was once a formidable warrior. His will was faltering, but he still had a lot of strength left. Resigning and allowing a younger candidate to take over had been the right move. Even though he would have favored Orochimaru's more conservative outlook, it was impossible to ignore his experiments on Konoha residents. Even though some of the experiments might have been successful, it was stupid to weaken the village in that way. Instead, that idiot ought to have used criminals. Then he would have kept on helping him. Although he didn't like Minato Namikaze, he had to admit that the man was powerful. It was better that he was feared in the nations of their adversaries. No sane person would have dared to challenge the Yellow Flash. And he would kill without hesitation when called upon. Indeed, he had managed to make arrangements with the Yondaime Hokage. The real situation, however, was problematic. He wished for Konoha to recover from the Kyuubi attack. Too much had been lost. Namikaze himself, along with many of their finest shinobi. Their best enemy repellent fell with him. Kumo and Iwa's inability to take advantage of Konoha's weakness due to their wartime weakness was pure luck. Suna was an ally of Kiri during the Bloodline Purge. Everything was under control for the time being. However, when he dispatched his ambassador to Konoha, he had a suspicion that the Raikage had plans that involved a truce. He got up to go home, believing that he wouldn't figure it out in the office. On the outskirts of Danzo's house stood Minato's shadow clone. The best time to get in touch with the man was at night, after he got back from whatever he was doing, when no one would notice. When the man finally showed up, he had already waited for 3 hours. He stopped as soon as he was 30 yards away. "Whoever you are, come out," Danzo said coolly. "I will if you send your 3 dogs at a distance of 100 yards away. They can see you but won't be able to listen to us." "I have a proposition for you, Danzo," Minato's shadow clone answered. Danzo considered it. He couldn't be threatened by the distance. There won't be enough time for him to be killed before his men must cross it. The words, "I agree," came from Danzo. From their hiding places, his 3 bodyguards emerged, leaving the requested gap between them and their leader. Minato emerged from his hiding place beneath a henge. "I'm glad you agreed to listen to me. I think my proposal will benefit both of us and Konoha in its completeness. I heard that you strive to strengthen Konoha but were put down from your plans by the Hokage and the council." "That's correct. I think it is a grave mistake to not prepare our young ninja for the real world outside the safety of the village, especially after the Kyuubi attack ripped huge holes in our numbers. We can't produce ninjas in sheer numbers because this needs time, but we can ensure that our ninjas make up for the lack of quantity with quality." But the civilians lowered the education levels that worked well during the wartimes to a ridiculous level. The graduation exams consist of 3 low-level jutsu like Kawarimi, Henge and Bunshin. From them one is chosen. On top of that, the students have to pass a written exam which consists mostly of history and chakra theory on low levels. How will they be able to defend Konoha properly? If the heroes of the war had been educated on that level, we never had won the war. I agree with you that this is devastating for Konoha as a whole. I heard you took countermeasures in secret. What I want to propose is to take your actions to the public and make your retired root agents teachers at the academy. They will be able to prepare the students. I want to make clear that my goal is a strong Konoha that still keeps his unique ability to feel with others. Devastating in battle, caring in private. That will give the customers a good opinion and our enemies will think twice before they even think about an attack. That all sounds good, but how will you realize this? The civilian council will throw a fit, and as they use the time between the death of the Yondaime and the reinstatement of the Sandaime to raise their powers, it will be impossible, especially as Sarutobi don't want to argue with them. He lost his will to be a strong leader. He is still a capable shinobi, but the time he spent as Hokage drained his energy. He isn't even able to protect the boy that could be the greatest asset to our forces if trained correctly. You mean Naruto Uzumaki, right? Yes. I'm sure you know why I can't speak open about his condition, but it will become a danger to Konoha if he isn't trained to control his given powers. While I agree with this, I will never allow for him to become an emotionless killer machine. As I said, we have to keep balance between not showing emotions in battle and not having them. The greatest heroes of Konoha were able to do this professionally, like the first and second Hokages, the White Fang or the Yellow Flash. You yourself should think about it. Emotionally stable ninjas are better ninjas. And you won't have as many candidates that aren't able to stand the stress. The Bloody Mist has shown as much. After Zabuza Momochi killed the entire graduation class, they changed their educational system because it was a waste of talent. What I plan is a very effective use of our resources. Less deaths of shinobi and kunoichi means less compensation for the losses. We already had enough, as you stated. And for how I will achieve it, well, let's just say the council will be surprised when a hero returns. He laughed. Danzo's mind was racing. This man's statements sounded excellent. It was a great idea to use the retired root agents to instruct the academy's young students. It would be even better if he could openly do his best to protect Konoha. He would continue to operate his network of spies. It is impossible to have too much knowledge. However, the man's identity remained a mystery. He would not have stated that he would not permit the boy to lose his feelings if he did not appear to have an emotional bond with the Jinchuriki. He didn't agree with his idea of what a ninja should be, but it was acceptable. It would be sufficient if a ninja remained emotionless while on the field. And he had to acknowledge that when the clients viewed the ninjas as human, it would be good PR. They would then submit additional mission requests. However, it did not address the issue of the Hokage, who is currently almost a figurehead. Your proposal has its merits, but I can't see how this will be possible with the Sandaime being the figurehead the council made him into. Without a successor, who can change the working processes, it won't be realizable. And I don't see any suitable successor for Sarutobi at the moment. There are some promising young ninjas that can be able to do the job in a few years, like Itachi Uchiha or Kakashi Hitaki, but they lack experience and are way too young. In 10 years they could be ready. I mean, Itachi is 11 and Kakashi is 17. And that is too late to do what you proposed. And the Sannin, who would be able to be Hokage, left Konoha to lick their emotional wounds. It was a problem when the Yondaime was chosen. Orochimaru was too ruthless, and the only other candidate, Minato Namikaze, who became Hokage, is dead after he sacrificed his life to defeat Kyuubi. And Orochimaru is a traitor now. Ah yes, you are right, but what would you say if there was a candidate as strong as the Yondaime? Would you support him? Danzo answered, if Konoha had someone this strong, I would know. Minato remarked, that doesn't answer my question. Well, if there was somebody who were as strong as the Yondaime Hokage that shared my opinions that Konoha needs to be strengthened, then I probably would support him. Very well. I will prepare for the next step. Be ready in a week. There will be a meeting of the council in which I will reveal how to realize my proposal. Be sure it will be a great show of power. After it, our goals will start to be realized. You are an interesting fellow. Mind telling me your name? He poofed in a cloud of smoke and said, well, for the time being you can call me Arashi. You will find out everything else during the meeting. Until then. Danzo said, well, that was interesting. I will look into this, Arashi, and started to head home. Minato grinned as he was given the memories of his Kagebunshin. He had underestimated how easy that would be. Danzo appeared to be a very useful ally. The initial actions had been completed. All he had to do now was obtain evidence of the council's treason to have them removed from office. Hizashi wanted to retaliate against the civilian council for interfering in ninja affairs and making Naruto's life miserable, so he had a list of all the counselors and the decisions they made. So if I understand this correctly, the main actors on the civilian council are Saisa Haruno, Mikado Trenoma, Hikaru Hadakane and Takama Kanimoto. They're the leaders, the other three follow their lead. Then there are Homura Mitokado and Kaharu Utatane of the Elders Council and Fugaku Teme Uchiha on the Ninja Council. Yes. Shikaku Nara, Inoichi Yamanaka, Shoza Akamichi, Hiyashi, Sume Inuzuka, Shibi Aburame and Asuma, who represents the Sarutobi clan for the Sandaime, or their counterparts. Danzo has his own opinion and normally voices this, but never got a majority because the civilians mess around with the help of Kaharu and Homura. Our problem is that we are at a disadvantage as long as the seats of the Senju clan and of the Namikaze clan are not taken. But with you being back we have at least the Namikaze seat filled. Yes, and when Sensei Jiraiya finds my mother and she returns, the civilian council is at a disadvantage as she will fill the Senju seat and Sensei Jiraiya has a seat at the civilian side. Then the shinobi side has more votes, Danzo's vote included. Even if Fugaku Teme votes against us. And when it will be revealed that I'm not only a Namikaze but also a Senju, I can represent both clans if it should be necessary. But my next move will be infiltrating the houses of the counselors and collecting proof. How will you do this? Well, toads are very good spies. Once inside they can find a lot of information. Especially when they have enough time. And I intend to produce a fantastic distraction tomorrow. What have you planned, Minato? Well, let's just say it would be unwise to go near the shopping district at noon. Minato woke Naruto early the following morning. Having been up late the night before, he was still drowsy. Minato smiled with a, "Hey, good morning, sleepyhead," greeting. Inquired Naruto. Then he went into a panic. He held his hands over his head and said, "No, I didn't oversleep. Please don't punish me." Minato winced and lightly touched Naruto's back. "You don't have to be afraid, Naruto. I won't punish you for oversleeping." The voice caused Naruto to relax. He then dropped his arms. "Daddy," he said with a radiant smile, "it wasn't a dream. You are really here." "Yes, I am." He gave Naruto a hug, and the latter leaned in with a joyful sigh. "Get ready, Naruto, we want to have breakfast and then we will bring Hinata home." "Oh, I remember. Yes, I now have a friend." "Yes, you have. And it won't be nice to let your friend wait for breakfast." "Yeah, let's go, Daddy." Leaping from his bed, Naruto searched for his clothing. He looked around the room, his mouth hanging open. The room was pleasant, with 2 walls painted yellow and 2 orange. Above it were shelves and a desk with a chair. There were books and stuffed animals on the shelves. A blue dolphin, an orange fox, and a dark red toad. Then there were variously colored blocks. On the desk were drawing pencils, paper, and wax crayons. "Do you like it? Your mother Kushina prepared this room for you when she was pregnant with you?" With tears in his eyes, Naruto replied, "Yes, Daddy, I love it." He approached the desk and gazed at the plush animals with longing. Minato grasped for them, understanding. He inquired, "Which one do you want?" "The fox." Naruto replied, "I like orange." Minato handed the plush to him. Naruto gave it a joyful hug. He asked shyly, "Can you tell me a bit about mommy?" Minato experienced a heartache. Then he grinned. "Of course, Naruto. I will tell you after we have brought Hinata home and we're shopping for some groceries and clothes for you. I have some pictures of her that I can show you." Naruto flashed a radiant smile. "Yes, that's great, Daddy." Minato assisted Naruto with dressing and using the restroom. The only clothing he owned was from the orphanage, and it was essentially tattered and filthy. They ate breakfast in the kitchen with Hinata and Hisashi 20 minutes later. Hisashi had visited the Hyuga compound to get some breakfast items and to ask Hiyashi if Hinata could come back. They ate eggs, bacon, and toast. After 30 minutes, when they were ready, Hinata and Naruto played in the dojo while Minato and Hisashi cleaned the dishes. Minato then concealed his actual appearance with his henge. Naruto questioned, "Why do you look different, Daddy?" "I don't want the people of Konoha to know that I'm back yet, so I used a henge no jutsu to hide my normal looks. They will be informed later." Minato and Naruto took Hinata and Hisashi to the Hyuga compound after they left the mansion, saying, "Oh, okay. Well, it was very nice of you to let Hinata stay overnight," Hisashi replied. Minato said, "It was no problem. She is welcome at our home to visit whenever she wants," and Naruto enthusiastically nodded. Naruto grinned and said, "Goodbye, Hinata. Chan. I hope to see you soon. I want to play with you again, it was so much fun." Hinata replied, "Naruto-kun, I would like that too." At the moment, Minato and Naruto were at the supermarket. Minato incited hatred toward Naruto by spreading some murderous intent. Interestingly, Kakashi seemed to get his shopping done when the manager arrived to throw them out. The manager was so intimidated by his appearance that he dared not turn Minato and Naruto down for business. There was a reputation for the copy nin. Minato greeted Kakashi, saying, "What a coincidence to meet you here." Knowing what his sensei wanted, Kakashi cooperated. "Oh, nice to meet you too, Arashi, Naruto. I wanted to come by later the day to ask if you wanted to train with me, Arashi, just to see if you were still as good as you were 3 years ago." "I would like that, Kakashi. But remember last time we sparred I clearly defeated you. I got some more experience and have some new jutsus you don't know. It will be an interesting match." "Well, I look forward to it." Naruto tugged at his dad's pants. He said, "Daddy, who is this man?" Minato replied, "Yeah, you haven't met him yet. The shop's employees and customers were in a state of stunned silence. This man was clearly familiar with Kakashi Hatake, and the demon had referred to him as Daddy. Naruto, this is Kakashi Hatake. We fought together in the Third Shinobi World War. He is a very powerful ninja and was trained by the Yondaime Hokage. Naruto replied courteously, nice to meet you, Kakashi ni-san. With his usual grin, Kakashi replied, my pleasure, Naruto. Naruto questioned, Kakashi ni-san, why do you have a mask? Kakashi clarified, it's a tradition of my clan. According to Naruto, it looks cool. As he asked Minato, well thank you, where were you headed? We were going to the clothes shops next as Naruto needs some new things. Well, I will accompany you. I wanted to get some things myself. My dogs ruined some of my socks and civilian clothes. I really need to train them more, said Kakashi. With beseeching eyes, Naruto said, oh, you have dogs? Can I see them, Kakashi ni-san, please? Thank you. Naruto yelled and gave Kakashi a leg hug. Okay, but later, they're at my home. Kakashi and Minato laughed at Naruto's antics. They went to pay for their groceries at the cashier. To free his hands, Minato made a cage bunshin and allowed him to carry his belongings inside. His cage bunshin brought his belongings home, and Kakashi imitated his move. Running in front of the two men, Naruto peered curiously at the storefronts. He was unaware of the gloomy stares he received from the majority of the villagers, but because Minato and Kakashi were there, they were afraid to do anything but stare at him with hatred. The best part was that, according to Minato, rumors spread quickly in Konoha. His brief conversation with Kakashi at the grocery store was gaining traction. Particularly the fact that he defeated Kakashi in a spar and served as a ninja during the Third World War. They gave him disbelieving looks when they learned that he was Naruto's father. Kakashi whispered to Minato, they seem to have trouble accepting that Naruto has a father. Yes, it seems so, but I don't understand why. Well, you must know many believe that Naruto is the reincarnation of his prisoner, so the fact he has a father crushes this believing. They are such fools, complained Minato. His son had to suffer only because the villagers were stupid. Well, I can't wait to see what will happen after the council meeting in 6 days. Do you think Tsunade will have returned until then? Probably. I sent a toad to Sensei yesterday and the summons can communicate between each other. For something this important they will use their connection to get the message to Mom as soon as possible. I hope you are right. The civilian council needs to be put in place. They ruin our forces with their incompetence. Minato gave a nod. On their way to the clothing store, they came across an alley. A cat suddenly leapt on top of Naruto and flung him to the ground. Catching the cat, he let out a startled cry. From the alley came more cries. The words, "It ran this way," reached Naruto. He gave the cat a startled look and caressed it absently. The feline purred. The cat had a red ribbon at his ear and was dark brown. Kakashi and Minato gazed at the scene incredulously. Minato said, "That cat? I don't believe it, it must be a relative to the Nibi. I had to chase it when I was a genin," he replied. Naruto said, "Daddy, what's wrong?" A 12-year-old boy yelled, "There it is." He entered the alley with 2 other 12-year-olds. With astonished expressions on their faces, they halted abruptly and surveyed the scene. A young blonde boy was sitting on the street, stroking the demon cat that was perched on his legs. The demon cat purred as well. "Please hit me, Soda, I think I dream," the group's girl said to her teammate. He was kind to her. She said politely, "Ouch, okay, this isn't a dream. Excuse me, little boy." "Yes," said Naruto. Naruto was obviously not happy when he said, "Could we please take the cat back to her owner? It is our mission to catch it." "Daddy, must I?" inquired Naruto. "Yes, Naruto, but I think we could accompany them to the Hokage tower, as I have never seen this cat this peaceful as in your arms. We could spare these genin a lot of scratches," he thought. After Minato helped Naruto stand up, the genin informed their sensei that they had located the cat and would meet him at the tower. Okay. I would like to visit the old man." When they arrived at the tower, the group's sensei identified Kakashi and Naruto but not Minato. He had doubts, but because of the law, he remained silent. He questioned his genin team, "What are they doing here?" "Sensei Yago, the cat fled through an alley as we chased it and then leapt onto Naruto-kun, who was thrown to the ground by the impact. He caught the cat and it let him stroke it and seemingly liked it. That was the situation when we arrived. As the cat seems less violent with Naruto, his father Arashi suggested to accompany us to spare us the scratches." "Well, that's nice of Arashi-san. Well, I have never seen you around Arashi-san. Why is this?" Yago responded. That's because I was absent for 3 years. I fought against the Kyuubi like so many others that day and could just return yesterday. If you want to know more about it, you have to ask Hokage-sama, as he asked me not to tell the details just now. Yago said, I see. Perhaps something was something the Hokage wished to conceal. It would have been simple to declare Arashi missing in action, Mia, if he had received a covert mission following the Kyuubi attack. What made the demon boy refer to him as his father, though? Didn't he become the Kyuubi now? However, why did Kakashi Hatake joke with the boy and act so at ease around him? While they were busy with the cat, Minato carried Naruto up the stairs to the mission room because his legs were too short to climb the stairs by himself without his arms. When they arrived at the room, Soda knocked. They heard, "Come in," when the 7 entered. The on-duty ninjas took a second look because they hadn't anticipated such a big crowd. Team 5 reporting back, was what Yago said. After grinning at the genin, the Sandame turned to face Naruto. I think you have an interesting story to tell us, he replied. The girl replied, yes, Hokage-sama. She described the pursuit of Torah, how Naruto and the others accompanied them, and how they discovered the cat together. When the fire daimyo's wife arrived, she was pleased to see that her cat had been located once more. While Torah yowled, Yago took the cat from Naruto and gave it to her. She squeezed it. Oh my precious little Torah, I was so worried that you were lost. With a stop it command, Naruto pulled on the woman's long robes. He said, please don't hurt Torah. His words caused everyone to fall silent. She said, what do you mean, boy? I love my little Torah. He was concerned about Torah as he observed her and the cat and said, but when you hug her like this it hurts her. Don't you see this? In the brief time he spent carrying her, he developed a fondness for the cat and wished to protect her. Oh, and what do you, a little boy, know about things like this? Asked the woman. The words, I can hear her cries, were spoken by Naruto. She doesn't want to be squeezed and not be able to breathe. You can understand her? The woman asked incredulously. Naruto gave a nod. He said, I can show you. Beside the boy, she knelt. His words, come here, Torah, caused the cat to jump up and approach him. He held her tenderly and caressed her. You see, she likes being held like this much better. She purrs. Torah, if this lady will be more gentle, would you like this more? He innocently asked. Torah appeared to nod as she glanced at him and then at her owner. Naruto said, she said yes. The adults were in disbelief. It was a remarkable talent. Torah was taken back by the woman, who attempted to hold her like Naruto did. Torah was anxious, but she became more at ease in the woman's arms with each soft touch. I think I have to thank you, boy. I never wanted to hurt my precious Torah. What's your name? He smiled and said, my name is Naruto. She handed the ninja the cash and walked out of the office, saying, well Naruto, you have my thanks. Hokage-sama, here is the payment and an extra bonus for Naruto-chan. Naruto was picked up off the ground by Minato. Naruto, can you understand every animal or just cats? Asked he. More than cats. There were the birds which sang in the mornings or the rabbits in the bushes around the orphanage. The rats told me they wanted food. What rats, Naruto? Inquired the Hokage. Those in the cellars of the orphanage. Fearing the worst, he inquired, why were you in the cellars? The matron locked me in there when it was the day for foster parents to choose children. She said I would scare them away and she wouldn't let that happen to the other children. It was extremely difficult for Minato to control his desire to kill. The Hokage said, I see. He said, Anbu. Yes, Hokage-sama? Get me the matron of the orphanage Naruto was in. The Anbu replied, yes, Hokage-sama, and disappeared. Team 5 was taken aback. It never occurred to them that a young boy would receive such treatment. This Naruto was who? He appeared to be a very kind youngster. Yago had a lot on his mind. Is a demon really this kind? Or was he merely being tactful in order to be taken lightly? But why didn't he defend himself if he was a demon? Additionally, he recently resolved the enduring issue of Torah the Demon Cat, the scourge of all genin teams, escaping. The Hokage declared, Team 5, you are dismissed. After bowing, the 4 departed the office. Minato shook with rage and said, Sarutobi, can you trust the ninjas in this room absolutely? After glancing around, Sarutobi threw the 2 chunin away. The Anbu were reliable. Everyone could see that Minato would kill the matron when he dropped the henge. Let me punish this woman. I will show her what happens when you mistreat children, especially my son. There was no overt indication from the Anbu that they had seen the Yondaime Hokage and that he had claimed that the Jinchuriki was his son. 2 things occurred at this time. Danzo was taken aback when he walked into the room and the Anbu and the orphanage matron showed up. His temples were rubbed by the Sannin. Kakashi, please take Naruto with you. He mustn't see this, said Minato. With a, yes sensei, response, Kakashi retrieved Naruto from Minato. The matron appeared to frighten Naruto. What does this monster do here? Why have I been taken from the orphanage? It's time for lunch. I have to observe the other caretakers, said the woman. Kakashi avoided shining alongside Naruto. Minato took hold of the woman's collar. She said, Yondaime-sama. Minato slapped the woman in the face and asked, how is this possible? Have you returned to finally destroy the demon? Shut up. What right do you have to treat Naruto like a monster? He is a child. I have heard what you did to him. I only asked for one thing when I sealed Kyuubi in him to save Konoha. For him to be seen as the hero, he is to tame the demon. To be the prison which grants the safety from the demon fox. He isn't the demon. The woman declared, he is the Kyuubi incarnation. He is my son, you imbecile scum. You have forfeited your life. Any last words? Asked Minato. But I always did my duty. You mistreated a child under your care. He is malnourished, had to stay in the cellar with rats when the possible foster parents came for adoption of children. He was isolated from the other children. Never allowed to play with them. I'm surprised that he is able to speak as well as he is able to. Danzo stated, I would be at fault for that. Minato gave him a curious glance. He said, would you care to explain, Danzo? My old root members saw how the boy was treated in the orphanage. They told me their findings and I tried to get Naruto to move to my orphanage. I knew he would be talented and wanted to train him as a ninja later. But Hokage-sama thought it would be better for him to stay there, so the only thing I was able to do was to regularly send one man to the orphanage to speak with the boy. I knew that Hokage-sama wanted him to attend the ninja academy later on, but for this he had to be able to communicate with others on a sufficient level. Thank you for your efforts, Danzo. I really appreciate this, said Minato. To the woman, he said, now to you. He used his right hand to focus chakra. It created a sphere that spiraled. Rasengan, Minato said, putting his hand in the woman's abdomen before continuing. She struck the wall with great force. She had passed away. Minato gave Danzo a look. Do you coincidentally have more information on the treatment my son got at that orphanage? Yes, I have. I think it would be wise to have a talk in private later on Yondaime-sama, he replied. Minato gave a nod. The Sannin questioned, Danzo, why didn't you tell me this? I tried to protect Naruto. You wouldn't have been able to do anything, Hiruzen. The council has you under their thumbs. They would have said that you showed favoritism to the boy even if it was just the normal treatment every child needs. But as a Jinchuriki, Naruto needs more guidance than every other child when he has to be able to control the chakra of his Biju. He needs special training. I had more possibilities to operate from the shadows as everybody think I'm only a crippled old man. But I still have my contacts. You remember our talk yesterday? Minato inquired. Now the last piece of the puzzle is in place, said Danzo. I guess you will retake your position as Hokage again? Yes, after I have collected enough proof to cut the privileges the civilian council instated for themselves after my death. Well, I guess then we should proceed to our private talk. I have some things to do before we can talk, Danzo. Please come to my mansion at 8 this evening. Then I will reveal my plans for Konoha's future to you. Sarutobi, please think of a cover story for the death of this woman. Yes, Minato. I'm glad that in 1 week you will be Hokage again. I have had enough of these headaches for the rest of my life. Minato cracked a grin. He said, okay, see you later, and turned to leave. Danzo remarked, well, that was interesting. You have no clue, Danzo. Konoha is in for a storm. He will turn everything upside down and get rid of everybody who he thinks is a threat to Konoha. He won't be the same he was when he first took the mantle. And that is what I look forward to. He was a formidable warrior, but he was kind of naïve. Now after he saw how Konoha treated his son, he will be more realistic. I just hope that he won't sacrifice everything Konoha stands for. The will of fire is unique to us and I don't want to lose this. It is what made Konoha strong in the past and allowed us to bloom. He told me his goal for our ninja picture. On the field, able to suppress their emotions to perfectly fulfill their mission but caring in their private life. I have thought about this last night after he made his proposition to help him with his goals, and I must say he has matured. I look forward to the changes he will start. It is about time that everybody is reminded of the true power a Hokage has. While at a public playground, Naruto was on the swing and Kakashi was pushing him. Minato was relieved not to witness his son's actions toward the orphanage's matron when he arrived and saw him laughing. He approached Kakashi and Naruto while wearing his henge once more. Naruto released the swing and took off into the air as soon as he saw him approaching. Running to Minato, he landed safely on his feet. Daddy, He exclaimed joyfully. Did you see me on the swing? Kakashi ni-san pushed me really high, it was so much fun. Yes, I saw it Naruto, and your landing was really good. You will do great when you start your ninja training. Naruto's hair was ruffled by him. Minato only needed to see Naruto's joyful expression to push the memory of the matron's execution to the back of his mind. Let's go, we still have to buy you some new clothes. Minato lifted Naruto off the ground and placed him on his shoulders, saying, Okay, Daddy. Naruto squealed with excitement and asked, And do you have a good view from there, Naruto? They went to the clothes stores together after Kakashi arrived. Many adults started discussing the significance of this display with one another after the three left the playgrounds. Who was the father of the demon child, and how could he be with the well-known Kakashi Hatake? Did you see this? How can the Hokage allow for this thing to run around? What if it attacks our children? Asked the woman. Yes, it should be killed and then we will be safe again. I don't understand why the Sandaime didn't finish what the Yondaime started, another replied. Suddenly a blonde woman said, Stop this idiocy. This boy isn't the demon everybody thinks he is. My husband is a ninja, and he explained the working of sealing objects to me because I was worried about the safety of my daughter Ino when I heard about it. The boy is just the prison of the demon. And Inoichi is absolutely sure that Minato Namikaze knew how to construct a seal that was safe. They were classmates at the academy, and even then he was way ahead of everybody in the art of sealing. A man questioned incredulously, What are you saying, Ren-san? Would you let your daughter play with this boy? I would observe them the first time to make sure Ino is safe, but yes I would. He is just a child. A child that has to carry a terrible burden to keep everybody safe. You are crazy, he is the reincarnation of the demon. The demon has taken over the body of the child. Now you are the one who babbles nonsense. And by the way, it's forbidden to talk about that. You did see how the child played on the swing. How he laughed when Kakashi, who by the way was the student of Minato Namikaze and should know the abilities of his sensei better than anybody else except perhaps Jiraiya-sama, pushed him higher and higher. Which demon could show such genuine happiness? That isn't a trick of a kitsune, just a little boy who has fun like every other child. One of the women said, Are you sure, Ren? Yes, Yoshino, I am sure. I think Shikaku would tell you the same. This boy isn't a danger. Peef. Shikaku would just say troublesome and wouldn't bother to explain anything to me, the lazy ass. Replied Yoshino. A few females chuckled. All Nara men were said to find everything problematic. Arriving at the clothing store were Kakashi, Minato, and Naruto. Naruto remarked, Wow, this is a big house. You're right. I'm sure we will find everything we need for you here, said Minato. After they walked into the store, many of the patrons gave Naruto a scowl. He recognized it this time. Daddy? He inquired, not understanding why they appeared so cruel. Don't be afraid, Naruto. I'm with you and nobody will hurt you, said Minato. And if they try anything, they will have to answer me first. Nobody treats my little brother bad, Kakashi continued. The store employees didn't want to believe what they were hearing when they said, Thank you, Daddy and ni-san. The demon was referred to as his little brother by the well-known copy nin. What was meant by this? Suddenly, a woman said, Stand aside. Hello, welcome to our store, gentlemen. How can I help you? She said. If Minato's suspicions were correct, the woman was in her late 40s, had blonde hair with a few gray stripes, and was most likely a retired kunoichi. Thank you, miss. We need some new clothes for my son, said Minato. After glancing at Naruto, the woman's eyes narrowed. She glanced at Kakashi and Minato. She spoke more softly. How comes you say you are his father? I happen to know who his father was, and I know for sure he died in the QB attack. What do you plan? She was staring intently, and if I don't get a sufficient answer, I will dispel this henge of yours to get my answers. This boy has been through enough. I won't let his heart be broken by somebody who uses him to get his father's techniques or fortune. Her words made Minato smile. He felt he should know her from somewhere, and this person wanted to keep Naruto safe. I think I met you before. Would you please tell me your name? Asked the man. She replied, My name is Sakuyo Yamanaka. The words, Now I remember you, came out of Minato. Kakashi gave him a look. Kakashi questioned, Who is she? She was the nurse who led the preparation course Kushina visited when she was pregnant with Naruto, replied Minato. I would never have thought to meet her as a store clerk. Why don't you work at the hospital, Sakuyo-san? Replied Minato. I ask the questions. Who are you? Minato let out a sigh. There is just one way to prove myself. You are Yamanaka. If I grant you access to my mind, you will see who I am, but I have to ask you to not tell anybody. even Inoichi, of my identity until I reveal it in about 1 week. I still have to prepare some things. All right, I agree. If I find you tell the truth, I won't say anything, she stated. They proceeded to the rear of the shop where Sakuyo began her method. She said, "Shintenshin no jutsu," and collapsed. Naruto inquired anxiously, what happened to her? You don't need to worry, Naruto. She just used a special ninjutsu to look into your father's mind to see if he is really your father, as she don't want you to be hurt. She will awake soon, Kakashi said. Naruto gave a doubtful nod. However, the women woke up a short while later and grinned at him and the others. Sakuyo led the way to the children's department after saying, "That's great news, Arashi-san. I'm glad you're back. Well, let's go and search for some clothes for Naruto-kun." Jiraiya felt content. No, he was extremely content. He received a message from a toad that Minato had called forth. He wanted him and Tsunade to go back to the village since his student was back to life. He was cursing the council inside. When he and Tsunade left the village without saying goodbye to their sensei, a messenger informed them that Naruto had died the night of the Kyuubi attack. Jiraiya now wished he had bid farewell. Naruto's survival would have been known to his sensei. However, his grief over Minato, Kushina, and Naruto's deaths had rendered him oblivious. He asked the chief toad to deliver a message to Tsunade's slug summons right away. By doing this, he hoped to get to her more quickly. Tsunade was hiding from creditors, so it was very hard to find her, but he had some ideas about where she might be. Tsunade was seated at the roulette table in a casino. She didn't care that she had already lost a significant amount of money. She made an effort to put her loved ones' deaths behind her. Why did Kami-sama give her such a bad hand in life, she asked herself. Her younger brother Nawaki was the first to perish in the conflict. Dan passed away in a fight just when she thought things were getting better. Their wedding was already planned, and their son Minato was only 2 years old. He had not been saved by her. Minato was the sole reason she returned to Konoha, but her enemies prevented her from becoming the mother she desired. Minato would have been targeted if they had discovered that he was her son. Additionally, it was extremely challenging to protect even one child during the war. After that, Minato matured and developed into a ninja genius. He was able to fulfill his father's dream of becoming Hokage, which he shared. On the day of his inauguration, she had been incredibly proud. The youngest Whirlpool princess, who was also an incredible kunoichi, was the object of his love. He then informed her that she would soon become a grandmother. Minato and Kushina were ecstatic and eagerly awaited Naruto's birth. She would never comprehend why he chose to name his firstborn after a character from Jiraiya's book. At least her perverted teammate's unhealthy pastime had not been adopted by her son. The day she lost everything then arrived. The day Konoha was attacked by the goddamned Kyuubi. When Kushina went into labor, Minato had to figure out how to defeat Kyuubi. She did everything she could to save Kushina's life because it was clear that Kyuubi's Yuki had obstructed a normally uneventful birth. They were defeated. After giving birth to Naruto, Kushina passed away in Minato's arms 30 minutes later. It wasn't over, and he was devastated. In order to stop Kyuubi, he had to employ a jutsu that would turn his son into a Jinchuriki. It was the only way to save Konoha, but no one wanted to place that burden on any child, least of all his own. Minato had maintained that he was the only one with enough chakra to survive the sealing, despite Sarutobi's offer to perform the sealing so Naruto could at least have one parent. Sarutobi could have done it if it had been any Biju up to 6 tails, but if it had been one of the 3 strongest, he was too old. It also happened to be the damned 9-tailed fox, which is the strongest of all. When Minato brought Naruto along, all they saw was Gamabunta and a dazzling white light before the demon disappeared. They had been waiting for Naruto to return, but a council messenger informed them that he had passed away during the sealing. Devastated, she and Jiraiya departed Konoha without bidding Sarutobi farewell. He would comprehend. She couldn't bear to remain in Konoha with all of her loved ones dead. Dan's niece Shizune had gone with her. She was still reasonably sane for herself. When she gambled excessively or drank excessively, she stopped her. However, she was aware of the void within herself. What was the point of her existence? Without thinking, she bet on the red 2. It made no difference. The croupier spanned the wheel and the bets were placed. 2 red, he declared. Shizune joyfully yelled. You won, Tsunade, you won. Tsunade never won anything, so she didn't believe her eyes. That was not good. Or it might be pure luck. She needed to be certain. She had to leave right away if she won again. Thus, she placed her winnings and her initial setting on the black 37. Shizune felt terrified. Her master risked much. Needed money, but why? Once more, the wheel spanned. As the croupier said, 37 black, Tsunade said, Shizune, take my winnings, we're going out. Something was going to happen, and her gambling wins were never good because of her past experiences. A small slug materialized in front of Tsunade and Shizune as they were just outside the town. Greetings Lady Tsunade and Shizune. My mother Katsuyu sent me to relay a message that has been given to us for you by the Toads. Minato Namikaze has been resurrected by the Death God and has asked Jiraiya to get you to return to Konoha because he needs your help. And I was told to tell you that your grandson would really like to get to know you. Tsunade fell to the ground. Am I? Minato is alive again. My little Minato lives. And what about my grandson? I was told he died? No, they are both alive and wait for you in Konoha. Tsunade trembled with rage. They had misled her. She had a living grandson. The entire time, he had been alive. She had been misled by these council bastards. She inquired, where do I meet Jiraiya? He is on his way and should arrive here in a few hours. Thank you Tsuki, that are great news. Tell your mother my thanks. Tsuki laughed and said, yes, Lady Tsunade. Tsunade? Inquired Shizune. These bastards lied to me. They put me through hell and let me believe my grandson died 3 years ago. They will suffer as I have suffered. Nobody messes with my family. They will feel the fury of the Senju clan. How much did I win Shizune? A lot. Is it enough to repay all my debts? Yes, easily. Then please do this. When Jiraiya arrives I want to head to Konoha immediately. Shizune replied, yes sensei, and left for town. Jiraiya arrived 3 hours later. He said, nice to see you again, Tsunade, Shizune. Same to you Jiraiya. Are you ready to kill those bastards of the council? Replied Tsunade. Count me in. If they didn't lie to us, I would have taken care of Naruto. I am his damned godfather, I mean. Yes. And I think there is a reason they lied. They must plan something why they wanted us out of the village. Well, we will thwart their plans. One thing I know for sure, Minato won't stand for this. Minato spent his leisure time in the village getting to know Naruto. His son had a lot of energy. He was unable to remain motionless for extended periods of time. He had a lot of questions, and Minato took his time to answer them. Naruto took in everything that was said to him like a sponge. Minato chose to go for a walk in the forest because Naruto loved animals. Naruto saw many different animals there, and the place was serene. He appeared to converse with the squirrels that hopped on top of his head. Minato inquired curiously, what do they tell you? In response, Naruto said, they want nuts, and they are hiding from eagles as they hunt them. Minato grinned. His son was a unique youngster, and as long as he could, he would make sure he had a happy childhood. He would soon learn the truth about being a ninja. Sensing that there were 2 people hiding, Minato prepared for an attack. However, 2 ANBUs bearing the root unit sign descended in front of him and Naruto. Excuse the disturbance Arashi-san, but Danzo-sama sent us to watch over you and your son. We would have stayed hidden but didn't want to make you think we were enemies. The 2 nodded and vanished, saying, I see, I will thank Danzo for his thoughtfulness tonight. Naruto said, Daddy, who were they? Minato clarified that, Anbias who make sure nobody tries to attack us. Naruto questioned, we don't need to go back, do we? He desired to remain with his father in the forest. Naruto grinned and said, not now, later. Minato trailed him as he ran farther into the forest. Minato checked his timepiece. Well, I think my surprise for the shopping district will go off soon, he murmured. The villagers shopped at the well-equipped booths in Konoha's central marketplace. Many farmers from outside the village had come to sell their wares on this market day. People flooded the area and the streets. No one believed that something was going to occur. Some seals around the area started to glow blue without anyone noticing. They were positioned so that almost no one would notice the problem until it was too late. Then there were some explosions. There was a yellow mist covering the entire area. People started screaming and attempting to clear the mist. The Uchihas on patrol cleared the mist in 20 minutes. The hair of all of them was yellow when it finally vanished. Vivid yellow. After 15 more minutes, they noticed a sign on the front of the main storage facility, which belonged to a member of the civilian council. A large flash of yellow. Right now, Sarutobi was not content. He heard about the incident at the marketplace and was all too familiar with the perpetrator. He was relieved that Minato had simply dyed everyone's hair as a sign, but he wasn't going to stop there. For those who had wronged Naruto, this prank served as a warning. The sign on one of the civilian council members' stores served as evidence of this. The following days would be worse, that was certain. He feared that something would occur at the Uchiha compound or the police station. They were the main targets of Minato's retaliation. That is, until he discovered the evidence he sought. He would then proceed with more severe measures. But now that he had to deal with all the complaints, he simply gave him a terrible headache. There were those who dared to accuse Naruto of being responsible for everything. Like a 3-year-old boy could pull off such a practical joke. Minato attempted to put Naruto to bed at 7:30. His son, however, was not ready to go to sleep just yet. He was curious about the person his father wished to meet. He was in his pajamas after taking a bath and eating. In an attempt to get away from his father's catch, he ran across the living room. Minato chased Naruto and said, "Come on, it's time to go to bed." He swooped under the table and slithered across the floor, saying, "No, I'm not sleepy. I want to meet your guest." Minato was just an inch away from him. He swore, "Naruto." This continued for 20 more minutes. How could a 3-year-old boy be so quick and difficult to catch? Minato wondered. At last, Minato was able to seize Naruto. "You're really difficult to catch, you know this?" he replied. Naruto writhed in his embrace. He pouted when he realized he had no way out. "Unfair," he complained. Minato gave it careful thought. "If I allow you to meet my guest, will you then go to bed without struggling and sleep without complaints?" asked the man. "Yes, Daddy," replied Naruto. "Promise?" Naruto nodded and said, "I promise." Naruto and Minato took seats at the couch. "Well, you know, if you train your evasion skills you will make one hell of a ninja later," Minato stated to Naruto. "Really, Daddy?" Naruto exclaimed, thrilled by the compliment. "Yes, really," he inquired, "when can I start training?" Naruto sulked at this, saying, "You are a bit too young to start just yet." Minato grinned. With this face, Naruto was adorable. At the 8th point, the doorbell rang. Minato went to get the door after telling Naruto to wait in the living room. Soon after, he and Danzo returned to the room. "Naruto, this is Danzo Shimura, a very strong ninja of this village. Danzo, my son Naruto." Danzo remarked, "Nice to meet you, Naruto-kun." Naruto looked curiously at the man in front of him and remarked, "It's nice to meet you too. What happened to your eye? Why do you hide it under the bandages?" replied Naruto. Danzo replied, "Well, I was hurt and couldn't see with this eye." "That's sad. Can't the doctors help you?" "They tried but the injury was too severe." Naruto remarked, "That sucks." Then he said, "But you can still be a ninja?" "Well, not on the field. At the moment I use my time to train children who want to be ninjas." "That's so cool. I want to be a ninja too, just like Daddy." Danzo remarked, "It's good to know Naruto-kun. Naruto, I think it's time for you to go to bed, now that you've met Danzo-san." The words, "Okay Daddy, bye Danzo-san," were spoken by Naruto. Danzo nodded and took a seat at the couch after Minato told him, "I'll just tuck him in and then come back." After 5 minutes, Minato came back, and he and Danzo started chatting. Danzo started by saying, "I'm really surprised that you are alive again." "Well, the reason is that the gods have poker evenings every 6 months. Shinigami-sama made a bet with an angel he wanted to date for a while. If he won, she would go on a date with him. If she won, he had to resurrect a soul of her choosing. That happened to be me. The angel that made this bet with Shinigami-sama was Naruto's guardian angel." Danzo said, "A story very hard to believe. I know, but every word is true. That's the only reason I can be with my little boy. And I will see that he can grow up happily." "Are you sure your feelings for him won't clash with your goals for a stronger Konoha?" "Yes, as the reasons for his misery are the same as those who weakens the village. As you heard, Naruto wants to be a ninja. What do you think would happen when he enters the academy in a few years seeing his current treatment?" Danzo considered this query. Well, he would have difficulties as he won't have a suitable training partner as all the parents keep their children away from him. If the academy teachers won't be changed, it could happen that they would deny him a proper education. Yes, and without a proper education he would fall behind all the other children and the level of the academy couldn't be that high as they need to take every child with the class. The pace of learning is set by the slow students. When one student is held on a low level on purpose, the rest will stay low as well. Therefore the whole class will suffer and have fewer chances to survive the first year as genins if they pass the test of their jonin senseis, that is. That will be a problem as he as a Jinchuriki needs more training than any other child. If he won't be able to control his Biju's chakra, it could be dangerous for the village. Yes, but the seal is foolproof. Shinigami-sama himself powered it. That's not a problem for the next 10 years. Naruto will only be able to access the chakra in low doses when he is very angry or has another strong emotion. Or when his life is in danger. The chakra of the fox will be converted into Naruto's own chakra the older he gets. At the age of 20 he will have absorbed all of Kyuubi's chakra and the fox's spirit will return to hell. That's an incredible seal. That takes care of every problem other Jinchurikis had in the past. Yes, I wanted to make sure that my son was safe even when I was forced to place this burden on his shoulders. Danzo's mind was racing. Naruto would make a fantastic ninja if this were the case. With the right training, he would be able to use the almost limitless chakra supplies at his disposal. If anybody outside of Konoha finds this out, they will come to take him away or try to kill him to destroy the threat to their own forces, he said. Yes, and that's the reason why I asked Sarutobi to keep his heritage a secret. I have too many enemies that would love to get revenge through my son. And that didn't even include Orochimaru and Madara Uchiha, who are still outside and plan to destroy Konoha. I see. I suppose Madara was behind the Kyuubi attack as he is one of the few who was able to control a Biju. Yes. Kyuubi was put under a very strong genjutsu. I wasn't able to break it, I tried, believe it. Does this mean Kyuubi would work together with Naruto? No, he is an evil demon. He loves to destroy things. Madara just turned him towards Konoha. The fox can't be trusted. I will tell Naruto about his burden when he is old enough to understand. Until then I will train him to be strong enough not to rely on the fox in dire situations. The fox could use that to try to weaken the seal and take over. The Yuki of Kyuubi is malevolent. It destroys everything in its path. The seal transforms it so Naruto isn't hurt by it. Danzo grinned. Then he inquired, what other plans did you make for Konoha? I want to reform the council. It takes too much time to make decisions. The council was made to ease the workload of the Hokage so he could spend more time with his main objective, the protection of the village. But now the Hokage's main objective is doing paperwork. That isn't the way things work. As I see it, most of the problems could be solved by the responsible side of the council. I will investigate what kind of things end up on the Hokage's desk and then sort out what is not the responsibility of the Hokage. The council is just an instrument to advise the Hokage not to rule the village and waste the Hokage's time. That's true. I always questioned the ways Sarutobi let them get through with their petty requests. They will see what they did. Sooner or later. For them I hope they didn't commit treason because I'm very tempted to use all the power the Hokage truly has against them. It is time that they see what a true Hokage is able to do. Danzo merely gave a nod. Minato refused to make shady concessions. He desired a permanent solution to the village's problems. What about the Hyuga incident? Well, we have the advantage that we only captured the kidnapper and that he wasn't killed. Kumo has no means to ask for reparation. We didn't act against the contract. The ambassador was treated with utmost politeness until he hurt the pact on his side. Inoichi and Ibiki are questioning him as of now. When we know his motives for the kidnapping attempt, we can make requests to Kumo. And I'm sure that the Reikage is behind everything. If he wants a war, he will get one. One that only lasts a few minutes. I will personally slaughter his soldiers if he thinks he can make demands of Konoha. They wronged us and not the other way around. I hope my reputation will suffice to make them think twice to go to war. I'm sure it will. They just tried because Sarutobi wants to keep the peace at nearly every price. Well, he had no choice, but I have. I don't have to send an army as I am one myself. If Kumo thinks they are ready to face the Yellow Flash, they're in for a surprise. And I will show them that I'm alive again. The guards stationed at the main gate were bored at 7 in the morning. No one would come or go at this hour. The returning ninjas typically didn't arrive until 9, and the missions wouldn't begin until 8. Unless it was required for the mission, no regular ninja traveled through the night. One Chunin guard grumbled, "It's so boring to keep watch at this time of day." The other said, "You're right, Kai, but what can we do? Orders are orders." Kai, a teenage boy, said, "I wish something would happen." I agree. It would be a really great thing if some prominent ninjas would come through. Yeah, imagine if somebody as famous as the Sannin would turn up, then we had some story to tell. Unlikely they would come by. They left Konoha 3 years ago and haven't returned since then. They noticed sudden movements at the horizon. Well, it seems at least somebody is coming. It won't be the Sannin, but you can't get it all. You're right. They wanted to retract their statements 5 minutes later. Kai said, "Identify yourselves." The white-haired man said, "Jiraiya of the Sannin is returning to report in for the Hokage." The blonde woman said, "Tsunade Senju of the Sannin is returning to report in for the Hokage." The teenage girl informed them that Chunin Shizune Namikaze, Tsunade Senju's apprentice, was returning to report in for the Hokage. The little pig she was holding had a marble chain around his neck. The jaws of the two guards struck the floor. A girl from the Namikaze clan, thought to be extinct, and the two Sannin who remained faithful to Konoha were making their way back to Konoha. "Welcome back. The Hokage will be happy that you have returned," Kai replied. Jiraiya muttered, "After we have spoken, we will see how happy he is." Just now, Sarutobi had reached his office. As requested by Minato, he sent out the meeting's callings in 5 days. It would be a complete mess if the blonde killed everyone in the council, he hoped. Although he could appreciate his rage, he didn't believe that killing them all would be appropriate. In actuality, he was too old for the position. And even after using Kage Bun Shin no Jutsu, he still hadn't resolved all of the complaints from the previous day because of Minato's prank. Since it was still early in the morning and no one was bothering him, he was able to complete this task before continuing with his regular tasks. Or so he believed. The door was knocked on. "Yes," he yelled. His helper came in. "Hokage-sama, there are 3 ninjas that returned this morning and want to speak with you," she stated to him. He asked, snatching at his coffee, "Who are they?" Sarutobi spat out his coffee and said, "Well, Jiraiya, Tsunade Senju, and Shizune Namikaze." "What?" he inquired. The assistant merely gave a nod. "Send them in, please." She replied, "Yes, Hokage-sama," and the 3 of them soon entered the office. "Tsunade, Jiraiya, Shizune. What a pleasant surprise that you have returned." Tsunade remarked, "I don't think it will be this pleasant, sensei." As Sarutobi questioned, "What happened, Tsunade?" "What happened, you ask? We were lied to by the damned council that happened. I thought my son and my grandson both died in the Kyuubi attack. My heart broke and I couldn't stand staying in the village any longer. And yesterday one of the toads contacted my slug summoning to inform me that my grandson was alive the whole time. Don't you think that I have every reason to be pissed?" she barked. "I can just verify what Tsunade said. I thought I lost everything that night. Sensei, I was supposed to be Naruto's godfather. I feel like I abandoned the boy all these years. Please tell me you were able to protect him from the council and that he hasn't been mistreated," Jiraiya continued. To the ground, Sarutobi appeared ashamed. "Sensei, what happened to you? You once were the god of the shinobi. How can some mere civilians order you around? Why did you never mention Naruto in one of your messages?" Jiraiya yelled. "I thought you both knew about him. I thought you left because with Minato's and Kushina's death you couldn't bear staying. Even if that was the case, I would have taken my grandson with me. I would never have abandoned him here. Not with these vultures. Where is he? I want to see him." "He's with Minato at the Namikaze mansion," Shizune remarked. "Then Minato is really alive again. That's wonderful." "Yeah," Tsunade concurred. "But this will not be the end of it. The council is in for torture of the worst kind. You can reserve the beds in the hospital for them. First to go there will be the old hags you call your teammates, sensei. Then each member of the civilian side, and then I will look onto the behavior of the shinobi side. Nobody will be spared of my wrath." The fire in Tsunade's eyes was visible to Sarutobi. He had a suspicion that Minato had meant for no one to stop her when he called her back. "Another question, sensei. Will Minato take back the seat from you?" Jiraiya responded. "Yes, he said that was the easiest way for him to protect Naruto, and it seems he has allied himself with Danzo." "With Danzo? I would never have thought he would work together with him. He is always the first one to cry for war." Minato seems to believe that he and Danzo could find a compromise to strengthen Konoha, especially the future generations of ninjas. They have similar believing for the educational system. The civilian council has reduced the level that is taught at the academy as the children there are not ninjas and therefore under their liability. That's bullshit. These children are the future soldiers of Konoha. They have to be prepared for what can happen in the field. If they don't know what it means to be a ninja, they won't survive their first year. Does the council want them to die early? Jiraiya responded. Well, the Shinobi Council argued the same way, but they didn't bother, and my powers have been cut before I was re-established. That's bordering treason, sensei. The Hokage is a military dictator, not a democratically elected leader. Therefore no civilian council has the superiority to tell him what he has to do, Tsunade said. They were backed up by the daimyo. They somehow got his support. When I took back the mantle it was too late. All I could do was to limit the damage that was done. Jiraiya dreaded the response as she asked, and what would that be? Well, I stopped them from killing Naruto as the civilian side and Fugaku wanted and stopped their influence over those who passed the graduation exam at the academy. But I wasn't able to get him adopted into the Sarutobi or the Hyuga clan. The council stopped it. So the only possibility was to put him in the orphanage. But as we found out recently, they didn't treat him well. Minato already executed the matron in charge with a Rasengan. This will stop. I will make sure Naruto will be treated with the respect he deserves, said Tsunade. And I will tell the daimyo what a mistake it was to let the civilians influence the powers of the Hokage. Jiraiya put his arm around Tsunade's shoulders and escorted her out of the office, saying, "Sensei, if you want to see us, we will be at Minato's mansion." Shizune trailed behind the pair of Sannin. "I messed up this a lot," Sarutobi muttered. Minato sat with Naruto at the kitchen table and taught his son how to use chopsticks correctly. He quickly discovered that Naruto was not taught anything by the orphanage and that he had to figure out what worked and what didn't by trial and error. But because of this, his manners were awful. Minato whispered to Naruto, "Eat slowly, you have time to eat. No one will steal your food." Naruto nodded and made an effort to avoid wolfing down everything at once. Minato asked, fearing the response, "Was this the only way you got food at the orphanage?" Naruto appeared dejected. "Yes. I was always the last one they let go to the buffet, and then the things I really wanted to eat were gone. If I wasn't fast enough I got nothing at all because they took it away to the kitchen." Naruto grinned and nodded, saying, "That is over, Naruto. You will never have to fear this again." Having a father was wonderful. Naruto attempted to hold his chopsticks as Minato had instructed. Without dropping it, he reached for a piece of fruit Minato had cut for him and began to eat it. He exclaimed with joy, "Look, Daddy, I did it." "Yes, very good Naruto. With training you will become perfect in no time at all," he reassured him. The doorbell rang. Minato thought to himself, who could that be this early? He got to his feet and walked to the door. In order to transmit the picture of the people standing at the entrance along with their chakra levels, he activated a seal. He couldn't stop smiling after learning everything. They were quicker than he had anticipated. Using a chakra signal to the seal, he opened the gate and allowed them to enter. Then he waited for them, opening the door. They were standing in front of him in less than a minute. With tears in her eyes, Tsunade whispered, "Minato, you truly are alive again." "Yes, I am," he smiled. Tsunade then cried with joy as she flew in his arms. Jiraiya remarked, "It's great to see you again, kid." "Thank you sensei." Ni-san, Shizune acknowledged. They nodded, and Tsunade wiped away her tears. "Hey Shizune-chan. It's really good to see you all again. I never thought you would be this fast. But I'm happy. Come in, don't let us stay in the grounds." She questioned, "How is this possible Minato? Shinigami-sama lost a bet with an angel at poker and had to resurrect me to fulfill his end of the bargain. The angel was Naruto's guardian angel and couldn't stand to see how he was treated here. Naruto, my little grandson, where is he? He is in the kitchen and tries to learn how to use chopsticks properly. He was never taught anything at the orphanage. Can you believe that his abilities to speak are only this good because Danzo sent one of his retired root agents to talk with him?" Jiraiya raged, "What? They neglected him this much?" "Yes, I don't know if you already met with Sarutobi, but I executed the matron yesterday." "Yes, we heard it. Best thing you could do, I think. You will have a lot of work when you retake the hat," Jiraiya replied. "I know, and I have plans. Plans that will put the council in its place." They arrived at the kitchen. Minato informed Naruto, "We have guests." Out of surprise, Naruto dropped his piece of fruit, and his face immediately lit up with horror. Minato feared that the treatment in the orphanage was also the cause of the statement, "That was not purposely, I swear." "Hey, I know this Naruto, you don't need to fear I would punish you for something like this. I would only punish you if you did something really bad, but not for dropping a piece of fruit to the floor. You can take it up and put it in the trash, then we clean it with a wet paper and that's it." "Really, Daddy?" With a shy smile, Naruto said, "Yes, really." Tsunade intended to murder every member of the orphanage staff. How could they convince a young child that he would suffer consequences for such an act? She knew better than to ask, but she dreaded the remainder of his treatment. Naruto turned to face the three guests. Curious, he said, "Who are they, Daddy?" Minato grinned. "Naruto, these are the people I told you about 2 days ago. The blonde woman is my mother Tsunade, your grandmother. The black-haired woman is my cousin Shizune Namikaze, and the white-haired man is Jiraiya, my sensei, and he is also your godfather." With some trembling, Naruto questioned, "They are my family?" To reassure him, Minato grinned and said, "Yes, they are." Naruto approached the trio at a leisurely pace. The kind words, "Hello Naruto," came from Tsunade. "You really have grown since the last time I saw you. You were a tiny baby then." "Granny?" he inquired. She gave a nod. Then he grinned and gave her a hug. Tsunade gave him a tearful hug in return. He was just glad she was there now and didn't inquire as to why she hadn't been there before. The scene made the other three smile. Shizune was aware that Tsunade had been afraid Naruto would reject her and be upset that she hadn't dated him, but it appeared that he was a good hearted boy who focused on the positive rather than the negative. He questioned, "Will you play with me, Granny?" Tsunade replied, "Naruto. Chan, of course. But first you have to finish your breakfast." Okay. Naruto attempted to get into his chair, but Minato had to assist him, then he went back to eating. Shizune. Chan, would you please stay with Naruto? I want to talk to mom and sensei for a while. Ni-san, of course, Shizune replied. Jiraiya and Tsunade followed Minato into the living room. Minato asked right away, "Why have you two never been with him?" "The damned council sent a messenger the night you went out to seal the damned fox. We knew you would sacrifice your life, but the messenger told us that Naruto didn't survive the sealing and died as well. After this we couldn't stand staying in Konoha any longer and left the same night without saying goodbye. I sent regular reports of my spy network to sensei, but I never returned. I thought I lost everything that night," Jiraiya clarified. Tsunade gave a nod. It was as if history repeated itself. It was the same horrible feeling when I lost my little brother or when I wasn't able to save your father Dan. But this time I had nothing left. When your father died, I had you and you were the anchor I could hold on to. But with you and Naruto gone I had nothing left in Konoha. Minato clenched his fists and said, "I understand. One more crime they will pay for." He vowed that the council would not survive this. His family shouldn't have been messed with in this way. Jiraiya inquired, "What do you plan, Minato? In 5 days is the meeting where I will announce my return. Danzo is helping me with the laws I have to pass immediately to regain the full power of the Hokage without the council meddling in these affairs. We have agreed to reform the educational system. He has some really interesting ideas. I have sent some toads to spy on the members of the council. I expect results in some days. When I have proof of their treason, I will let them be taken to the Anbuti and I unit to gather whatever information they have. I know for sure Inoichi and Ibiki will find everything they hide. The Hyuga clan is already under investigation due to an attempted kidnapping of Haishi's daughter Hinata. I coincidentally could stop the kidnapper and it turned out to be the ambassador Kumo sent for the signing of the peace contract. He is in for interrogation right now. But he would never been able to infiltrate the Hyuga compound without inside help. That Hiyashi is analyzing. That's a grave thing to happen. It could lead to a new war with Kumo. Only if they are stupid. I will send requests for reparation for the violation of the peace contract to Kumo with one of my 3-pronged kunai as a warning. If they really believe they can beat me in the field, let them think it. Kumo will be short of ninjas for a long time if they try it. I have enough of my Hiraishin kunai to take down another army. Jiraiya said, "You're really mad." Of course I am. You saw it yourself in the kitchen. Because of the idiocy of the council, Naruto never had a family. Sarutobi and Hizashi tried to adopt him, but the civilian side with the help of Fugaku Uchiha and Kaharu and Homura blocked this. He was sent to the orphanage where the matron systematically tore his soul apart. He is malnourished because they never let him eat properly. He was isolated from the other children. When possible foster parents came to the orphanage, he was imprisoned in the cellar with rats. How could I not be furious? Naruto told me the only times they were nice to him were when Sarutobi visited. But they threatened him that he would be punished if he told Sarutobi anything about his usual treatment. I just find out more and more about it. It will take a lot of time for his emotional wounds to heal. The only good thing I can see is that it didn't last longer and he wasn't physically abused. Oh my god. I never would have thought it possible for something like this to happen in Konoha. Tsunade wept. Me too, mom. If I had known, I would have made sure that nobody knew about the sealing. I thought Konoha's villagers would be less stupid and could see the boy, not the demon. We will help you, Minato. Nobody will dare to hurt Naruto when we announce who he really is. I think this will be the only way to stop how the villagers see him. Their respect for you is too big to let them harm your son. No one spoke because they knew he was correct. They can put their respect to the trash. If they really respected me, they would have honored my last wish and seen Naruto as the hero he is. Naruto yelled, "Daddy, Granny, I'm ready." They agreed to speak later in silence. Tsunade questioned, "Great Naruto, what do you want to do today?" Naruto gave it careful thought. He scrunched his face in concentration, and the adults thought he looked cute. Well, it was really cold the last weeks and I thought, well, I know the other children were taken to a lake to ice skate there. Perhaps we could go there? He inquired with excitement. Tsunade replied, "Of course we can do this, Naruto." Naruto's expression brightened. "Thank you, Granny, thank you. I always wanted to go there." The stories the others told when they returned sounded great. Although hearing about this made Minato sad, he was only able to make changes for the future. "Well, we could pack a picnic to take with us. What would you like to eat at the lake?" replied Tsunade. In response, Naruto said, I don't know, then we just have to take various things so you could try them all. She chose. Naruto gave a nod. Can we ask Hinata-chan if she wants to come too? He inquired. Who is Hinata-chan? Inquired Shizune. My new friend, Naruto joyfully informed them. Well, I don't think Hiyashi would be against it. Perhaps we could also take Neji with us. He is only a year older than Hinata and Naruto. And Hisashi also knows about me, said Minato. The others gave a nod. Naruto leapt all over. If they could visit the lake that day, it would be fantastic. After just 5 days, Minato had everything ready to bring hell down on the council. He also played 3 more practical jokes on the civilian council members and the villagers to kill time. He gave his toads plenty of time to look through the council members' houses. To trick them, the Sandame had cursed Minato's ideas. The orange slime he dropped over the Uchiha compound had taken hours to remove. They were still unsure of how he accomplished that. Fugaku was furious that the powerful Uchiha clan had been humiliated by the yellow prankster, as the villagers dubbed the unidentified perpetrator. At 10 o'clock, Jiraiya and Tsunade were to join him for the meeting. At the Namikaze mansion, Shizune would watch Naruto, Neji, and Hinata. Hiyashi had consented to invite Hinata and Neji to play with him. Neji and Naruto were now close friends after getting along so well at the lake. Since there were no kids their age in the Hyuga clan, he was happy that his daughter and his nephew had made a new friend. 10 years old was the next younger child. The estate was almost as large as the Hyuga compound, but it had fewer buildings and more open space, so they could play in the gardens and woods behind the mansion. Everything was protected by a massive wall, and Minato's seals were unquestionably infallible. Minato had the Namikaze crest on his right shoulder and was dressed in his old Hokage uniform. Tsunade had the Senju crest affixed to the front of her jacket, but otherwise she was dressed normally. Jiraiya was from a civilian family, so he didn't wear a clan crest. The official Hokage robes were worn by Sarutobi. Well, said Sarutobi, it's time. Yes, Minato informed them, I will hide my presence by using an illusion barrier. They gave a nod. He desired a grand entrance. The other members were already waiting together when the 4 arrived at the council chambers. Good morning, everyone, Sarutobi said. They were shocked to see the 2 devoted Sannin with him when they first looked at him. Well, I have a lot of things I want to discuss with the council, but first let us greet my students Jiraiya and Tsunade who have returned to Konoha. A couple of the greetings were modified. Jiraiya occupied a seat on the civilian side, while Tsunade assumed the Senju clan's council seat. Since the Sannin's council was typically very helpful to Konoha, it had been decided to give them a seat on the council. However, he spent the majority of his time traveling throughout the nations in order to obtain information. Sarutobi requested silence from the council. As you all know, I don't get younger, and therefore I made Minato Namikaze my successor 4 years ago. Tragically, he sacrificed his life to defeat the Kyuubi no Kitsune. But I feel that I am way too old to be Hokage, and so I decided that it was time for a younger man to take the mantle. A week ago something happened that can't be described otherwise than a great strike of luck for Konoha. A hero returned to our village and I decided to make him Hokage. I want to introduce my successor, please show yourself. Minato dropped the illusion barrier next to Sarutobi, making himself visible to everyone. His expression was severe. Yandaime-sama, was repeated by many. The genjutsu they believed the man had used was attempted to be broken by the shinobi side. There were numerous kai shouts. Minato declared, I am not an imposter or illusion as you may believe. I think you were told that I used a sealing jutsu powered by Shinigami-sama himself to manage the sealing of Kyuubi no Kitsune into a newborn boy. This jutsu came at a price and I sacrificed my soul to Shinigami-sama to save Konoha from the wrath of the demon. But when I returned to Konoha a week ago, how this was possible I will tell you later. I had to realize that it possibly had been better if I just had let the demon destroy the village. Minato's voice was icy. His response was a shriek of outrage. Silence, was Minato's command. I only made one request when I went to seal the demon. That you assholes treated the baby boy I had to place this terrible burden upon as the hero he is for imprisoning the demon. Thanks to him Kyuubi will never again see the daylight. He will rot in his prison and he gets weaker and weaker with every day Naruto gets older. But the first thing I had to do was rescuing him from a mob of villagers who chased him through the streets. And nobody bothered to help him. I passed 2 patrols of the Konoha military police Fugaku. Care to explain why they didn't help him? He appeared vicious toward the Uchiha the clan. Well, they didn't recognize that somebody needed help. Then they are not suited to uphold the safety of the village. I heard Naruto's screams from the main gate, they were much nearer. By the way, the dead villagers are my responsibility. Who wants to kill children has no right to live. I killed them in seconds. Fugaku was taken aback. He had intended to attribute the dead villagers to the demon child, but his plan had been foiled. There is more. Minato focused on the civilian side of the council as well as the elders Homura and Kaharu. I know that you all demanded for Naruto to be executed. Tell me one reason why I shouldn't execute you instead. Kaharu said icily, he is possessed by the demon. We have to kill him before he can kill us. Seconded by a civilian counselor. Minato said menacingly, you doubt my abilities as a seal master? The same man attempted to defend himself by saying, no Yondaime-sama. I personally did the sealing and Shinigami-sama himself lent me his powers. How on earth should the demon be able to escape his prison? A woman with pink hair said, he took over the boy when he entered his body, so he is now the demon. Nonsense. He is a normal child. Hiyashi, you used your Byakugan to look at Naruto. Does he have demonic chakra? Replied Minato. No Yondaime-sama. His chakra, while at a really high level for a child his age, is perfectly normal. There are no traces of Yuki in his chakra coils. Thank you, Hiyashi. There you heard it. The head of the Hyuga clan, the only clan in the village that is able to see chakra in the body of humans, has proven that Naruto is no demon. The woman with the pink hair screamed, he is dangerous. If he ever loses control, he will attack us and our children. Counselor Haruno, I will throw you out if don't stop screeching like a banshee. This is a council and not a pub, said Minato. She remained quiet for a while. Also, I found out that before Sandaime-sama was reinstated as Hokage, you used the time to cut the powers of the Hokage and increased your own powers. This is a ninja village. The Hokage is the military dictator and your job is to advise him, not do the job yourself. Danzo-sama, would you please show the documents your spies found? Minato inquired courteously. They had consented to give the council the impression that Danzo and his spies had discovered the evidence. He replied, Yondaime-sama, of course. My spies found out that every member of the civilian council, the elders Homura and Kaharu and Fugaku Uchiha, used the short period between your untimely death and the reinstatement of Sandaime-sama to make the following laws. The members of the civilian council were granted a pay rise of 15%. The civilian council got control over the curriculum at the Ninja Academy, the processes of adoption of orphaned children, the curriculum of the civilian schools, the taxes for imports of other nations and the export of whatever good Konoha had. The military police under the command of the Uchiha clan got free reign over the security of the village and had to report to the Hokage only if the commander of the military police deemed it necessary. Ladies and gentlemen, this is bordering treason. Only the Hokage has the right to instate this kind of laws. Even in a period where no Hokage is elected, the council's only power is to manage the running business by the existing laws. This was made law by Hashirama Senju, the first Hokage. Homura objected, saying, we had the approval of the Fire Daimyo. Ah yes, the Fire Daimyo. I think he wants to tell you something himself. I asked Hiyashi to invite his highness to our little meeting and he has listened to every word that was spoken. Some councillors shouted, what? Yes. I installed a seal under the desks that enables the counterpart of said seal to replay every word. Kind of like a walkie-talkie but less easy to track down. He smiled malevolently. Since there were so many issues to resolve following the attack, the daimyo was furious and agreed to personally visit Konoha to remove the cunning council after learning the precise terms of the laws he had signed to ensure the country's hidden village would continue to operate. He is very displeased with the ways things have been run in Konoha, especially as you have treated the heir of two powerful clans of this village like scum. On top, you could have brought a war to Konoha if the rulers of Whirlpool Country had found out how you treated Naruto, said the angry man. Kaharu questioned haughtily, why would they bother with the Jinchuriki? Do you know the surname of the king and queen of Whirlpool, Kaharu Baka? Asked Minato. How dare you call me a Baka? I demand respect, she said. I call you what you deserve to be called. I could call you worse things and you would deserve them all. The surname of the king and queen of Whirlpool is Uzumaki. Everyone fell silent at that. The only sounds in the room were sharp gasps. You heard right. Naruto is a prince of Whirlpool Country. A country that is under the protection of Fire Country since the marriage of their princess with a shinobi of Konoha. Naruto is their son. Before sharing the rest of the news, Minato wanted them to start perspiring. He observed that Jiraiya, Hiyashi, and Shikaku found the show enjoyable. Homura questioned indignantly, but how could we not know that we had a princess living in Konoha? To ensure her safety. And she didn't want to be treated like nobility, she wanted to be a kunoichi. And she was a damned good kunoichi. Perhaps you remember Kushina Uzumaki, or as she was known at the field, the Red Water Devil. Sarutobi continued. One man said, but who was her husband? According to Tsunade, my son. Everyone's eyes were on her. Sume inquired, you have a son, Tsunade-sama? Yes, I kept my son's existence a secret because if my enemies had found out about him, he would be targeted to get me. We were fighting in the Second Shinobi War when he was born. My fiancé copyright Dan and I decided it would be safer that he got his surname to trick my enemies. Tragically, Dan died in battle and I wasn't able to save him. His parents and I decided that my boy would be safer if he grew up with them, as I continually was on the battlefield. I visited him as often as I could manage. Choza questioned, who was he? Minato said, it would be me. No one wanted to accept it. I am the son of Tsunade Senju and Dan Namikaze. And if somebody hasn't added 2 and 2 successfully, Naruto Uzumaki's true name is Naruto Namikaze Senju Uzumaki and he is my son, he said. Now the civilians were perspiring. More, Tsunade demanded. She desired their suffering. You not only disregarded my dying wish, you treated my son like trash. You tried to kill him. You denied him a family. I know that you sent a messenger to my mother and my sensei Jiraiya after I died sealing the fox and told them that Naruto had died during the sealing. You wanted them outside the village so you could lead from the shadows. You feared their influence. He looked particularly at Koharu and Homura. Naruto told me how he was treated at the orphanage. They isolated him from the other children, he didn't get enough to eat, he is malnourished, and he was imprisoned in the cellar with rats when possible foster parents came to look for a child to adopt. He was punished for little mishaps like dropping food on the floor. And I found orders of this council which ordered the caretakers at the orphanage to neglect him. What? Shouted Inoichi. I never signed such an order. I won't deny I was wary of Naruto and checked his mental health every 6 months to make sure the demon couldn't escape or take him over, but I would never sign an order to mistreat a child. Minato just gave a nod. He would not blame Inoichi for this. His desire to ensure that Kyuubi posed no threat was understandable. The same is true for me. It is the greatest shame to mistreat a pup for an Inuzuka. Sume concurred. The civilian council was the target of homicidal gazes from Shibi Aburame, Choza Akamichi, Hiyashi Hyuga, Shikaku Nara, Asuma Sarutobi, and the Sandame. I heard enough. Anbu take them to Ibiki for interrogation for the suspicion of treason, said Minato. They all objected, but it didn't help. 2 Anbu quickly seized each counselor and disappeared from sight. You could have let me have some more fun with them, Minato. They didn't suffer enough. I wanted to break some bones for what they did to my grandson, Tsunade replied with dissatisfaction. I'm sure Inoichi and Ibiki will let you help with the questioning, Mom. You will come at your costs. Inoichi merely gave a nod. He would never in a million years enrage Tsunade. So, after this is taken care of, is anybody against Minato's reinstatement as Yondaime Hokage? Sarutobi inquired. There was no disagreement. He said, well, welcome back, Yondaime-sama. Thank you, Sandame-sama. I have prepared some changes to the law in advance. First, all changes made between my death and Sandame-sama's reinstatement are null and void. The Shinobi Council, which is the civilian part of the shinobi, is solely responsible for handling any shinobi-related matters. They are only able to advise the Hokage and have no decision-making authority other than in situations where the Hokage is unavailable and time is of the essence. I would like to share the new curriculum I came up with Danzo-sama after he shared his experience teaching new students at the Ninja Academy. Danzo distributed another stack of papers to the other council members. The papers were opened. The will of fire is what distinguishes Konoha from all the other nations. We are not heartless killing machines, but we are aware of when we must repress our emotions in order to complete a task successfully. As you can see, I placed the new and current curricula side by side to compare them. In order to comprehend the changes, I would like to describe the image I would like our future shinobi to present to the world. Our shinobi will be unstoppable on the field but humans in everyday life. Our shinobi will not show weakness when in battle but will be as normal as possible for a shinobi in private. Minato turned the paper to the next page. When we are not on the field, we exhibit emotions like compassion and caring. We value teamwork above all else, and that is what makes us strong. I'm against making children soldiers too early. The academy will begin at age 6 and educate the kids until they are 12. There won't be any exceptions for prodigies. They can take special classes and use the time to better prepare for what awaits them outside the village. We can't afford this. The first 2 years, all the students will stay in their respective classes. After this period, we will look how far they have come with their studies and training. He glanced around to see if everyone was following him. Fortunately, we haven't had a decrease in the quality of the new genin up to this point. However, if we don't stop the low teaching level at the academy, we will have weaker genin in the future, and only the children of the nin clans might have a chance to pass the exams of the jonin senseis. Every 6 months we will evaluate the level the students are at, and then the classes will be mixed based on the current level. The students at the bottom will get extra classes to learn the basics properly. Those in the middle will be introduced to more advanced lessons, and the top students will have the possibilities to learn special areas. The focus of the training will be on physical education, stealth, strategy and chakra exercises. Every student at the end of the 6th year will be able to walk on water and climb trees. Shikaku said, "Walking on water is low chunin level. It will be our new genin level. I think it is responsible if we give our genins the tools they need to survive," replied Minato. Everyone gave a nod. It sounded reasonable and good. We must be flexible with each student and not rely solely on one way of thinking. Everyone will be able to climb up with their own improvements. No one will be labeled for his entire educational career because of his standing at the beginning of the 3rd year. The teachers will be trained to measure each student's chakra level in order to find suitable jutsus to learn. I can tell you right now that my son will never be able to produce a normal bunshin without chakra control on the level of my mother. He simply has too much of it, and it grows every day because of the transformed chakra of Kyuubi. I know that Itachi Uchiha had his own issues because of his high level, but he now uses Kage Bunshin and solves the problem. In order to keep losses in the field as low as possible, my mother will start a special training program for medic ninjas, and those students who have very good chakra control will be invited to attend. After 8 weeks in the academy, the students will begin with chakra control exercises, so they are ready when they are able to choose the medical classes in their 3rd year. With each ninja, we can save the money that has been put into the education. After that, we'll have additional classes for weapon training. Currently, students only learn how to use shuriken and kunai, but if they express interest, I want them to learn a specialized weapon. After that, there will be infiltration classes, which are crucial for ninjas to understand how to sneak into an enemy camp without being discovered. Specialized traps will be the next subject, and each student must attend for at least a year. Basic traps are required for all students, and the students can choose when to take the classes. A list of the subjects they must take to graduate at the end of the 6 years will be given to them when they begin their 3rd year, and classes of each required subject will be offered annually so that every student has the opportunity to take them. Shikaku questioned, "But won't this take a lot of manpower? We barely have enough ninjas to take the missions that get in." "We've solved the problem. The new instructors will be retired shinobi. It doesn't matter if a shinobi is injured and unable to fight anymore. They can still be good teachers because they have experience, which is invaluable. They can teach the students what they need to know on the field and share their own missions with them, giving them a sense of what awaits them outside of the academy. In order to allow our genin to take on the low-level C-rank missions, I also figured out a way to reduce the number of missions our ninjas must complete. The 5th and 6th year students will complete the D-rank missions in groups of 3, which will teach them about teamwork at the academy and make it easier for the teachers to form teams based on the experiences of these missions. After that, there will be higher-level mock mission scenarios. For instance, a mission where the goal is to obtain a scroll containing crucial information, or a survival exercise. You are all aware that we send the Chunin aspirants in a survival exercise. For the second part, we will mimic them on a smaller scale for the academy students. The options are pretty much limitless. At the academy, everyone saw the benefits of this type of training. We don't need bookworms in the field. The medic ninjas will be the only ones who need to be extremely book smart, but this will be taught in their specific classes. While all students must take anatomy classes, they will have a more practical outline. In my opinion, the current curriculum leans too much toward book knowledge. He firmly stated, "We want high-quality ninjas, not cannon fodder. We won't tolerate girls who just fawn over one of the male students. We won't send fangirls into the field. They will be weeded out or put to supportive jobs in the village. Then, there will be special classes for the kunoichis. One of the things the girls need to know is the dangers female ninjas face from enemies like rape. They must learn self-defense techniques." Many of the clan leaders gave a nod. They were aware of this issue. Next thing is that every student will be treated the same. It doesn't matter if the child is from a powerful clan or a civilian family with no shinobi tradition. Best example for a powerful shinobi who didn't have a shinobi background is Sensei Jiraiya. He worked his way up to the top without any special bloodline. Every child will get the same chance to bloom through his own hard work. Many of the ninjas in attendance were taken aback. It was something new. However, it was somewhat accurate. Konoha took pride in treating all shinobi equally. Even though the clan's ninjas were highly esteemed, the academy students ought to be the first to do that. Next thing is, all the classes for an alternative career than shinobi will be cancelled. If a child wants to learn them, they can attend the civilian schools. Nobody will be forced to take the path of the shinobi, but the students will need every hour of practice they can get. For the children that come from a clan, there will be 1 hour less at the academy to train in their respective clan techniques 2 days a week. This is a compromise as the schedule will be upped by a few hours. Academy starts at 8 in the morning, lunch break is at 1 and will last till 2, and then the afternoon classes will be until 5. That's 2 more hours than now. Choza inquired worriedly, "Are you sure the children will be able to handle this?" "Yes. Think about the amount they are confronted with by their Jonin senseis. This way it won't be as much of a shock. And I have very good reasons for this. What will happen if Orochimaru or Madara Uchiha decides that it is time for their revenge against Konoha? They won't hesitate to kill every single person who lives here." Inoichi questioned, "Madara Uchiha? He must be dead for a long time." Minato informed them that he is alive and was behind the Kyuubi attack. They were taken aback. "I don't know what he plans, but I fear he will be after my son one day, as he has the Kyuubi sealed inside of him. And I intend to prepare Naruto for what is going to happen in the future." "I understand. Right now our enemies are weak, but given time they will become a threat again," Shikaku concluded. Minato simply gave a nod. "I think we can agree with your plan concerning the Ninja Academy," he responded, "even if this is just troublesome." All smiled at this statement. This was simply Shikaku's way. Next topic is our government. The processes are way too complicated and too much unnecessary paperwork floods the Hokage's desk. This will have to stop. The simple processes will be handled by genin, which have dropped out of the ninja program. As we stop the civilian classes at the academy, we will put up a new kind of career. The office ninja. They will handle the incoming requests and sort them into 2 kinds. Those who are minor tasks that can be handled by a normal office ninja, and those who require the Hokage's attention. This way the workload will be significantly smaller. I don't intend to spend all day in the tower. I want to spend time with my son, and I have to keep myself in top shape if we are attacked. That made sense. There were advantages to the plan to profit from educated academy graduates who desired to remain ninjas for office work but were unfit to survive in the field. We will have an extra class for those who don't pass the test of the Jonin sensei after they are sent back to the academy. If they are fit to work at the tower after this time, they will do that. If not, they will drop out of the program completely and become civilians, said Minato. They gave a nod of approval. I will start an investigation at all our departments. I want to weed out corruption from the start. Then every ninja has to take a complete medical checkup so we can see the level of our forces at the moment. Those who have slacked in their training will have to get back to their top form unless they want to be demoted to the rank their abilities are currently. That prompted a few odd looks. He questioned, seemingly daring them to disagree with him. You don't think I would let my subordinates slack in their training? There will be exceptions, such as the academy's teachers, who are primarily veterans. However, everyone who has achieved the rank of Chunin or higher must demonstrate their status. I won't demote Chunin to Genin without a very good reason. If I did, I would make fun of the Chunin examsa, but I will check to see if they are at the low, mid, or high Chunin levels. Missions will be assigned appropriately, with high-level Chunin receiving better missions than low-level Chunin. A low-level Chunin who is significantly too weak will be placed on probation for his rank. If, within 3 months of the initial verdict, he or she can demonstrate the strength they should possess, there won't be any repercussions. If not, let's just say I will be extremely unhappy and take the necessary action. It became abundantly clear to everyone that this Hokage would not be taken lightly. He knew what he wanted to accomplish and would rule with a firm hand. A Konoha who was human but extremely strong. The Sandaime Hokage summoned all Konoha residents to gather at the base of the Hokage Tower 2 days following the historic meeting in the council chambers. The Hokages summoned the entire village to gather, and the villagers wanted to know why. The 2 Hokages, the Fire Daimyo, Jiraiya and Tsunade, the 2 Sannin, and Shizune, holding Naruto, were standing on the roof. As the Sandaime put it, I suppose it's time. Everyone gave a nod, and Naruto appeared interested. Sarutobi made his way to the roof's edge. Villagers of Konoha, this day is a reason to celebrate. 3 years ago our hero the Yondaime Hokage was able to defeat the demon fox Kyuubi no Kitsune. We all mourned for our fallen friends and heroes, but through a strike of good luck one hero was sent back to help us to protect Konoha in the future. As you all know, I wanted to retire 4 years ago when Minato Namikaze took over the mantle as the Yondaime Hokage. Now I want to announce that I can finally do this. As Shinigami-sama sent him back to us, as of now he will lead Konoha again. I want to present to you the Yondaime Hokage Minato Namikaze Senju Uzumaki. Minato lowered the Hokage hat he wore on his head and walked beside Sarutobi. Everyone started cheering when he appeared. Their hero had returned. Some started muttering when the initial joy stopped. Why did the Sandaime use 2 additional surnames when referring to the Yondaime? And how did they find out about Uzumaki's name? Villagers of Konoha, Minato started. As you all can see, I have been resurrected by Shinigami-sama himself. I returned to help Konoha reach a glorious future. There were applause. They would have nothing to fear now that the strongest Hokage had returned. Additionally, he would most likely put an end to the demon brat's existence. The crowd fell silent when the speaker said, "But the real reason I was sent back was to right a crime nearly everybody here committed. I only had one wish when I died. For you to see the boy I placed the horrible burden of being the prison of Kyuubi upon as a hero. But you denied my wish. You demanded his execution. I know everything, and I doubted my decision to sacrifice not only my own life but also the life of my only son for the survival of Konoha." The crowd was frightened. His sole son? Was there a son of the Yondaime? A few of the smarter villagers appeared to make the connection between the clues and looked horrified. Was the sealing actually done by the Yondaime using his own child? It seems that some of you have realized it. He gestured for Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Shizune to approach. He grabbed Naruto out of Shizune's arms as soon as they got to him. "This is my son, Naruto Namikaze Senju Uzumaki, and if anybody of you dares to hurt him again for something he never had any control over, be sure I will see consequences. He saves you every day just because he lives. Because of him, Kyuubi can't destroy anything anymore and will cease to exist when Naruto turns 20. Minato had determined that Naruto needed to be informed that he was a Jinchuriki and that his sacrifices saved Konoha every day. Even though he was only 3, he had taken his time to allay his son's fears and explain everything to him in simple terms. He described the sealing and said that the god of death himself provided the seal's power. Additionally, he stated that he would ensure that the villagers saw Naruto as the hero that he was. And there is more. Tsunade spoke up now. As you may have noticed, Naruto also wears the Senju name. The reason is that Minato is my son and Naruto is my grandson. Naruto is the heir to the Senju clan, the clan that produced 3 of our 4 Hokages. If you think the beatings Jiraiya gets when he does something perverted or severe, you will have to find a new definition for the word if anybody hurts my grandson for saving this village," she roared. Fearfully, many in the crowd drew back. Tsunade's strength and her beatings of Jiraiya were legendary. Nobody had anticipated that the next person to step forward would be the last to speak. "I am very displeased with the behavior of Konoha towards their heroes. It wasn't much Minato asked for when he gave his life to seal Kyuubi away. But you spat at his memory and shunned his son. More your idiocy could have provoked a war with Whirlpool Country." He allowed the sentence to sink in. As some of you may recall, during the Third Shinobi War, Iwa's forces attacked Whirlpool. We managed to save Whirlpool, but they suffered significant losses. To make it clear to you that if they attempted to attack Whirlpool again, Fire Country would retaliate, we formed an alliance with the royal family. Kushina Uzumaki, the youngest princess of Whirlpool and a strong kunoichi, was sent to marry one of our strongest shinobi, and she chose who she would marry. When she got there, she fell in love with Minato Namikaze Senju, and Kushina decided that he would be her husband. Since Minato was the first Hokage's great grandson and practically Konoha royalty, there was nothing to stop them from getting married. If Whirlpool discovered that you intended to kill the current king and queen's grandson, they would demand blood, and I wouldn't refuse them. How foolish can you be? Even the most stupid person now understood what might have occurred. A lot of them felt like they wanted to vomit. Despite Whirlpool's small size, Konoha was far from prepared to fight another war following the Kyuubi attack's losses. "Why did nobody tell us the heritage of the boy? We didn't know the consequences," yelled someone. "Silence," Minato bellowed. "It doesn't matter that Naruto is practically royalty. You mistreated a child that did nothing wrong. You doubted my abilities as a seal master and just believed what the gossip told you. You ignored the law of the Sandaime that nobody was to speak of Naruto's burden to protect him. I cancelled this law as I think that your children will probably understand better than you that a prison isn't the prisoner. If I managed to catch Orochimaru and threw him in a cell that sucked his chakra so he was defenseless, would the cell turn into Orochimaru?" Minato yelled. Many people now realized they were foolish. Naturally, Orochimaru would not be in the cell. Minato then turned around and left the edge, with the others trailing behind him. Jiraiya remarked, "I believe they received the message, Minato. I hope it for them. I won't show mercy for anybody who will hurt Naruto," he replied. The days that followed were intriguing. All of the civilian council members were convicted of treason, with the exception of one man who was unsure of his signature. Since he was unfit to handle this responsibility, he was recently removed from his position as a counselor. Sarutobi never imagined that the people of Konoha could think of some of the things that Inoichi and Ibiki learned. Hinata Hyuga was attempted to be abducted by Homura and Kaharu. In order to establish their own strong clan of Byakugan users, Kumo had promised them financial and political support if they could allow their ninja to leave Konoha with the girl. For this, Hiyashi called for their execution. The request was granted by Minato. In a few years, Fugaku Uchiha plotted a coup d'etat copyright tat to seize Konoha. He believed that the Uchiha clan had a natural right to govern Konoha. He believed that everyone had to submit to the Uchihas because they were superior to everyone else. He was to be executed on the same day as Kaharu and Homura, along with the other principal conspirators. Following their enjoyable encounter with Tsunade in the interrogation rooms, the civilian counselors were deprived of their positions and imprisoned for a quarter of a century. After they were allowed to leave the hospital, that is. Some had to wait several months because Tsunade would not heal them and would not allow any other medical professionals to treat their wounds beyond the bare minimum. To make up for what had been done to him, Naruto received a portion of their property, which had been taken from them and placed in the village vaults. No one dared to challenge the Hokage's judgment. To remind everyone of what happened to those who committed treason against the Leaf, the executions were carried out in public. With his new rule, Minato made no concessions. The first other ninja village to learn of this was Kumo. They dispatched a new ambassador who insisted on Konoha making amends for the damage to the peace deal and releasing their imprisoned ninja. In order to atone for Kumo's wrongdoings, they insisted on having the head of the Hyuga clan sent to them. Minato had given the ambassador an evil smile. Coldly, he questioned, "You think Kumo has any right to demand anything from Konoha?" The man's steel, hard blue eyes remained fixed on him. He could frighten entire armies away with a single glance, and the Kumo nin was about to discover why. Kumo attempted to kidnap a 3-year-old girl in order to obtain the secrets of the Byakugan, a Kekkei Genkai that belongs to Konoha. And you have the gall to demand anything as compensation from me? Know your place. I stopped your ninja, and you can be relieved he survived. I allowed him to be questioned by my top specialists in this department, and I learned some very fascinating things. I was able to stop the most powerful of the Bijus, the Kyuubi no Kitsune, so don't think I fear your forces. I'm a nasty enemy, and I intend to show everybody that I'm not to be taken lightly. Konoha won't pay any reparations, but if Kumo dares to try anything against us, be sure I won't hesitate to declare war upon your nation. Tell your Raikage that the yellow flash has returned and that I won't move an inch from my position. If necessary, I will personally meet your army, and if you have any doubts about the outcome of such a battle, ask the Tsuchikage. He can tell you. The ambassador from Kumo was terrified. The Hokage's power was almost palpable to him. The Raikage had made a mistake. No one was going to overthrow the Hokage. You wouldn't want to aggravate him. Furthermore, you will send the little girl, that has been made the Jinchuriki of the Nibi no Nekomata, as a hostage to Konoha. I won't tolerate any aggression against Konoha. From nobody. Tell your Raikage my conditions. If he agrees, your ninja will be sent back to you. Remember, don't mess with Konoha. We didn't win the last wars by being weak. We are the strongest of the great shinobi nations for a good reason. Now go. Don't waste my time anymore. The ninja from Kumo left the office. Danzo expressed his admiration, saying, "That was an impressive display of your powers, Hokage-sama." Thank you, Danzo. It was time to remember the other countries that we are not to be underestimated. To ask for Hiyashi to be sent to Kumo. Preposterous. As if we would let Kumo get the secrets of one of our strongest clans. They wronged us and I will show them exactly what that means. Of course, Hokage-sama. I wanted to ask when Naruto would come over to my orphanage again to play with the other kids. Sai asked me if he could play again with him soon. It seems he has befriended him. Well, he could come over the day after tomorrow. Mom wanted to go shopping with him today, and tomorrow I wanted to take him with me when I visit Hiyashi at the Hyuga compound. Naruto has befriended Neji and Hinata and he wants to play with them again. Minato nodded and said, "I will tell Sai, he will be happy." He was happy to see that Naruto had made new friends. Additionally, Danzo received a lot of kindness from the kids at his orphanage. What do you intend to do with the rest of the Uchiha clan? As we speak, the walls surrounding the clan compound have been demolished, so they will no longer live in isolation. Second, the clan's possessions have been moved to Konoha. Third, the Uchiha clan must pay rent for their homes. Fourth, the military police have been taken from their authority and placed under my command. And fifth, all of the clan's privileges have been revoked. I don't intend to punish those who haven't been involved in this, like the children or some civilians. If there is no doubt that they are innocent in this matter, their property will be returned to them. I won't punish a whole clan for the mistakes of some of them, but until we know everything, the property will be frozen. Every member of the Uchiha clan who was involved in the conspiracy but hasn't been executed is either under arrest or, if it was just a minor case of knowing about it but not participating, are under Anbu supervision. A good course of action, Hokage-sama. This way nobody will be able to accuse you of injustice. An open display of each crime will help the citizens to get used to the new regime. Yes, and it is time that the hero worship of Kekkei Genkai is put to an end. They are very useful tools for the ninjas that have them, but we can't allow ourselves to ignore everybody else who doesn't have a Kekkei Genkai. I don't have the ability to use Mokuton like my great-grandfather, but I am able to defeat those who can use Sharingan without problems. What about Naruto? Did he inherit the Kekkei Genkai of the Senju clan? I don't know if he can use it, but he is only 3. I know that he inherited the Uzumaki ability to heal at inhuman speed. One night of sleep and most injuries are healed completely without a scar. That's incredible, Danzo remarked with admiration. Yes, it is. I was always jealous for Kushina healing much faster than me. Minor wounds healed in minutes or hours. One reason why she was that difficult to beat in a fight. Most people would have thought that this would be the power of the Kyuubi who doesn't want his vessel to die because then he would die too. That may be possible for severe wounds, but why should the fox bother with little wounds like cuts that are nasty but not life-threatening? No, as long as there is a chance to survive, the wounds Naruto receives will heal. Kushina was even able to regrow a lost ear after one extremely fierce battle in the war. Danzo was taken aback. Such a lineage was unknown to him. It would be very beneficial for the future to have the bearer in Konoha. However, he was wise enough not to recommend that Naruto teach as many kids as he could. Minato was adamantly opposed to using people as breeding stock. It was optional, but it was possible for the males who were the last of their clans to take more than one woman in order to rebuild their clan. It would be up to Naruto to decide in the future if he wanted this, but if he ended up like his father, he would stick with the one woman he loved the most. Well, I think you will have to teach your son one more thing before he starts with the academy besides a few basics, Danzo thought. Minato thought, and what would that be? With astonishment. How to escape fangirls. Now, as everybody knows his heritage, a lot of girls will be after him. Minato slapped his palm across his forehead. Damn, you were right. As heir to 2 clans he would be extremely popular. Well, I can only hope that the band of fangirls who are not fit to be kunoichis will help a bit. If not, well, it will be good speed training. Perhaps he will be able to learn Hiraishin no Jutsu earlier than me. Daddy, hurry, I don't want to be late for my first day at the academy. Naruto was crying. Minato answered, just a little patience, Naruto. I thought Danzo had taught you this. Yes, Danzo-sensei always says that a ninja has to be patient, but I'm so curious how it will be and if I can make new friends there. I can't wait to learn how to be a good ninja. I want to become the best. One day I will be Hokage just like you, Daddy, and protect Konoha and my precious people. Minato grinned. Over the past 3 years, his son's enthusiasm had not diminished. He had pleaded with Danzo to let him train with his best friend Sai, so for the past year he had been training in the mornings with the other kids at his orphanage. In order to make sure Danzo didn't overdo the training, Minato had sent Shizune to supervise it for the first few weeks. Shizune's noted that Danzo was a strict trainer, but he had taken Minato's warning not to make the kids into heartless soldiers too seriously. He made a lot of demands of the kids, but not more than they could provide. After struggling through the first training session, Naruto eventually adapted to Danzo's training schedule and relished becoming stronger every time. His perseverance and tenacity impressed his trainers. He inspired the other kids to try their hardest, and they made significant progress. They would have no trouble shining at the academy. Naruto would begin academy alongside 4 of the orphanage's children. His year would also include his friends Hinata Hyuga, Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru Nara, and Shoji Akamichi. He encountered some kids who didn't like him. Sakura Haruno was the first. Sakura accused Naruto of being responsible for her mother's treasonous actions while she was incarcerated and serving on the civilian council. Sasuke Uchiha came next. The blonde boy made him nervous. Most of Konoha had shunned his clan after learning that they had plotted a coup d'état. Everything had been thoroughly investigated and nothing had been overlooked. Itachi, Sasuke's older brother, was fortunate to have fully cooperated with the Anbu and to have shielded him by claiming that Sasuke was only 3 years old and unaware of the plot. Itachi was able to establish a positive relationship with the Hokage, even though their father was the conspirator. After passing the previous exams, Itachi was promoted to Chunin and wanted to prove to everyone that he was deserving of the title of Proud Shinobi of Konoha, despite the fact that he was only 10. It would have been absurd to send graduated genin back to the academy based solely on their age, even if Minato had not wanted children to enlist in the military too soon. Those who started the academy after the event or were still enrolled would be subject to the new regulations. When it became evident that the Uchiha clan had fallen into disgrace, Sasuke's mother committed suicide, leaving him with only his older brother. After she and her family were exonerated of all possible charges, one of the civilian Uchihas had taken in the two boys. Itachi took over to raise his younger brother after she tragically passed away from an illness 2 years later. Even though he had to work hard to make enough money for them to live, he was content with Itachi. However, things got easier when Itachi was promoted to Anbu at the age of 13, just 1 month before he started at the academy. With her status as a Jinchuriki, Yugito Ni, a girl from Kumo who had been sent to gain the village's obedience, had adopted the persona of Naruto's obnoxious older cousin. Because Minato didn't want the girl to be pampered or despised, she lived with Anko Mitarashi, who would raise her to be a strong kunoichi. Because Minato had been able to take off the cursed seal that Orochimaru had given her years earlier, Anko was extremely appreciative of him. Together with his mother and cousin, he had spent 4 months studying the seal's workings before deciphering and removing it. Additionally, even though the Sandaime wanted to promote Anko, Minato had granted her the long, overdue promotion to Special Jonin, something the council had consistently refused to do because she was unreliable. As a result, Yugito frequently made fun of Naruto's new skills. She had 3 more years of training because she was 3 years older than him. She also had the benefit of being able to learn how to control the Biju's chakra because her Biju, Nibi no Nekomata, was much more likable than Kyuubi no Kitsune. As a result, Naruto intensified his training to avoid being surpassed by his cousin. Kiba Inuzuka wanted to appear because he saw Naruto as a rival. The fact that Hinata was so fond of Naruto and not of him annoyed him. He therefore made every effort to attract Hinata's attention and make Naruto appear foolish. To Kiba's chagrin, however, it was not that simple to portray Naruto negatively. He was incredibly gifted and picked things up quickly. The majority of the time, his plans failed, and he appeared foolish. The only thing that Naruto struggled with was paying attention when he found something dull. 4 weeks prior to the start of the academy, Naruto had been attacked by 2 boys who were 2 years his senior. They sought retribution for their families because their fathers had been imprisoned alongside Sakura's mother. Unfortunately, they were no match for Naruto, who easily tricked them and allowed them to lie on the ground with minor injuries so they could return home when they woke up. Even Iwa was afraid to attempt a kidnapping inside Konoha's walls, even though other countries were now aware of the Hokage's son. Minato tested each seal at the village's defensive walls with the help of the 2 best sealing experts in the Anbu. After mapping the seals, they created a brand new seal array that was 3 times more effective. When one spy was apprehended while attempting to enter the village, he soon discovered that the new array was flawless. That week, Ibiki had a great time, and Minato sent the remaining spy back to Iwa with the note that he didn't want to keep anything that wasn't his. At 7:30, Minato and Naruto departed the mansion. The walk would only take 10 minutes, so they had plenty of time to get to the academy. His son, however, was simply impatient. He wanted to get to the academy as soon as possible because this was a big day for him. Many villagers welcomed them along the way. Many people realized the distinction between Naruto and the Kyuubi after Minato's tirade during his reinstatement speech, and they felt embarrassed that they had simply trusted the rumors. After they were arrested, the old civilian council stopped spreading the majority of the rumors. After watching Naruto for a while, many people developed a fondness for him. The young girls in particular. Naruto asked his father what he could do because he felt uneasy around all the fangirls. When he informed them that he wasn't interested in a relationship, Minato advised him to be courteous but firm. Needless to say, Naruto's issues were not resolved by this, as numerous girls simply told one another that he was simply too shy to express his emotions. He might have gained more fangirls as a result. Naruto improved his speed and became an expert runner, just as Minato had predicted. They soon reached the Ninja Academy. Over the past 3 years, a lot had changed. The grounds had been reconstructed to accommodate the students' updated training schedules. Minato had spent time discussing with Danzo where each ninja could best serve after the dissolution of his root unit. 10 specially selected members and veterans became teachers at the academy, while the best roots ninjas were transferred to the regular Anbu and some became Jonin and Shunin. In order to prepare younger ninjas who wished to become academy teachers, Konoha established a new program. Because Minato emphasized the importance of experience for teachers, they had to be Chunin for at least 2 years before they could be deemed prepared to instruct upcoming generations of ninjas. The former instructors were either retrained for their positions or assigned to regular ninja duties. For years, some had been giving preference to children from the prominent clans over civilian children. After hearing this, Minato summoned all of the academy teachers and icily inquired as to whether they were aware of their acting. They had knowingly undermined Konoha by denying many gifted kids the opportunity to realize their full potential and contribute to the community. He had dismissed the prejudiced educators. Fortunately, he was able to restart the academy with the help of enough volunteers from the root and regular veterans. Since they were frequently visited by 10 to 12-year-olds to complete the missions they had set up with the Hokage that the rookie genins had previously completed, many villagers noticed the changes. The fact that the academy students' payments went to the village gave Minato a pleasant boost in village funds. They benefited from it since Minato purchased new equipment for the academy with the money she earned. When Naruto first saw the academy building, he was amazed. He committed to becoming one of the best, if not the best, students by learning everything the teachers could teach him. He would hold off until he could determine his position. He was never able to rest on his accomplishments because, as his father and Danzo-sensei always recalled, there was always someone stronger. The only way to get truly strong was to put in a lot of effort every day. He searched for a friend, but the only person he recognized was Sasuke Uchiha, and he didn't want to get into a fight with the boy right now. The fact that he wasn't the only one who had issues with fangirls, however, was amusing. Naruto could see that Sasuke was uncomfortable with the many admiring glances he received. Minato returned the courteous greetings from the teachers who were waiting outside for the first-year students. A few minutes later, one of the caregivers in the group of orphans, including Sai, arrived. When Sai arrived to welcome Naruto, the two boys struck up a discussion about how they would prove to everyone that they were capable ninjas. Minato gave them a smile. 5 minutes later, Hinata and her father arrived, and many parents respected the head of the Hyuga clan. All of the looks made Hinata uneasy. She was still extremely shy and only opened up after getting to know the other people, despite Naruto's efforts to help her come out of her shell. Well, after she played with Ino, things had improved. The fearless girl made an effort to boost Hinata's self-confidence. Hinata became less fearful of failure after having two frank friends like Naruto and Ino. However, she still had a long way to go before she shed her insecure mindset. Ino started to make fun of Hinata after learning how much she liked Naruto. As a result, Hinata created an entirely new face color scale. When she blushed deeply, Naruto would frequently ask if she wasn't feeling well, but she would always shake her head. However, Naruto couldn't help but worry. Since Hinata was his very first friend, he felt obligated to look out for her. Since he couldn't take care of her at the academy, he had also promised Neji to do so. Neji was occasionally perceived by Naruto as Hinata's overly protective older brother. If the boy believed that anyone posed a threat to his cousin, he might become frightening. Neji was spared the caged bird seal because of Minato. Any seal that might be interpreted as a danger to Konoha's ninjas and, consequently, military might have been outlawed by Minato. This group included a branch family member who was at risk of suffering from pain that could harm his brain as a result of the seal. He showed how he could activate it by drawing a caged bird seal onto a special piece of paper. Additionally, he had just seen how the branch members used the hand sign of the main family. He had ordered the release of all members who had been branded with the seal following this demonstration of potential misuse. It was forbidden to use it until the Hyuga clan discovered a way to safeguard their Kekkei Genkai without putting the seal-bearer in danger. Despite the indignation of the Hyuga clan's elders, Minato had every right to act as Hokage and protect his soldiers from harm. Since he had always wished to bring the two families in the Hyuga clan together, Hiyashi had quietly rejoiced. There were no more distinctions in the absence of the seal. The first graduates of Tsunade's medical training program were now employed in the field or at the hospital. In order to benefit their teams in the long run, she had begun with genins who were already operating in the field. Minato had to reorganize the genin teams for the first time in order to complete the missions. Before Tsunade permitted them to be sent as mission support, the newly trained medics needed at least a year to learn the fundamentals. Her program's success was astounding. Every team had a medic on board, which resulted in a 20% reduction in mission losses. To improve their skills, medical trainees who completed their first year of study continued to receive extra instruction 3 times a week. Some kunoichis, particularly those who looked up to Tsunade and Shizune as role models, also made the decision to train full-time. They couldn't really admire many powerful kunoichis. Shinobi made up the majority of the famous ninjas. The medical education that the academy's students received was also very encouraging. Children learned far more easily than adults, so their accomplishments far exceeded Minato's expectations. The previous graduating class had been outstanding. 10 of them had medical training, and 39 children graduated. The new genin's quality impressed the Jonin senseis, and 6 of the 13 teams that were constructed passed their tests. Almost half of the graduates were in that group. Only 2 teams of 11 were able to serve Konoha during their previous year. Tsunade now intended to launch a special program for people who wanted to work as medics for Konoha but didn't want to become ninjas because they didn't think they could fight well enough. Minato and the council agreed that having specially trained medics who would only work in the village would benefit Konoha after she explained the benefits of such a program to them and showed them how it could be funded. The survival rate of their ninjas would rise once more if they helped the field medics who were trained at the academy to be both ninjas and medics. The first-year students were instructed to form an alphabetical line by the teachers. 3 new classes that began this year would be involved. Since 60.6 kids had signed up for the Ninja Academy, there would be 20.2 kids in each class. Every time his name was called, Naruto listened carefully. He was not among the children who had been called before the first class was called. He had wished 2 of his friends from Danzo's orphanage luck when they were called. Shikamaru's cousin was called for the second class when the list reached end since Namikaze arrived before Nara. Naruto now knew he would be in the third class. His father had explained to him that it didn't matter which class he was in. Following 2 years, the remaining students would be sorted based on how well they did on an exam that was administered at the start of the 3rd year. Then some of the girls squealed. Sasuke Uchiha had been the last name of the second class. Maybe it was a good thing that Naruto and Sasuke weren't in the same class at first. For the 3rd class, the teachers began calling on the pupils. Choji Akamichi was called first, followed by Hinata, Naruto, Shikamaru, and finally his friend Sai. Kiba's summons with the first class was a relief to Naruto. So that for the first 2 years of class, the boy wouldn't bother him. Naruto was aware that the 3 classes had been given roughly equal strength by distributing the offspring of the strong clans. Kiba from the Inuzuka clan, Shino from the Aburame clan, Hitomi from the Uchiha clan, and Ino from the Yamanaka clan were in the first class. Yakumo of the Kurama clan, Minami of the Akamichi clan, Reina of the Nara clan, and Sasuke of the Uchiha clan were in the second class. Hinata from the Hyuga clan, Shikamaru from the Nara clan, Choji from the Akamichi clan, and Naruto from the Senju and Namikaze clans were all in the 3rd class. The majority of the other kids came from non-military households, such as Sakura Haruno, Danzo's orphanage, the public orphanage, or small shinobi families that didn't meet the requirements to join an official clan. As Hokage, Minato welcomed the new academy students and reminded them that they were about to begin their training to become Konoha's ninjas. He underlined that although they had chosen an honorable path, it would be difficult. When they graduated and received their first missions from him, he would be excited to meet them. He wished everyone luck and the strength to persevere through to the end. After receiving applause from the new pupils and their parents, the kids were shown to their dignified classrooms. When Minato watched his son disappear inside the building, he appeared proud. He would try his hardest to achieve his objectives. He was certain of this. After turning around, he headed to the Hokage Tower, where his daily tasks were waiting for him. Naruto took a seat at the window side of the room, in the 3rd row of tables. With Sai to his left and Hinata to his right, he took a seat in the center of the table. A boy from a ninja family that specialized in kenjutsu, as Naruto had been informed, sat 2 rows behind Shikamaru and Choji. There were 14 boys and 8 girls in the class. One girl said she didn't understand the hype the other girls made about some boys and that she wanted to become a strong kunoichi rather than a trophy wife of some clan heir. 2 other girls were upset because they wanted to be in the same class as Sasuke, and 4 of the girls openly fawned over Naruto. Naruto added this girl to his list of people he greatly admired. Hinata was the final girl. She was a longtime friend of Naruto and knew that he hated this fangirl behavior, even though she really liked him. She had to put in as much effort as she could toward her own objectives if she wanted his respect, and that's exactly what she planned to do. If she didn't rank among the best students, her clan would discipline her. Although there was potential for her to outperform Naruto in her class, she was expected to at least emerge as the top kunoichi. Mai Nakasawa, a tomboy who took her training as a kunoichi seriously, might be her only opponent in her class. Maybe Mai would want to be her friend. Having a female friend in her class would be nice. She was aware that there were other female students with potential throughout the entire year. Minami Akamichi, Reina Nara, and Ino were present. They would be a little serious about their training. Naruto had given her an intriguing response the day before when she had asked him if he was anxious about making his father proud. "You want to know if I'm anxious because I'll have to meet everyone's expectations?" "Well, I don't think I'm anxious, rather, I'm excited. I'm not sure if I can be the best, but that doesn't matter right now. We have 6 years to learn everything the academy has to teach us, so that's plenty of time. The real challenge will begin after the 2nd year. Daddy informed me that we will be tested on our abilities at the start of the 3rd year, and the results of the test will be used to mix up the classes. After this test, my first objective is to place in the first third of the year. I don't care if I'm the best student or fifth. I want to compare my skills to those of the strong students because I can only become stronger if I have supportive classmates who push me to work even harder. After this, Hinata felt better. Naruto was correct. They had time to become knowledgeable. To remain with Naruto, she simply needed to finish in the top 3 of the year. And she had a great example of how to become stronger by observing him. Keep trying until you get it right and never give up. Neji informed her that there was an odd student in his year who was incapable of using either genjutsu or ninjutsu. He was destined to become a ninja simply by employing weapons and taijutsu. He was given permission to enter the academy by the Hokage, who also advised Lee Rock to try learning about seals since he could use chakra to activate seals. You didn't have to shape it the way jutsus required. Lee has so far appeared to restore the confidence that was placed in him. He put in a lot of effort and improved his taijutsu skills. In his class, he was second best in taijutsu after Neji, despite the fact that he needed much more training to become proficient. Their teacher started speaking to them now. I'm Renzo Giacomoto, but you'll call me Renzo Sensei. I'll be your teacher for the next 2 years, teaching you the fundamentals of becoming a good shinobi. To be clear, I won't favor anyone in this class, not a clan heir or the Hokage's Sona, and everyone will be ranked based solely on their accomplishments. This year, we'll start with physical education. Being a ninja requires you to be in peak physical condition. Most of the time, when you're fighting on missions, you use taijutsu or weapons, especially when stealth is required. We will work on your dodging, throwing, and combination skills. In the theoretical section, we will cover weapon making and what can be used as a weapon if you have used all of your own weapons. A ninja must be creative if he wants to survive. We will also cover strategy. Ninjutsu emits chakra, which can give your position to your enemy. As a result, a ninja who cannot hold himself in hand.to. Hand combat is a lousy ninja, a ninja who cannot hold himself. Naruto was one of the kids who made notes about this. He had always heard from his grandmother that knowledge was crucial in the ninja world and could mean the difference between life and death. Next thing is we will cover important history and the history of the other elemental countries. It is important to know about our own history, but it will help you if you have missions to other countries when you know something about their history too. Next part of your schedule is hiding techniques. A good ninja is never seen if he doesn't want to be seen. Hokage-sama had an idea to help you to work on your hiding and escaping skills and get the citizens of Konoha to be more aware of their surroundings. You will get small tasks you have to do while not being seen. You will get marks on how well you did. What exactly these tasks will be told to you when you have mastered the basics of hiding and evasion. Naruto wanted to know. It sounded as though his dad would allow them to trick Konoha. You will learn how to shape your chakra in the upcoming year. We will do basic exercises to shape it and teach you how to control it. We will not begin teaching you jutsus until the first half of the 3rd year because we want to make sure you have the necessary control before we start teaching you jutsus. By the end of your time at the academy, you must be able to demonstrate to the proctors that you can perform a Kawarimi no Jutsu, a Henge no Jutsu, and a Bunshin no Jutsu. It doesn't matter what kind of bunshin you produce. It can be the basic kind or a more complex one. The elemental jutsu you must demonstrate as a D-level jutsu, which you will learn about in your 5th year. You will be tested on your taijutsu and your ability to throw kunai and shuriken, and you will be demonstrating both skills by hitting your target while standing still or moving around. You will also demonstrate your ability to recognize and break a low-level genjutsu. A few of the pupils appeared to be intimidated. At the end, they needed to be able to do a lot of things. We have special classes for learning the use of various weapons and a class for those who want to learn about sealing, which can, for example, replace the ninjutsu or genjutsu part if someone is unable to mold chakra correctly. You can fail in one category out of 5 during your exam, but your marks in the other 4 parts have to make up for it. Well, we have some exceptions to these rules at the academy. Some students just cannot perform in certain areas, and they will take other tests to make up for their deficiencies in these areas. This is because our forces have ninjas who are successful without using ninjutsu or genjutsu. For instance, Guy Maeda, who is one of the best taijutsu fighters in all elemental countries despite his youth, is able to use jutsus but chooses not to. Another example is a young chunin named Kurenai Yuhi, who specializes in genjutsu and almost never uses ninjutsu because she deceives her opponents. Hayate Gecko is an expert in kenjutsu and is well on his way to the top without using ninjutsu or genjutsu. After you graduate from the academy, you will be placed in cells of 3 genin under the command of one experienced Jonin sensei. Hokage-sama will select the cells and ensure that they are well balanced for the abilities of the cell members and their teamwork. You see, it doesn't matter if you have flashy jutsus. What matters is that you can fulfill the missions you were given. How you do this depends on the type of mission you were given. One thing you have to keep in mind is that a team enables you to get your job done. Therefore, you have to look out for each other. Only the best can do a job single-handedly, but a team almost always has success. The 5th and 6th year students will take small missions for the villagers to learn about teamwork, and the teachers will use those to recommend to Hokage-sama which individuals would make a good team. The pupils gave a nod. Some members of ninja families or clans were still close friends with their parents, and others had heard stories about their former teams. The Ino, Shika, Sho team, which included the fathers of Shikamaru's and Choji's, was well known. They were renowned for being among the greatest teams in history. Or if the fabled Sannin came to mind. Even though a few years ago Orochimaru had defected to Konoha, they were practically invincible as a team. According to Konoha, the most crucial ability a ninja should possess was teamwork. Naruto had been at the academy for a week at this point. He thought some of the lessons were dull, but most of the time they discovered new and fascinating things. The history of Konoha's founding had been their starting point. Naruto enjoyed the stories a lot, especially since the Shoden Hokage was his great-grandfather. They learned about the great battles fought during this period and how Konoha was founded after the Uchiha and Senju clans formed an alliance. How, with the Kyuubi no Kitsune's assistance, Madara Uchiha ultimately fled Konoha and attempted to murder Hashirama Senju. Renzo Sensei informed them, well, Kyuubi isn't a threat anymore today as he is sealed in Naruto and can't escape. Many of the pupils gazed at Naruto with interest. He merely grinned. He was relieved that he was no longer the target of attacks and rejection because he was the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Herbology was the next topic. They learned about various plants and how shinobi can use them. Some were edible and useful in missions where food was scarce. Others should be avoided because they were poisonous. They could also be employed against adversaries. Hinata had strong skills in this area. She was well versed in this subject and enjoyed plants. Her teacher was taken aback by her ability to identify some of the medicinal qualities of plants. When they had a choice of subjects, Naruto knew she wanted to enroll in some of his grandmother's medical classes. They gained knowledge of the various types of weapons and how to use them. Mai paid close attention. The majority of girls merely gazed at Naruto in awe and imagined how attractive he would appear with some of the weapons. Renzo took note of their names. During the first 2 years, they would be expected to refrain from their stupid actions. After these 2 years, if they were still fangirls, they would be moved to a civilian school. Girls who didn't take their ninja careers seriously were not tolerated by the Hokage. They wouldn't allow them to become cannon fodder because they couldn't defend themselves, but it would be acceptable if they admired one of their male classmates and stepped up their training to win him over. In the elemental nations, Konoha had built a reputation that wouldn't be damaged by a few foolish girls. The boys and girls were split up this afternoon. The boys would spar with one another, and the girls from all 3 classes received specialized training for kunoichis together. Students from the other classes would compete with them. Coincidentally, the matches were drawn. Hinata was a little anxious about the kunoichi classes. She fervently hoped it was nothing too humiliating. Kurenai Yuhi, the chunin who escorted her from the Hyuga estate to the academy, was her teacher, which pleased her. Her father was concerned about her safety. The Baikugan was worth too much to jeopardize. Hiyashi believed it was better to be safe than sorry, even though Minato had made the village safer. Kurenai was thus hired by him to serve as Hinata's escort. Well girls, welcome to our first class just for future kunoichis, she stated. My name is Kurenai Yuhi and you will call me Kurenai Sensei. I'm a chunin for 3 years now and this is the first time I have the possibility to teach. It's a great honor for me to be allowed to help you on your way to become strong kunoichis. First things first. What do you think a good kunoichi is like? She inquired. Sakura held up her hand. Yes, Sakura, it was right? Yes, Kurenai Sensei. I think a good kunoichi is very beautiful so that she can charm every man. Another girl joined in. Yes, like Sasuke-kun. He is so handsome and so strong. Several of the girls had dreamy eyes. Mai simply snorted. Kunoichis were tarnished by girls like that. You are idiots. Why would I want to impress men with my looks? I want to be their equal. A good kunoichi knows how to use her abilities to trick her opponents. As girls we have the disadvantage of range against a male opponent, so we have to find other ways to reach our goals. My role model is Kushina Uzumaki. She was one of the most powerful kunoichis of all times. My dad was her teammate and told me stories about her. She was so powerful that she got the nickname the Red Water Devil. She was an Anbu captain and famous for her powerful water jutsus. In her Chunin exams she was the only one who gave Minato Namikaze, our current Hokage, a run for his money. He won in the end, but he was very impressed by her skills. But how would such a kunoichi gather information? Ino inquired. Most kunoichis are spies, and by being completely unsuspicious they can hear things others don't hear. A good kunoichi is not recognized as one before it is too late for her opponent. A good kunoichi strikes from the shadows. That makes up for the disadvantage of range. That's what my dad told me. Ino and Mai make excellent points. While it is true that many kunoichis engage in these kinds of missions and occasionally it is necessary to woo their opponents in order to obtain important information, none of these kunoichis would be overpowered by a male, because a kunoichi worthy of her name is intelligent and uses all of her resources to achieve her objectives. We don't have to be afraid of our appearance. If necessary, we can alter our appearance with a simple henge no jutsu. However, this is impossible unless we infiltrate other ninja communities, as they may be able to detect our chakra. This class will prepare you if you ever find yourself in such a terrible situation. Mai is correct when she says that you must be in physical top form. Normal bandits, no matter how strong, are no match for a good trained kunoichi. An enemy ninja, even if he is extremely strong, can fall if he underestimates his opponent. And shinobis tend to underestimate kunoichis. A nice hairstyle and some well-placed makeup can conceal some things, but if you are unable to defend yourself, you will have a lot of problems. When Mai brought up Kushina Uzumaki, she was a ninja from Whirlpool Country, a small country that is now under the protection of Fire Country, which has its own royal court. According to my parents, she looked more like a boy when she took her first Chunin exams here in Konoha. She first focused on becoming a good fighter, and her beauty only developed as she grew older. She was a great fighter and a beautiful woman, and one of my best friends, Anko Midarashi, also admired her. A lot of the girls were in disbelief. The Princess of Whirlpool had been told to them. This was because Naruto was her son and the Fire Daimyo made it plain that he would stop at nothing to please the king and queen of Whirlpool should Naruto be mistreated once more. However, it was remarkable that this princess had performed well enough to compete head-to-head with the Yondaime Hokage in the Chunin exams. After telling the girls that beauty evolved with age, Kurenai hoped that some of them would devote more time to their training than to their appearance. If they were children, there was no point in trying to impress a boy. Until puberty, boys typically showed no interest in girls, and years would pass before that happened. But there is also the matter how to work on yourselves that you can make up for natural disadvantages. Until you hit puberty there won't be big differences between you and your male classmates in terms of physical abilities. When you grow up they will develop more muscles than you. It's only natural. But you can learn how to fight using your advantages in areas like flexibility, speed and reaction times. The female members of Anbu are good examples how a kunoichi can make her way to the top. Kurenai-sensei, why are there less kunoichi than shinobi in the ranks? Reina Nara responded. Well, a main reason is that less girls than boys choose this career. Though the numbers have increased since Tsunade-sama started her medical program. Girls tend to have better chakra control than boys, so they are better suited to become medics. Some of them because they have lower reserves than the boys, but most of them because it is somewhat a talent of females. My specialty is genjutsu. To become a master at genjutsu you have to have very good control of your chakra. Another option is to have a bloodline that enables you to do it. Kumo here is from a very prominent clan of Konoha that specializes in genjutsu, the Kurama clan, she said. Kurenai's compliment about her clan skills appeared to please Kumo. Some girls spoke in silence, knowing that a large portion of the Uchiha clan had attempted to seize Konoha and were viewed as traitors. Sasuke was a special case because he had only been 3 years old and not involved in the conspiracy, and his older brother, who had been caring for him since their parents had passed away, had repeatedly shown that he was loyal to Konoha. The only other clan in Konoha that is equal in terms of genjutsu abilities is the Uchiha clan. However, their abilities are connected to the Sharingan, so if they don't develop them, they just have to train like any other shinobi. We will focus on improving your flexibility, stamina, and balance today. There is a unique training program in the Academy's background that will hone your skills in those areas. Starting with a 15-second gap between each other, you will complete the course as quickly as you can. And I want to clarify one thing. This exercise will be your focus. You've got 2 years to demonstrate your sincere desire to become a kunoichis. If they don't show results, those who merely want to be close to their romantic partner will be removed from the program. Have I been clear? Kurenai inquired. The girls said, yes, Kurenai-sensei. Kurenai showed them the training course as he led them outside. This is the 6th training session. You must first use the poles that are placed around this post to climb it. climbing around the post as quickly as you can is the goal. You will cross the net to get to the pipes once you reach the top, which is 2 meters above the ground. You must ascend via the pipes. Don't become agitated because they will change directions while you are inside. There are ropes at the end. To get across the mud field below, you must use the 5 ropes that are positioned behind one another. If you fall, you get dirty first, and then you have to start over and try again. Posts are visible after the ropes. From top to top, you must jump. Your balance will improve as a result. The plank is the next component. You must cross it while soft balls are being thrown at you. The balls will get harder as you improve. You will be attacked with shuriken and blunted kunai at the end of your 6th year. Try not to get struck, then. You risk falling and having to start over, and it hurts. The evasion maze is the final section. Due to the path's narrowness, you will frequently need to change directions and twist your body. Just try to move as quickly as you can and get a sense of this for the time being. You will be pursued later. Therefore, make sure you can complete this exercise before it begins. The difficulty will be increased in 3 months. You are permitted to train on the Academy's training grounds during your free time. If you wish to use it, simply inform one of the teachers. For now, we will begin. Get in line and start. After Mai, Reina, and Ino, Hinata was the 4th girl in line. Don't you think this will be interesting, Hinata? Did Ino ask? I believe so. I'm hoping I can pull this off. She attempted to inspire Hinata by telling her to just believe in yourself. She's correct. We have the opportunity to demonstrate that we will be excellent kunoichis. This is going to be my new playground, haha. Mai declared, I will demonstrate that male ninjas are not superior to females. Kurenai said, Mai, start. Mai, who was very talented, took off and climbed the post with the poles. After 15 seconds, she reached the top, and Reina started. Hinata wasn't at the top of the post when Ino was sent on the course, but she was confident that she would give it her all, as she had promised Naruto. When Kurenai said to start, she took off, and after her clan training, she was in good physical condition and was able to reach the post just 1 second after Sakura was given the all clear. The net was a little tricky. You had to find a rhythm to hit the ropes so you could cross it easily. Reina had trouble, and Ino had almost closed the gap. Hinata had an idea and used the outer ropes to balance upon, so she didn't have to get over the wobbly net but could use the stiff sides. She arrived at the pipes shortly after Reina and Ino. It was dark, but she was able to see her way with her Byakugan, and she passed the other 2 girls before reaching the end. It was more difficult with the ropes because you had to time when you reached for the next one to avoid falling in the mud, and there was only a large knot at the bottom where you could put your feet. Hinata tried to grasp the rope and then swing to the next one, but she was unable to do so while holding on to the first one, so she took the risk of swinging to gain momentum to get to the next one. To her immense relief, she barely managed to grab the next one, and she would swing more before letting go. It got better with each rope. Mai seemed like a good way to start, but it was better to finish this exercise without falling than to just go for fun. She also noticed that Sakura had fallen from the first rope, Reina had fallen from the second when she attempted to get the third, and Hinata had left the 5th rope and jumped on the first post, which was an easy part for her because she and Naruto used to play in his backyard, where his father had similar posts to train himself. They tried jumping from post to post. She got to the plank and balanced on it. Since it was hard to avoid the softballs, Hinata tried to block them at first. She almost fell, but she managed to catch herself in time. She then sped up and ran to the maze, where the turns came quickly and, as Kurenai mentioned, she had to change direction a lot, jump left and right to avoid posts or duck under nets, roll under bushes, and jump over low walls. Very good Hinata, you are the first one to complete this, Kurenai wrote down her time, leaving Hinata stunned. Very good Hinata, you are the first one to complete this, she said, but what had happened to Mai? She could see why they should be quick to get through this, as it would be very easy for someone to target them there from the outside walls. After 2 hours, all of the girls had finished the course, and only 3 of Tama Hinata, Yakumo, and Shinami Funika had finished it on their first attempt. Hinata was shocked to discover that her time was the best of all of them, and even Mai, who had made it twice, had been slower than her. Hinata discovered that she had fallen from the 4th rope on her first attempt, but she claimed that wasn't a problem, saying that she simply learned how to do it for her second round and was able to complete it. The girls who performed the worst on this exercise were Sakura Haruno, Amy Magashi, and Taina Nanakama. It took them 4 tries to reach the goal. Well, for today we are finished, but I recommend to train yourselves, Mai said, congratulating Hinata on her accomplishment. In 3 days, we'll do this exercise again, and I anticipate that you'll perform better. You've done a great job, Shinami, Hinata, and Kumo. You have my admiration. But keep getting better. Put in a lot of training to improve. Class dismissed. Kurenai vanished in a smoke and leaf cloud. When the boys saw the girls pass them, they didn't believe their eyes. All but 3 of them were covered in mud. Kiba laughed at them, which made Sakura and Amy angry that the others had done so much better than them. Sakura especially glared at Hinata, who stood next to Naruto and told him about their training, and she could see how he congratulated her. How could someone like Hinata spend time with this monster that had imprisoned her mother? Why didn't anyone realize that Naruto was a threat to Konoha? Nevertheless, he was given special treatment because he was the Hokage's son. He ought to be at the feet of the true elite, like Sasuke. The Uchiha had always been the strongest clan in Konoha, and all those issues began because some people didn't want to see it. Yes, they began with the Namikaze clan. After Naruto's father returned, everything went wrong, and almost every member of the civilian council was imprisoned. Her mother couldn't have done that, and they couldn't all be traitors. She simply tried to protect Konoha from a monster like Naruto, and she was right. Naruto was a monster because he had a demon inside of him. Sakura was just relieved that this demon was in a different class, so she was at least safe for the time being. She was certain that Sasuke would outshine everyone else when it came time for them to demonstrate their abilities. The girly fantasies of Sakura and other fangirls didn't matter to Sasuke because he wanted to show off his strength, and the best way to do that was to fight strong opponents. Although he didn't get the chance to face Naruto, he could tell that the Namikaze was a worthy opponent, and he was certain that he would end up in a class with Naruto when they were sorted out after 2 years. A lot of people thought that the Sharingan was a way to steal other people's hard work, but Itachi never did that. Instead, he only copied the jutsus of his enemies. If he wanted to learn a jutsu that a fellow Konoha ninja used, he asked for permission to learn it and then trained as hard as he could to master it. Itachi wanted to show that the name Uchiha meant something other than traitor and thief. Sasuke didn't really remember his father, but he knew that he had gone astray. Itachi had taught him that respect was earned, not given, so he took these words to heart, made a decision, and walked over to Naruto. That, along with his unwavering loyalty to Konoha, were highly respected, and his name was spoken with respect. He called the blonde, "Hey Naruto." "Yes. Sasuke, what do you want?" Naruto inquired. "I want to spend some time sparring with you. I could see how strong you were during today's sparring. I want to see where I can make improvements, and facing a formidable opponent would be the best way to do that." "Why not? But not today. My father assured me that he would assist me in my training upon my return. If you'd like, Sasuke, we could spar after school the day after tomorrow." "All right. Naruto, I'm looking forward to it, goodbye." Naruto said, "Bye Sasuke," and Sasuke turned around and walked away. "Are you really interested in training with Naruto-sama, a member of a clan that is known for being traitorous?" a few girls inquired. The girl was shocked when Naruto yelled, "Stop at once." Naruto was always courteous and never spoke in such a harsh manner. Sasuke does not harbor betrayal. His father was punished for his crimes and was considered a traitor. However, Sasuke was only 3 years old at the time. The events that transpired were beyond his control. He also never committed any wrongdoing. His elder brother is a highly esteemed Anbu member who is devoted to Konoha. "Why do you stand up for him?" one of the nearby boys inquired. "I have a question for you. If a member of your family committed a terrible act over which you had no control, how would you feel? What if you were held responsible for this by everyone? I understand more than anyone else what it's like to be charged with someone else's crime. I am Kyuubi no Kitsune's Jinchuriki, the one who murdered numerous Konoha residents. I was treated like the bastard fox by the people. Just because my father had to use me to defend Konoha, they wanted to kill me the day I was born. I understand Sasuke's feelings exactly. Just as I want to show that I am not like Kyuubi, he wants to show that he is not a traitor." Hinata followed Naruto as he turned and walked away from those who had disparaged Sasuke, saying, "I will judge him for his own behavior and his abilities, not for prejudices made by others." Naruto ran to his house. He was thrilled to be training with his father today. When his father spent time teaching him, it was a unique experience. Despite using shadow clones to handle the paperwork, he was typically busy due to his responsibilities as the Hokage. When Naruto got home from school at 5:15, he was usually at home. After that, they would simply sit in the living room while Minato heard about Naruto's academy experiences. Naruto would come back an hour earlier to train his clan twice a week. Naruto had pleaded with Minato to teach him something special for a while, and Minato had it planned for today. His training would begin with Fuinjutsu. Since the Namikazes had long been seal experts, it was customary for parents to teach their kids this craft when they were old enough to write carefully with a brush and ink. Learning Fuinjutsu took a lot of time because it was an extremely precise art. However, once it was mastered, the use of seals was practically limitless. When Naruto got home, he went to the hall to meet his father. "Naruto, welcome home," Minato said to his son. "We will go to my study to train today. You will start your training in Fuinjutsu." Naruto jumped up and down with excitement, saying, "Really? Thank you, Daddy. Thank you. I really want to learn this." Minato smiled and said, "It's okay, Naruto, calm down." After guiding his son to his study, he shut the door. "Sit down, Naruto. We will start with some basic seals today. Please tell me which ones you have already heard of." "Well, first there are the ones you mentioned when I was 3 and you explained seals to me. The exploding tags, the flash tags, storage seals, and of course the Cubus seal on my stomach. Then there are the security seals on the walls of the village. Some of them can detect chakra of invaders, others can trap them." "Very good, Naruto. You remembered a lot." Naruto grinned at his father's compliment. A seal is built by different parts. First there is the goal you want to accomplish with a seal. Take an exploding tag for example. Your goal is the explosion, so you need a source of power for the explosion. Then you need a limiter because you don't want to blow up everything just a defined area. You need a timer so you don't lose fingers when you activate the tag. Then you need to define the direction the seals will explode to. You can let it explode in all directions or just one or two. It all depends on the way you create your seal. Naruto was captivated. He had no idea how intricate Fuinjutsu was. If you have mastered the basics of an exploding tag, you can vary the seal. One of my favorites is to seal senbons with a paralytic toxin in an exploding tag. You set them as a trap, lead your opponent to the trap area, trigger the seals, and when he gets hit he will be paralyzed and you can take him to the interrogation unit. For this you just have to add a storage part into the normal exploding tag. Naruto exclaimed, "Wow, that is amazing, Dad. Will you teach me that today?" "No, not today. We will start with a basic storage seal. It is one of the very useful seals as you can transport your equipment with it way easier than with a backpack. And if something goes wrong at the beginning it isn't dangerous. You will need a lot of practice before you are only somewhat proficient with seals. A lot depends on the correct drawing of the seal patterns. But don't worry. You won't go on missions until you are 12 and have graduated from the academy. And if you have inherited my talent with this art, you will be great one day." Naruto grinned. Minato picked up a flask of ink and a brush. "This is a special ink that allows to store chakra. I will use it to demonstrate you the correct design of the storage seal and its result. Until you get all the signs for the seals drawn correctly, you will work with normal ink. When you have it down correctly I will give you the special ink and you can try to make your first real seal." Naruto nodded while focusing intently on his father and the paper before him. Minato started sketching the seal. It seemed as though the brush danced across the paper as he moved it fluidly. His abilities captivated Naruto. He desired to be capable of doing this on his own. "That's it. This is what a basic storage seal looks like, but you will never see it in this form because I have to do one last step," explained Minato. Naruto inquired, "What is missing, Daddy?" If a seal was this easy to read anybody could reproduce or counter it with enough experience in this kind of jutsu. For a storage scroll this is not a problem, but think of exploding tags. If somebody found a trap you set up and made your seals useless. Naruto acknowledged that would be bad. Minato demonstrated the aforementioned signs to Naruto after stating, "Yes, and therefore I added these additional signs at the outlines. They have no other meaning than to cloud the nature of the seal. When I add chakra to complete the seal it will change its appearance." Minato added his chakra to the seal after molding it. It turned into something completely different. "That's it. Now it's your turn, Naruto. Take the brush and the ink and try to repeat what I showed you." After giving a nod, Naruto accepted the brush. He had an odd feeling when he first started. It seemed as though he had done this before and it was instinctive. Although he worked much more slowly than Minato's had in the past, his brush strokes were confident, and he quickly completed his seal. He noticed his father's astonished expression when he looked up. Minato examined the seal that Naruto had sketched. "That isn't feasible," he stated. Naruto inquired, "Daddy? Did I do something wrong?" Minato gave Naruto a look. He was hurt by his look. He gave a kind smile. "No, Naruto, you did nothing wrong, just the opposite. I have never before seen such a talent at Fuinjutsu like you. That seal is perfect. I had expected that you would have much more difficulties to learn this. I expected ink drops or malformed patterns, but you surprised me totally. I'm very proud of you, my son. If you continue like this you will surpass me one day in this art." Naruto exclaimed, "Really, Daddy?" With joy. "Yes, I'm sure of it. Let's try for you to use the special ink." Then you can try to seal something in it. Naruto gave a nod and resumed. He created another flawless storage seal as his brush moved across the paper. As his father had demonstrated, he added his chakra when he was done, and the seal was altered. Minato handed Naruto a kunai that he had taken out of his pouch. You have to put the kunai over the seal and add your chakra, then the kunai will be stored into the seal, he said. Once more, Naruto nodded and followed instructions. Kunai appeared in kanji, and the kunai disappeared in the paper. Naruto grinned broadly at his accomplishment. Minato simply shook his head incredulously. It seems that his son was a seal genius. Naruto, how did you know exactly how you had to move the brush? Said he. Well, I observed you how you did it, and then it came just naturally. It felt like I had done it before. But Daddy, could it be that there is something wrong with the seal? It didn't feel like it was complete, said Naruto. Minato was taken aback once more. A novice shouldn't feel that way about seals. You are right, Naruto. This seal is just a basic one that allows you to store things up until a set volume. There are more complex seals that cope with this. But I wouldn't have thought that you could recognize this in your first lesson. Well, this wasn't the first time that I saw something like this. I remember one time, when I was at the orphanage, I found a book that was totally dusty in the cellar. There were some of the signs that you used for this seal in. It was very interesting and it helped me to pass the time, so I read it. Did you understand it? Minato inquired inquisitively. I don't know. Some things didn't add up, but there were some pages missing. How old were you? 3. It was not that much before you came back, Daddy. How could you read? The nice man that talked with me sometimes taught me. Minato realized that Danzo was a root member. That clarified a few things. He was taken aback by how quickly Naruto picked up reading when he first started teaching him. Could you show me some of the signs that were in the book? Yes, Daddy. Naruto started drawing after getting his brush and regular ink. Minato astonished. His 6-year-old son used only his recollection from 3 years ago to draw flawless seal kanjis. Minato reasoned that he must have a photographic memory. When he was done, Minato saw a basic barrier, a very high-level storage seal, a chakra conversion seal that could convert a normal chakra to an elemental chakra, and a chakra storage seal. That is advanced learner's level, not beginner level. What on earth was kept in the cellar of the orphanage? Naruto, when you found the book, were there more books? I have to look into this. Naruto replied, yes, but I didn't get the opportunity to read them. Minato pondered. Did the caretakers know of the books? Asked the man. No, I never told anybody. I was afraid they would take them away from me. I was afraid that if I was sent to the cellar again and they took the books, it would be scary again. Minato pulled Naruto into a tender embrace as he shivered. That's over, Naruto. You will never again have to experience something like this. But I really want to see the book you learned from. What you drew there, he indicated the seals that Naruto had drawn, are some very advanced seals. If this book was found by the wrong people, it would be bad. Naruto leaned deeper into the embrace and said, okay, Daddy. He liked to be touched. When he was at the orphanage, he never received a pat on the back or an embrace of any kind. He had been shunned like the plague. When they would go back to the location he had never wanted to see again, he felt a little scared. All he remembered of the place was bad. However, it might not be so horrible if his father went with him. After locking the mansion, Minato went to the orphanage with Naruto. The caregivers had been changed, he had ensured. All he could hope was that it wouldn't trigger too many unpleasant memories for his son. He watched Naruto, and the closer they came to the orphanage, the more rigid he became. He placed his hand on Naruto's back to reassure him when they arrived at the gates. Don't worry, nobody will hurt you, I'm with you, Naruto. Naruto relaxed a little and nodded. They waited for someone to answer the door after Minato knocked. A man opened the door after a minute. Startled, he said, Hokage-sama, what brings you here? Well, I wanted to look for something Naruto found in the cellar when he lived here. Could you please lead us there? Asked he politely. Of course, that's not a problem, but we didn't clean the cellar for years. We don't use it as it is not suitable to store supplies. Minato clarified, that is irrelevant, I simply need to discover something. With a nod, the man guided them to the cellar's entrance. Naruto shuddered upon seeing the door. Minato grasped his palm. With his eyes, Naruto met his father's. He believed his father had nothing to fear because they appeared so strong. He aspired to be this powerful. Minato flipped on the lights and opened the door. They discovered a lot of cobwebs and dust. Minato scratched the back of the man's head and said, I understand what you meant when you said you didn't clean the cellar. Given how filthy the cellar was, he didn't want Naruto to enter. He probably found being locked in there frightening in part because of the cobwebs. His fingers were crossed. His words, Kagebunshin no Jutsu, caused 5 shadow clones to materialize. He instructed his clones to get some cleaning supplies and make us a path down the stairs. They left for tools after nodding. Naruto said, "Can I also help Daddy?" "That's nice of you, Naruto, but you can't do this jutsu yet. It's a bit too advanced for you to learn. I will teach it to you when you are older. You just started at the academy." Naruto sulked. Then a cunning smile appeared on his face. He would demonstrate his abilities to his father. Like he did for the seals, he focused his chakra and made the hand sign his father used. He tried to focus as much as possible. "Kagebunshin no Jutsu," he yelled, and a huge cloud materialized. "No, Naruto," Minato yelled anxiously. Uncontrolled use of this jutsu was dangerous. There were almost 50 Naruto clones when the smoke cleared. They were all beaming at him. A fist was thrown into the air. He was quite pleased with himself. "I did it, Daddy, did you see?" he asked. The shadow clones left Minato speechless. What a miracle this child was. His young son was capable of using that Jonin technique. He questioned, "How did you do this?" incredulously. He smiled at his father and said, "I just copied your moves, and I used as much chakra as I could." Minato sternly warned Naruto not to use this jutsu to create more than 20 clones at once. "I can't believe you were able to perform it, and I am glad that you didn't hurt yourself. This jutsu is a Jonin level technique, Naruto. You need very much chakra for this. The only reason why you don't have any problems right now is that you are a Jinchuriki and a part of Cuba's chakra has already been transformed into yours and has been added to your reserves. No other child would survive to use this move. You must promise me that you won't use this jutsu carelessly." Never before had Naruto taken his father so seriously. It must have been significant. "Okay, Daddy, I promise. But I was great, wasn't I?" "Yes, you were. I have to tell you some things about this jutsu. Kagebunshin no Jutsu is a jutsu that was developed to gather information in enemy territory. You can send a clone, probably transformed with a henge no jutsu, to spy and gather information. Then you dismiss your clone and learn everything he learned. The clone's memories are transferred back to you when it dispels. Next thing is, Kagebunshin are solid clones but are destroyed by one good hit. When Minato struck one of Naruto's clones, it poofed away in a cloud of smoke, demonstrating. Upon recalling the blow, Naruto uttered the word, "Ouch." When you create shadow clones, your chakra will be split evenly between you and your clones. That is the reason you get their memories back, and there are severe risks. You get all the experiences of your clones. That means if your clone is exhausted, this will be transferred to you as well. Also, never dispel too many clones at once or you will get a terrible headache. Believe me, I have experienced this. That is the reason I only use a small number to do my paperwork at the tower. If I used too many, the advantages of the jutsu would be negated by the disadvantages. Naruto gave a nod. He would use this jutsu with caution. However, he saw a plethora of applications for it. The following day, he would begin. Although he was only prohibited from using an excessive number of clones, he could learn far more quickly if he left 2 or 3 at home to study while he was at the academy. Minato interrupted him, saying, "If you think about it, one thing shadow clones can't transfer to you is physical training. You will have to build up your strength, flexibility and speed all by yourself. Well, it would be kind of boring if it was too easy, and I would get the feeling of cheating. I want to get my abilities by myself. I will just use Kagebunshin to learn theory, and if I need to get something down very fast, I don't know if there will be such a situation, but you don't know what will happen." That's a wise decision, Naruto. But if you want to learn something of our library at home, ask me before you start. You can read nearly everything we have there, but some things are just too dangerous just now. You need to start with the basics, and when you have them down you can begin to learn the more advanced things. "All right, Dad," Naruto replied cheerfully. He would put in a lot of study and training time. His goal was to reach his full potential. After returning with some brooms and bins, Minato's shadow clones began removing the cobwebs. The bins were removed along with the dust and cobwebs by Naruto's clones. They soon had access to the cellar below. Minato inquired, "Which way, Naruto?" Naruto held one of his father's hands and pointed with the other, saying, "I think it was this way, Daddy." When the ceiling lowered, they took a long walk. Minato was forced to duck. It makes sense why no one discovered the books. Naruto is the only child who would look here. A tiny object passed across his feet. A rat. He gave a headshake. Even though there were no adequate rooms to store supplies, the orphanage had to clean up this place. Rats living in a building's cellar where kids were raised was wrong. He had assumed that this issue had already been resolved. He'd send an exterminator, though. He had better not tell Naruto, though. When he witnessed someone mistreating animals, the boy became very distracted, most likely because he could relate to them. Naruto gestured to the hole in the wall and said, "It's over there, Daddy, behind this hole in the wall." It was just large enough for a kid to pass through. "Well, I'm too big to get through the hole. We have to widen the hole or you climb through it and get the books you told me about," he stated to Naruto. Naruto sobbed, "But that are so many. I can't carry them all." Minato inquired, "About how many books do we speak, Naruto?" "I don't know exactly, but I think it could be 100. Minato let out a gasp. "Here, who would keep 100 books?" He pulled out and switched on a flashlight. He peered through the hole and saw light in every available area. Seems to be an old storage room, but for what? This building hadn't been used for years before Konoha bought it to use it as an orphanage. "Well, I think I have no choice. Naruto, step a bit back. I have to use a strong jutsu to destroy the wall and I don't want you to be accidentally hit by debris." Naruto nodded and took a few steps back. He wanted to know what jutsu his father would employ. Minato allowed his chakra to spin quickly while focusing it in his right palm. He trusted his hand through the wall when a perfectly shaped ball was ready. He said, "Rasengan." The wall started to collapse as the ball of pure chakra struck it exactly. Naruto was in awe. His father didn't even need to use hand signs to demonstrate that incredible jutsu. There was a lot of dust in the air when the rumbling stopped, and Naruto coughed. With all the dust, it was hard for him to breathe. His eyes ached as well. He took another step back. He then felt wind on his face after a larger person placed something around him. He looked up to see his father shielding himself from the dust with his cape while his chakra spiraled in his palm, creating the wind to ease his breathing. Concerned, Minato questioned, "Better, Naruto?" Naruto merely gave a nod. He continued to cough. "We will wait some time until the dust has lessened, then we will explore the room with the books." Naruto was carried away from the dust cloud by Minato. Minato sent one of his shadow clones to fetch them a drink after they took a seat on the upper stairs. Naruto asked a lot of questions concerning Minato's jutsu while they waited for 15 minutes. "It's called Rasengan. It took me 3 years to develop it. When you have mastered the basic chakra control exercises like tree climbing and water walking, we can start your training with it. I think by the time you graduate you will have mastered it completely. Don't hurry through the things. We have 6 years until you graduate. You can take your time to learn. Also, I want you to play with your friends. The serious part of your life will start soon enough. I want you to enjoy your childhood as much as you can." Naruto grinned. Having a father who was so kind was wonderful. Minato assumed that the dust would be less high in the air, so he carried Naruto when they descended again. There were 5 shelves full of books when they climbed through the larger hole in the wall. Minato remarked, "That's a lot more than I anticipated." Naruto said, "What do we do now, Daddy?" "Well, I will seal the books into scrolls so I can examine them at home. Do you want to help?" Naruto exclaimed, "Yes, which storage seal do we use?" "The basic one. We will draw a seal for each book. It will take some time. Here, take this scroll and this brush and ink pot. Then you can start with the shelf at the bottom. I will start with the top shelf." With a nod, Naruto began sketching seals. He would seal a book after finishing one, and then draw the next seal. After 2 hours of labor, they were eventually done. Naruto was panting heavily. It was the longest time he had ever had to focus and shape his chakra. Furthermore, he wasn't accustomed to using chakra for extended periods of time. The books were spread across 5 scrolls. There were 30 books on each scroll. Naruto had underestimated the number of books. Additionally, Minato had failed to notice the backs of the books, despite the fact that they contained some extremely valuable books with uncommon knowledge. The knowledge of whoever had constructed this storage room was diverse. In the end, he recognized a door behind the shelves that the books had obscured when he allowed his flashlight to shine over the walls. What might be in this doorway? He pondered. He pushed the shelves out of the way and attempted to open the door. He was surprised to find it easier than he had anticipated. However, he slammed the door after taking a quick look inside the new room. The sight was terrible. He needed Naruto outside immediately. Additionally, every child needed to be relocated. The fact that Naruto had not seen anything pleased him. His young son should never have known this. "What's the matter, Daddy? Why did you slam the door shut?" asked the boy. "There is something on the other side our specialists in the Anbu will have to investigate. You have to go to bed, it's getting late and you don't want to be sleepy at the academy tomorrow, won't you?" In response, Naruto said, "Of course not, Daddy." He allowed himself to be carried from the cellar by Minato. Minato gave the man they had previously met a call. "Nobody is allowed to enter the cellar. An Anbu unit will come over in a few minutes. Tomorrow I will send you some ninjas to help to move the children temporarily. I don't know how long it will take to find everything that is hidden under this building, but it will probably take 2 to 3 weeks. Naruto understood his father's concern. He was an extremely good boy who bathed and went to bed without complaining because he knew he wanted to ensure his safety. Minato was appreciative that his son was so manageable tonight. He would have a long night. That much was certain. They had arrived 5 minutes after the Hokage had summoned them. Minato's office was occupied by 2 Anbu and Tsunade teams. After gathering his thoughts, Minato started speaking. I started Naruto's Fuinjutsu training today, and he showed me some advanced seals he once saw in a dusty book he found in this cellar. I went to the hidden storage room beneath the public orphanage with my son Naruto because he told me he had found a book on seals there when he was locked up there. You all know what time I speak. I asked him if there were any more books, and he replied that there were probably 100 in the room he had discovered. Naruto and I went there, and after destroying the wall separating the room from the cellar, he crawled through a hole and found the book on seals. I discovered a library of sorts, and Naruto and I began creating storage seals because there were so many books. Tsunade questioned doubtfully, but Minato, isn't Naruto too young to be able to draw proper seals? The basic storage seal was the first thing I showed Naruto during his first lesson today, and he was able to draw it flawlessly. He can use the brush like a skilled seal master, albeit slowly. I have never seen such a talent before, and he is even better than I was at his age. In addition, he appears to have a photographic memory. He created a chakra converter seal, which transforms a regular chakra into an element of your choosing, an advanced storage seal, a chakra storage seal, one of the more challenging ones, and a barrier seal. When he drew the seals he saw in the book for me because I asked if he had seen seals before and he said he had. The ANBUs gazed incredulously. How could a 6-year-old boy accomplish such a feat? Even if he was the most famous seal expert and the son of the Hokage. Amazing, Tsunade uttered. Yes, it is. By the way, be careful what jutsus you use in his presence. He might surprise you and copy them, Minato cautioned her. She questioned, what do you mean? She was shocked that Naruto could accomplish such a feat. I mean that my little son saw me perform Kage Bunshin no Jutsu to get some helping hands to clean the way into the cellar. He saw the hand sign and just tried the jutsu, and he succeeded. He produced 50 clones in his first try. I told him about the dangers of the jutsu afterwards and warned him not to overdo it. But he is determined to become the best shinobi there is. He will just try to learn the jutsus he sees others perform. And he isn't old enough to understand all the dangers, not only for him but also others. Imagine what he could do with a jutsu like Kaden Gokakyo. Tsunade comprehended. Even though he didn't want to cause harm, he could if he wasn't careful. I understand. I will be careful and also tell Shizune. This will be best. I will inform Kakashi and Danzo. They have to know as well as they also train with him. Everyone gave a nod. Naruto would become a very strong shinobi with all of Kyuubi's chakra at his disposal if he continued to grow in this manner. This brings us to the reason I called. By the way, nothing of my son's abilities will leave this village. If any of the other nations find out, they will hunt him. In the worst case scenario, Orochimaru finds out. After Naruto and I had finished sealing the books, I discovered a door behind the shelves. I pushed them aside and peered behind the door, and I saw a laboratory that I feared was one of Orochimaru's old hideouts. I saw glass containers with bodies inside and tubes along the walls. I slammed the door as quickly as I could, and Naruto saw nothing, but we need to look into this. Tenzo, please use your Mokuton abilities to build a new orphanage on the vacant lot next to the forest. The orphans will move tomorrow, and tonight, with the help of some ninjas I'll send there, the caregivers will pack everything. Only the ANBUs, Umam, and a few highly cleared medics are permitted to enter the cellar. I don't want any of this to escape. This is a S-class mission. Do you understand? According to the ANBUs, yes, Hokage-sama. According to Minato, good, dismissed. The ANBUs disappeared. Minato was worn out when he got home the following morning. After going through the sealed books, he discovered that some of them were journals of specific incidents. The situation was worse than he had anticipated. It was a former hiding place of Orochimaru's. The glass containers contained the corpses of adults, teens, and children. It had been clear that the snake had a morbid fascination with knowledge. He had used them in his experiments. According to the notes, he conducted the experiments to determine the subject's pain tolerance while they were largely conscious. Minato felt like throwing up. Naruto was the age of some of the deceased kids. Orochimaru needed to pass away quickly. No more of his life could be permitted. He didn't want to think about what might happen to his own son as a father if he ever encountered this devil. Minato was so absorbed in his thoughts that he failed to notice Naruto entering the kitchen. The child asked hesitantly, "Daddy?" Minato looked at his son as he turned his head. He had his fox plush Kitsu in his arms and was still in his pajamas. "I'll keep him safe. He will grow up contentedly and gain the strength to face the world's threats," Minato said with a feeble smile. He said, "Good morning, Naruto." "What's the matter, Daddy? Why are you so tired?" he responded. "I didn't sleep tonight. I had too much work that had to be done." "But you always tell me that sleeping at night is very important," said Naruto. "Yes, and that is right, but sometimes work comes first. Don't worry too much, Naruto. I am a ninja and I am trained to cope with a sleepless night. When I have time I will take a nap and after that it will be better." Naruto wasn't entirely certain that this was acceptable. When Naruto appeared in front of Minato, he sat him on his lap after saying, "Naruto, come here. Sometimes the job of a Hokage is strenuous. I have to make sure that everybody in Konoha is safe. When it means that I have to make sacrifices myself, then I will do it, and a sleepless night isn't too much for me. Some missions I had to fulfill were also at night. It's nothing new for me. When you get older you will also have missions at night. You will learn how to do it. For now I just need some strong coffee and a good breakfast, then I can go on. And you should take a shower. When you are finished I will have breakfast ready so you can eat and then go to the academy." "Okay, Daddy. I just don't want you to be hurt." Minato could see that Naruto was worried. His son was genuinely kind. Naruto nodded and leapt to the ground, saying, "Don't worry, I will be fine." After that, he went to the bathroom to shower. After 20 minutes, Minato and Naruto sat down to eat at the kitchen table. Minato inquired, "And what are your plans for today?" "I want to play with Hinata, Ino, Shikamaru and Choji after school. But tomorrow I will have a sparring match with Sasuke. He asked me if we could have a training fight to see where he stood with his abilities. He said he saw how strong I was during our sparring sessions yesterday at school and to get better it would be best to fight against a strong opponent." "Well, that's a good idea, but don't overdo it. No flashy jutsus, stay with taijutsu. That is the first thing you have to perfect to become a good ninja." "I know, Daddy. But I really want to fight Sasuke. He is strong himself and it is fun to fight against a good opponent." Minato merely grinned. Naruto and Sasuke appeared to form a cordial rivalry. He wouldn't get involved, though, as long as they stopped before they caused themselves too much harm. With 10 minutes remaining, Naruto arrived at the academy. He eagerly anticipated today's lessons. They would learn many useful lessons. Traps would be the first thing. He was eager to find out. He appeared to have a natural knack for working with seals, as many traps did. He enjoyed deceiving his opponents as well. When he was bored at the Hokage Tower and his father wasn't available to chat, he had a great time. He had played small tricks on the ninjas in the office. It was a long time before they realized it had been him. Shizune had reprimanded him and brought in some hospital reports, but he was certain that his father had made a concerted effort to maintain a serious expression and refrain from laughing when she told him. The office ninjas were really inflexible. They had required some action. "Just like Kushina and me," was a whisper he thought he heard his father say as Shizune escorted him out of his office. He would also learn more about traps today. Before they had to separate to go to their classes, he spoke with Sai and Ino. Naruto and Sai arrived at their seats and took a seat. Hinata and Mai arrived a short while later, and she sat down. Naruto said, "Good morning, Hinata-chan." He questioned, "Why were you this late today?" "Good morning, Naruto-kun, Sai-kun. I met Mai-chan at the gate and we talked a bit." "I see." When Renzo-sensei arrived, everyone fell silent. They quickly discovered that talking during class was not well received by their sensei. "Good morning, everybody. Today we have 4 different lessons. First, traps. This a very important skill and I expect everybody to pay close attention. This will be a part of the graduation exams for sure, and we also will do tests to see how far you have gotten with this ability. Second will be basic stealth training. Third, basic taijutsu. Fourth, chakra theory. Let's get started. Traps can be everything and everywhere. Never let your guard down. You need constant vigilance. It's common to use the basic ninja tools like kunai, shuriken and wire to set up a trap. I will draw an example for you. As was customary around Konoha, he sketched a wooded area. You can use your environment to your advantage. The leaves can hide wire. You can construct simple traps like you set up some kunais that are fired in a certain direction when you cut the wire. Or you can connect your traps like one kunai will hit the wire for the next trap and so on. Naruto documented everything. He quickly saw an issue. "Renzo-sensei, how can we set up connected traps if we have to take enemies into account? If they would intercept a kunai that was meant to trigger the next trap, the chain would be stopped. A very good question, Naruto. The answer is set your traps that your opponent doesn't have time to intercept your kunai that is meant to trigger the next trap. You will learn this during our lessons. Never allow yourself to be unaware. Don't be predictable. A ninja whose moves are predictable is as good as dead. He can be strong, but if his opponent can read his moves before he uses them, they would be useless, or worse, his opponent will turn them against him or use them to his own advantage. The kids exchanged glances with one another. It goes without saying that a ninja had a lot to consider. Let me give you an example. Let's say you had to fight against a ninja from Kirigakure. Which kind of jutsu would you expect based on your studies from our last history lesson? They reflected for a moment. Hinata held up a hand. Yes, Hinata. Well, Kirigakure is the hidden village in Mizu no Kuni. So I would expect the ninja to be able to use some Suiden jutsus. Right. A lot of ninjas from Kiri have very strong water jutsus. What would be the best defense? Choji held up his hand. Renzo-sensei gave him a nod. Well, best would be an earth jutsu. Earth is stronger than water. Principally you are right, Choji, but what way could be even better to use the jutsu of the ninja against him? To the surprise of everyone except their sensei, Shikamaru said, depends on the environment. If you could avoid to be hit yourself, Raiden could be a good choice, or Fuden. Despite their extreme laziness, the Naris were excellent strategists. You are right, Shikamaru. Raiden would charge electricity through the water and hit the opponent if used intelligent. And Fuden can turn the direction of the Suiden jutsu and turn it against its user. But everything depends on the level the opponents are at. If a Suiden user is stronger than a Doden user and the jutsu is at a higher level, the Suiden could just overpower the Doden even if the element normally is weaker. Therefore you have to always keep in your mind to involve the strength of your opponents in your strategy. A good strategist can be able to defeat a stronger opponent due to his wits. Troublesome, was all Shikamaru said as he turned to face him and then went back to rest his head on his table. You will be divided into 5 groups, and each group will be required to devise a trap pattern that would be most likely to capture your opponent. The objective is to turn your opponent to the interrogation department because he may have important information the village needs, so if we take this into consideration for our lesson on traps, you will need to predict how your traps would hit your opponent and develop counters to ensure your success. I have prepared a mock opponent description for you. The groups will be in alphabetical order as they were the last time, so the first 4 will build the first group, the second 4 the next, and so on. You have 30 minutes to plan your trap, and then we'll head to the training grounds, where you'll have another 30 minutes to set everything up. To meet their teammates, the students relocated. Soon after, Renzo-sensei noticed that Naruto and Shikamaru, who were in the same group, were having a heated argument. He questioned whether it would be excessive to combine a natural prankster and a strategy whiz into one group. Everyone went outside and began setting up their traps as soon as the allotted time had passed. To give his students the benefit of surprise, Renzo remained out of sight. What kinds of traps his young charges would devise piqued his curiosity. He was a route veteran, so of course he was more than capable of avoiding any major injuries. He went to the location where the first team had set up their traps after waiting until the allotted time had passed. Okay, Team 1, tell your classmates, what was your mission objective? Renzo said. Well, Renzo-sensei, Kiriko Akahara started. Our mission was to build a trap in a wooded area to keep an intruder away from an item we had to protect. The item could not be moved because it was very valuable and heavy. Renzo said, good, now I will try to get past your traps, and went into their space. He had no trouble avoiding the first trip wires, but he had to dodge some kunais after coming across a hidden stone that had concealed the next trap. He had no trouble with it. He was careful not to set off another trap. He arrived at the object the group had attempted to safeguard 5 minutes later after 2 more traps had been set off. That was not bad, Team 1. You had some creative ideas to build your traps. Some advice. Try to make your traps multiple layered. Simple tripwires won't get you anywhere. If your enemy sees them, he will simply avoid them and your traps won't be triggered. Always use your environment to your advantage, like using an area where a lot of leaves have fallen to the ground and hide your traps with them without raising suspicion. The pupils gave a nod. After testing each team in turn, Renzo offered advice on how to make their traps better so they could accomplish their mission objectives. He waited on purpose so that Naruto and Shikamaru could test Team 3. He wanted to be the last team to test since their goal had been to capture him. He said to them, all right, Team 3, tell your mission parameters. Troublesome, Shikamaru said, and Mai struck him over the head. She chastised him, saying, stop complaining, lazy ass. Our mission was to set up traps in a wooded area to capture a potential spy to get him to the interrogation unit. With a nod, Renzo moved into their space. At first, he noticed nothing, which was a little odd. Usually, new academy students started constructing their traps close to where they were working. Now he was very careful. This would be intriguing. At last, he discovered a cleverly concealed trap. There was a layer of leaves covering a thin wire. He had no idea what kind of trap this would set off, but he had no intention of doing so. He stepped forward, avoiding the trap. He would have likely been concerned if he had noticed the smiles on Shikamaru's and Naruto's faces. On his escape route from the first trap, he stumbled upon the trap at the last second. He would have been apprehended if he had been too close to the tree. Naruto and Shikamaru continued to smile. Their smiles widened even more. I would never have thought that you would be able to predict Sensei's reactions so good, Shikamaru. Mai was amazed. Well, I observed him in class and found some patterns I took into account when we worked the traps out. It would be too troublesome to build a trap and don't get our scenario solved. We only have one chance to get Sensei in there, and so our only choice was a triple trap. I'm curious how long it will take him to recognize it. Renzo set off the third trap while avoiding the second one, which was precisely where he needed to place his foot to avoid setting off the second trap. The wire it had been holding flew away when a small stone was moved. On high alert, Renzo prepared to block whatever they had used to set this trap. He never thought that Naruto would learn more than a few tricks from his father and appear to be proficient at them. He was occasionally hit by wet paper that was mingled with shuriken and kunai. In order to avoid being tied to a tree, Renzo was able to cut the almost invisible wires that were attached to some of them at the last second. However, by dodging, he set off the trap he had previously avoided, and now he was being hit by paintballs. To avoid getting hit, he had to use every skill he possessed. How on earth did they obtain the paint? He asked himself. They were only permitted to use what they had on hand and the tools that weren't on the list. Does this imply that someone carried the paint? Naruto said, impressed. Renzo-sensei is really good at dodging. The only one who was able to last this long before and not be totally covered in paint was Kakashi.ni.san. But while dodging the paint, he will overlook the real trap that will be triggered in 10 seconds, said Shikamaru. The other kids gazed at the group in wonder. The subsequent trap was set off precisely 10 seconds after Shikamaru's statement. Renzo was just in midair, avoiding paintballs and kunai, when a lot of steel wires sprang from 4 different directions, tying him to the next tree. He was taken aback. Recently, a group of 6-year-olds had succeeded in trapping him. Unfortunately, he was unable to avoid the final paintballs, which were all bright pink, and they hit him squarely. Shikamaru, Mai, and Eki Murakawa all gave Naruto a high five. They took pride in their accomplishment. After the lesson ended, Renzo returned to the teacher's lounge to find a replacement so he could get cleaned up. It was less embarrassing for him to enter than it would have been otherwise because the majority of the teachers were former Root members. The next time he challenged the son of the village's most feared prankster and greatest tactical genius to set traps, he vowed to train harder so he could avoid it. Maybe it would be better if the groups were mixed up the next time.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.